Hundreds of thousands of people have flocked to Detroit. Millions of people will watch tonight. It's the NFL Draft, the annual season of hope, where every single fan feels like this weekend their team gets one step closer to dominance. And Yahoo Sports is going to have you covered for every ounce of it, every pick tonight, every pick tomorrow, and we're going to do it different. This panel is going to have some fun, and we're going to give you information you can't get anywhere else. Charles Robinson joining us, our insider extraordinaire, you know that. Matt Harmon, fantasy expert like you would not believe. Damien Harris, just step off a field, and now you get to sit next to me for hours.
Can stay away for long.
Be back on the field.
It took minutes. Adam Gorney joining us from Rivals. We're going to give you some landscape around what all of these pick means for fantasy, where they came from, some of their history, and what all of the big breaking news means. Plus, we're going to do something different here. Emojis. That's right. If you're an iPhone user, what you can do is go out and get the Yahoo Sports app. As soon as you get the app, you can just go out and find the NFL Draft. Once the first pick is in, you will see emojis there that give you the opportunity to react. Not only do you get to react, you'll see how other fans are reacting. You'll see how fans of particular teams are reacting, and you'll see how we're reacting. Supposedly, while we're doing this show, we're also going to turn around and be able to give everybody emojis. And we even have emojis on the couch with us. So that means like when Harmon says something I don't like. Cringe. Damien's going to be fired the whole time because he's much bigger than I am.
And it's my crochet shirt.
Hold
Hold on. Let's all put up a fire emoji for the crochet shirt.
For
the crochet shirt. Come on.
No. Like, I'm putting up the...
Overruled.
Like, let's just be honest.
Feels like we're
you
like
can wear a crochet shirt.
I mean,
You wear the crochet shirt, everybody loves it. I wear the crochet shirt. Mockery from this whole side of the couch.
100%.
You don't need the crochet shirt for that.
He can carry it. Yeah.
That's a fair point. I'll give you the fire. Okay, let's go full Thanksgiving style. You know, everybody says, what are they thankful for? And Harmon, I know you're particular.
The worst.
Who hates Thanksgiving?
Oh, no. I love Thanksgiving, but it's like, okay, we don't need to go through the whole exercise beforehand. Let's just get to the food.
Yeah, let's go.
You know what? In honor of that, you get to go first. Tell everybody what you're most thankful for. What are you most excited for tonight?
Well, I'm definitely most thankful to be right here next to my buddy, Jason Fitz. That's what I'm most thankful for. It's fine. Don't get excited about yourself. No, what I'm most excited for in this year's draft is obviously the wide receiver class. I mean, this is an incredible group. We got 3 guys at the top that are, I think, tier 1 prospects ready to be made starters in the NFL. I mean, especially Odunze, man. He's been the most enjoyable player for me to watch in this process. I can't wait to see if somebody trades up for him, too, like one of these teams with an established veteran quarterback. I just think he's a ready-made guy to be a high-impact player from day one. Like, let's just get this guy to a good quarterback.
I love that. Gorney, you've been following these guys since they were, like, basically in the womb. What are you most excited for?
Not that close. Pretty close, but not that close. I'm thankful that I've known these guys for like 8 years, you know, and tonight's their night. It's going to be a really special night for them. I'm also excited to see what they do at quarterback. Is there going to be 6 in the first round? We know 4, probably 6 go. It's going to be exciting. I'm also excited to see what the Raiders do because I'm almost certain you're going to be crushed.
Look, we haven't even started. Can we just give you guys a secret? There's like a bottle of liquor on set. I tried to see if it was open just in case. They've glued it shut. They know what's coming. Damien, what are you most excited for?
Dude, I'm just excited for these kids to live out their dreams, first and foremost. I mean, this is a huge moment that will change not only their lives, but their families, you know, all the people that love them and care about them and support them. So I'm super excited to see these kids' names get called and see the light in their eyes and see them transition into something great. You know, the NFL is a brotherhood, and stepping into that, you know, that's special. So super excited about that. I'm excited to see what the Patriots do. I'm excited to see how Gerard Mayo tries to right this ship. You know, New England's got a real rich history, and, you know, they're trying to get back to prominence. So I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited to see who takes the first chance on a running back. You know, this is the first year where I feel like we haven't been talking about running backs as much. And I feel like, you know, once the first team banks on one, I feel like it'll be a domino effect after that.
All right, C-Rob, what are you most excited about in this?
Well, Damien talks about the Patriots, right? And I really think that's where the draft begins because I think we've gotten to the point where Caleb Williams at 1 with the Bears. We feel pretty solid about that. 2, the Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels out of LSU. But 3, I think it's leaning toward Drake Maye, but I don't think anybody at this point right now as we sit here is 100% in that assessment. So to me, I'm here for the chaos. I'm here to see what happens at 3, 4. I think that's when things start to go off the rails. Let's be honest, this is like reality TV meets the best job fair you ever watch on TV, right? I mean, that's basically what's going on right now. And we're all going to be here for the trades. Who's moving up, who's moving down, who's going to be patient? What are the Vikings going to do? We've been talking about that for a month, ever since they acquired that second first-round pick from Houston. So to me, I think let's just get it going. Let's start moving around, see what the ripple effects that happen as teams start to trade. It's the chaos that I think everybody's here for.
You know, as I think about what's exciting for me, this is my 7th year getting to sit in a chair hosting an NFL draft show. And most of the time you have a good sense of the first 10 or 15 and who the best prospects are. As we sat down and met yesterday and really started as a team diving through all of our notes, what really stood out to me is it's such a flavor of ice cream draft in a beautiful way. Like, so much the conversation is usually about a bust or you overdrafted this guy or all these things. There are so many guys that with the right coach, the right place, the right system could be a home run. It feels like there's a real opportunity in this draft for everybody to win, and the football fanatic in me loves that. Also, the Yahoo fanatic in me loves this. See this little button right here? I'm gonna make sure it's on. This little button right here. Every time you don't got to worry about when the picks are in. You'll know because this button, I just hit it, and it. Oh, you sons of biscuits! Y'all took the batteries. Oh, somebody took a battery out. Look,
You got the cringe.
no, look at that. You know what he? You know what?
Off to a good start. Off to a good start. That was so worth it.
5 minutes ago, he's like, nothing's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
The one or two things is going to happen to this button by the end of the night. He's either going to throw it across the room or he's going to throw me across the room. Either way, I feel like it's a massive.
I got that. I can do that.
I mean, you do lift heavy things, so that's
what they say.
Now, one thing we're going to do on this show that's a little different is the Rivals Rewind. And in order to do the Rivals Rewind, we like to go back and show you some of the history of some of the players. Fear not, that includes the history of one Damien, who's right here. We have a little Rivals Rewind action.
My wife is watching this, bro. My wife is watching.
We're just going to see kind of, Gorney, you want to walk us through a little bit of what we thought of Damien Harris?
I knew this day was going to come.
Wow.
So, sitting next to him, we rated him a 5-star. We didn't really think he was, but no, I'm just kidding.
Did you know I'd have on a crochet shirt one day?
Great running back, perfect size, ran through a wall for anybody, awesome at Alabama. 3rd-round pick, though, that does not correlate to a 5-star. So we'll take that one and then move forward.
Yeah.
Were you 5-star? What did it mean? Because we're going to talk a lot about these, and you see some of the highlights coming out here. Like, what is it? What did it mean for you to be a 5-star at that point?
It meant a lot, honestly, especially coming from like a small town, Richmond, Kentucky, where there hadn't been a lot of, big time talent come out, for football, really for anything. So being able to, go to like the Rivals camps, going to San Antonio, going to the opening, being able to showcase my talent and to be able to earn a 5-star rating, that was special to me just because, I wanted to prove that just because I was a small town kid and, I wasn't playing the best competition. I wasn't playing kids out of Texas, out of Florida, out of Georgia, but, I was still playing at the best of my ability. And so to be able to go places and show off my talent and people recognize that, that meant a lot for me.
Did you see that wheel route?
That
was it.
I mean, that was
job to sell
everybody
and then to go.
Everybody swore that I was not I couldn't catch out of the backfield.
I was going to say, what the
good
hell was
routes,
that?
good hands, caught it over the shoulder, caught it with my hands. It was just a common misconception.
Can we just also acknowledge the funniest thing about working with Damien already? Like, every time somebody hands him a football, tosses a football, and he catches it, somebody says, "Still got it." Like,
everybody acts like I would have just went right through my hands, like my hands just fell off once I retired or something. It's not.
Oh, you're getting stripped after the show at some point by one of us.
Well,
I mean, who's talking about the footballer?
I had some of the best ball security. Now, granted, there were a couple examples where I know fans will get on me and be like, "Oh, well, in this game or in this game," but it was 2 times. It was only 2 times. Other than that, dude, I was sturdy throughout high school, college.
I like the hallway when someone's saying you have to go.
Yeah,
there's always still somebody there.
Yeah.
So as you tune in, right now the draft is essentially just getting underway. They're bringing out some celebrities. The celebrities are getting all of the pomp and circumstance going. Big note for everybody, Roger Goodell recently had back surgery, as yet unknown if he's going to be able to do the pro hug after every pick. So we'll see how Raj is faring through this thing. But we're going to get you through every single pick. If you're just tuning in, make sure you go download the Yahoo Sports app because you can have some emoji fun for us. If you're looking at it and saying, "Where is it?" Calm down. The first pick has to get in before you can give any emojis. We will give emojis. We'll all emoji together through this whole thing. But in the meantime, there was some big news that impacts tonight's draft. C-Rob, the Eagles have a contract extension now. They spend a little bit of money, and there is impact to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, with the Monroe St. Brown contract that recently came in with Detroit, you're starting to get some wide receivers, elite level wide receivers, who feel like they're falling behind a little bit. And, obviously, A.J. Brown just got his extension when he was sent to the Philadelphia Eagles a couple of years ago. But clearly there needed to be something rectified in that situation to get him back amongst the elite wide receivers in the league. The reason why this matters now, he's up to $32 million APY. You have teams sitting there. The Minnesota Vikings have to do an extension with Justin Jefferson. You have the Cincinnati Bengals right now have to do an extension with T. Higgins. And then you have Brandon Ayuk, who's looking for more money from the San Francisco 49ers. All these teams now are grappling with
Dallas.
And, CeeDee Lamb, another player. Yes, obviously a massive extension coming from Dallas. All of these teams are now sitting there grappling with where not only the number 1 wide receiver money is going, but the number 2 wide receiver money is going to get dragged right along, particularly for players like CeeDee Lamb. When you're looked at as like, we have a 1 and kind of a 1B-ish, 1C-ish player, they're going to be expected to place their salary pretty close to where that 1 is. That, to me, when you're on the clock right now, these teams that have to consider, are we dealing this guy? Financially, you have to know where this is going. And by the way, Jefferson, Lamb, those contracts are going to push this even higher. By the time this is all over, we're heading into camp next year, we're probably looking top of the stack, a $35 million APY per year wide receiver.
But y'all, isn't that the very reason that I think the draft matters more than ever? And it doesn't matter what position we're talking about. Because it used to be like, hey, you want to hit on the draft and it's fine. But now, these guys get paid epic money. Well, whether we're talking about wide receivers or we saw the defensive tackle market this year get $100 contracts going out. If you draft, no matter who you draft, you got to start hitting because the contract value on free agency is it's pricing out of the market, Dame. It just feels like at this point there's more pressure to hit on the draft than ever.
Yeah, that's everybody's goal as a player. You want to get to free agency because you're going to have the option to re-sign with your team or it's going to be pick the highest bidder. So I think it's very important for teams to pick the right fit for their team. We talk about, it's all about situation, it's about coaching, it's about scheme, it's about X, it's about Y, it's about Z. These teams, these GMs, they need to be weary of that because, like we said, players are thinking about we got to get to free agency, and as a team, you have to get the most out of these players. The
Chicago Bears are officially on the clock at this point. I think most of us know what we expect there. We're going to be breaking everything down. Obviously, I do want to get to this a little bit though. Before we get to Caleb and what we all expect though, I know you study these wide receivers, so I want you to chime in real quick on this class versus some of these free agents. Fit is something that Dame just mattered, and I think fit is an important conversation to have throughout the course of the night.
Yeah, with every receiver pick, we're definitely going to be talking about how does this guy fit in with not just the offensive ecosystem overall, but also with the wide receivers that are currently on the roster, right? I was saying yesterday that I would imagine the teams that are Xavier-worthy teams are probably not teams that are A.D. Mitchell teams, right? Even though those guys played on the same college team, the role that you're going to have those guys play in the NFL is going to be very different, right? So, that's going to matter a lot when we see these receivers come off the board. But I am very interested about now that we're seeing this top of the receiver market and what it is that going to push teams to maybe take a receiver earlier in the draft because they want to get on that, we talk about the rookie quarterback timeline and in that contract. Now it's going to be wide receivers, man. Whatever, Marvin Harrison, maybe he gets picked 4th overall, whatever. He is going to be such a value at that position if he's the guy that he's built to be, right? He's going to be a mega value at that position from day one up until eventually when he can force whatever team's hand it is and say, hey, it's time for me to get on the, damn, Charles, by then we might be looking at $40 million, $45 million for receivers.
We're going to be talking a lot about receivers tonight, but I wrote this down just to prove my point. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, first rounders. Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, second rounders. Cooper Kupp, third. Amon-Ra, fourth. Puka, Tyreek Hill, Diggs, fifth. So there'll be a lot of receiver talk tonight, but through this draft, super important, especially late.
That's a really great point. And part of the reason we're going to break this down is because the draft gets really interesting once we're not as quarterback obsessed. That being said, first pick right now, the Bears are on the clock. Look, pomp and circumstance is what it is. I think we can all be honest here. The league wants as much time to run off here for ratings as possible. But let's have an honest Caleb Williams conversation. Gorney, I want to start with you here because you've been around Caleb for a long time, his family, all of these conversations. So what are your impressions of Caleb going into here versus where he was even when you first started to cover it?
Sure. So there's so much to unpack here, and it's an interesting conversation that we're going to have all night. We're going to have it throughout his rookie season. 5-star quarterback. He was the number 2 quarterback in his class behind Quinn Ewers. I wish he was number 1. Incredibly talented. That is not the question. No one's questioning his ability on the football field. And so then you sort of get into the conversation of, is he likable? Will he be in a locker room and be liked? All of those kinds of things. we talk about nails being painted and what kind of shoes is he going to wear. And somewhere along the line you get lost in that because Dennis Rodman had crazy hair, you know. He cried to his mom when USC lost. Boxers cry after fights. People cry all the time. So
cried to my mom. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with that?
So the nitpicking is very difficult and very challenging. But there is a serious question here. Can he go to Chicago and deliver the ball? Absolutely. Now he has people around him that he can do that with. Can he win the locker room? I think they're going to have to win, and he's going to have to deliver.
I mean, talk about that locker room for a minute. And by the way, again, Rivals Rewind there with a little bit of the highlight footage from him all the way back in the day. It's interesting to see. But, Dame, you've been in these locker rooms. Like,
right.
What's the locker room response to a guy that's responding on social media and has the pink phone?
A Justin Fields locker room, by the way, last year.
Yeah, see, that's what makes it super tough. I mean, I think the fact that, like you mentioned, it was a Justin Fields locker room. And so now, you know, the team dealt him away, and, you know, they're potentially looking to bring in a guy that has a lot of question marks just about his character. Like, it's not about his style of play. It's not about, like you said, can he deliver the ball? It's not about can he help you win games. We all know that. But it's just, what about this? What about him responding to people on social media? What about, you know, even the nail conversation, the phone case? I think that's a magnifying glass on something that's not important, truly. That's diving deeper into something that doesn't matter. But what I think that leads to is a bigger question of, how much does he love football? Sure. Because all the people that I've been around, granted Tom Brady for a year, but I've been around the Josh Allens, I've been around Jalen Hurts, I've been around Tua Tagovailoa. They love football more than they love the drama. They love football being the best quarterbacks they could be more than what is the outside perception. I think that we've seen that with, you know, the Jalen Hurts and the Tua situation. How they both handled that with, you know, responsibility, maturity. They didn't, you know, feed into the media frenzy. You know, they just went out there and played football.
Winning cures everything, right?
It does.
And so here's 100%. A good example. We saw it last season. Jalen Hurts leads Philly to the Super Bowl, right? He's it. He's the guy. He gets the extension. All these things happen. Last year, it changes a little bit. All of a sudden, there's some struggles, and then can he throw in the middle of the field? Like, is that now a problem? Wait, is the scheme right for him? Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who doesn't have all that extra stuff outside where people can start to, you know, come at him and the social media things. And so what I would ask you, like, as a former player, is it concerning to you that Caleb, if he wins, he goes to Chicago, it's going to be smooth sailing. They'll embrace him. It'll be great. I think the problem becomes, is there going to be an element of struggle at some point? And the fact that he does pay attention to social media. Like, you brought up the phone. He held up the phone at a basketball game. It had a pink case. There was somebody made a comment about it, and then he engaged. And I literally, the day that happened, I had an executive who said to me, why? Mm-hmm. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be the first pick in the draft, man.
Right.
Like, just let it go. You don't have to get drawn into that conversation.
Right.
So to me, if he goes to Chicago and there's an element of struggle, particularly if Fields does anything at all in Pittsburgh, is he going to be able to handle it if that market, and I'm not talking about the reporters, I'm talking about he lives in the social media bubble if those people start coming after.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors there, and I think that it starts with the team because as a leader on that team, you know, when I look at my quarterback, if we're going to have any sort of controversy, if we're going to have turmoil, because, you know, everybody obviously wants to go and win the Super Bowl, but if you've got the number one pick, you're probably far from, you know, Super Bowl contention. You know? So as a leader on that team, if we face struggles, if we face turmoil, if Caleb comes in and, you know, he plays well, but we're just not winning games, like, I'm afraid of, like, how he may handle that because, you know, Chicago's a popular market. There's going to be a lot of buzz around it. There clearly already is. You know, everybody's going to be invested in it, and how much is he going to be invested in that versus how much is he going to be invested in fixing the problem and just winning football games?
The pick is in, by the way. We're waiting for the announcement so I can hit this dang button because I cannot wait to make him mad all night. But the pick is in. I will say, in fairness, first overall pick, but not a typical first overall pick team.
True.
They have this pick because Carolina's an abject disaster. They've gone in the dumps, and there's no hope if you're a Panthers fan. I mean, let's just be honest. When's the last time?
They're already going to have a tough night. Like, they're not going to be disgusted all the time. Are they even watching? Actually,
call a spade a spade.
I mean,
tell it how it is. Tell it how it is.
Let's be real. When's the last? Oh, wait. The pick is in, and I'm just going to wait till the screen says it. Oh, I got to stretch this. Dude, would you like it closer to you? Or do you want the speaker side out, Harmon, or in, or like? I'm never going to get tired of that. The first pick in the NFL draft this year, Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears. No surprise here. Now let me pose a huge question to the room. has C.J. Stroud changed the way we will perceive rookie quarterback success? Because we just watched massive, massive success. And the presumption is, with the amount of money spent and the acquisitions made, the Bears are supposed to be better. So knowing the Bears are supposed to be better, knowing we thought the Texans were going to be trash, and C.J. went in and had the year he had, are there unrealistic expectations out of the gate?
I don't know if there are unrealistic expectations, but I will say this, that they've set him up to succeed in Chicago, right? Like you mentioned, this is not a earned number one pick. The Carolina Panthers earned this pick, but it goes to Chicago. And even beyond that, like, that was a defense that played pretty well to end the season last year. They traded for Montez Sweat. They immediately got better on defense because of that. Matt Eberflus seemed to finally kind of get that unit to click. And then on offense this past year, they add DeAndre Swift. They trade for Keenan Allen. I mean, Keenan Allen is a quarterback-friendly receiver. He is going to be open. He's going to be a reliable target for Caleb Williams. And they already had DJ Moore, who's a verified number one X receiver. So I think those two guys work off each other incredibly well. So whatever the expectations are, I think he is set up to meet those expectations, and now it's just on him to deliver and prove he can play in structure. I'll definitely say that whatever the structure of Chicago's offense is going to be, a lot better than what USC was last year. That was a mess.
You say that's a mess, but like we sit here and talk about Lincoln Riley, Gorney, like he's a golden god, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Lincoln Riley's got to end up in the NFL as a head coach. And then we're questioning the offense. I mean, it is fair to ask some questions about that, right?
Sure. And, you know, all the NFL teams go to Lincoln Riley to learn offense and kind of get an idea of how he runs things. And so, yes, absolutely. I will say that I reached out to some people today to kind of get their take on Caleb. And I basically couched it like this. Give me your opinion of him. You know him better than I do. I don't want to be talking out of, you know, something about him that I'm wrong.
Exactly what? Talking out of what? I mean,
and no one got back to me about it, which is interesting. Maybe they just want him to have his night and it's not all about Caleb. But that's an interesting thing you pose about C.J. Stroud, because the first pick was Bryce Young, and he was set up to fail. I mean, he was slaughtered.
I got to stand up for my guy. He was. He went into a real.
He was slaughtered last year, and now the talk is, oh, should we move on from him? You know, and so they're set with Caleb. Unless there's changes at coach and GM, they're set with Caleb Williams. To dump Justin Fields for this, they're in for the long haul.
That is worth noting, though. I mean, Matt Eberflus did a pretty good job to close last season, but early on that year, he was kind of on the ropes. And that has been, I think, the curse of the Chicago Bears quarterback, is that they have never been able to have the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback all on the same timeline. So that's the real risk to me, is that, like, halfway through this year, if things aren't going so well, like, is Eberflus on the hot seat, then he's learning a new offense in year two. That's where it starts to spiral.
If you go back, and this always sticks in my mind, I remember when Jameis was taken number one overall by Tampa, right? And Dirk Cutter was the OC there. And there started to be a little bit of struggles, and they thought maybe they were going to lose Dirk to another team. So they fired Lovey to keep the OC, because they thought this is the synergy. You know, we need to keep this guy here. They literally made the move to keep Jameis paired with someone, and ultimately it did not end up working. That's the one thing about the Bears as a destination that I think you worry about a little bit. And I think with all three of the top three picks, when you have defensive head coaches, and I don't have anything against defensive head coaches. Look at DeMeco Ryans in Houston. I live in Houston. There's going to be a conversation that happens when Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator there, gets a head coaching job. If they repeat their success offensively from 2023 and 2024, Bobby Slowick is not going to be there in 2025. And you start to look at Brian Daboll and the Buffalo Bills. And so going to Chicago, even if Eberflus continues to win football games, he's going to be successful. Caleb is going to be successful, predicated on the system, the coordinator, someone who's calling the plays. That's going to matter, and I worry if there's some kind of uneven results.
I'm going to give everybody I think this is pretty surprising information. Again, if you're in the Yahoo Sports app and you're using an iPhone, you can go out and assign an emoji to every pick. You can now do that with Caleb. We've done that. For example, I can see that I gave it a fire emoji. C-Rob gave it a fire emoji.
That's a low percentage.
Jory gave it a fire emoji. Bears fans have given it 82% fire emoji, which I think is actually kind of low considering. But the overall audience right now, 60% fire, 18% and 22% cringe.
And I will give you, I think there's a reason for that. I think the Bears fans, you want to embrace, hey, you're excited. This is Christmas, new quarterback, all these things. We go back to the social media stuff. We go back to what people talk about with Caleb. I think there is a perception about him beyond just what it is in Chicago, where people look at Caleb and they're like, see, he's doing this or he's doing that, or it sounds like he's about him. There was a clip of it was like yesterday or the day before of the prospects arriving to Detroit, and they were all in these white jumpsuits. Caleb was last, and he was in his own kind of street clothes. Yeah. And I instantly saw someone say, "See, there's Caleb again. He's got to be doing his own thing. Can't just be part of the group. He's got to be doing his own." And I thought, this is real. It's solidified in the mind of fans outside of maybe that sphere and maybe a little bit inside it, where they're already looking at him with such a critical eye. And I think that's reflected in something like this.
That's forgotten the second he, sheds some pressure, turns
absolutely.
and fires the ball,
100%.
and
Yes,
everybody in Soldier Field loves him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I want to get everybody updated. The pick is in for Washington. So we see the graphic now. The pick is in. Charles Robinson, Matt Harmon, Damien Harris, Adam Gorney. I'm Jason Fitz, Yahoo Sports. We're going to have you covered for every pick tonight. But this is a question because we don't know what's happening at 2. Like a month ago, it felt like it was J.J., and then maybe it was Jayden. And over the last couple of days, it feels like everybody has sort of flocked to it's Jayden, it's Jayden, it's Jayden. C-Rob, do we still feel like it's Jayden?
Yeah, I think it's Jayden.
Okay. It's Jayden.
I don't
Keep it quick.
Well, now we'll just sit here and twiddle our thumbs.
I just put my emojis down.
I think one thing about that, though, that we should point out is for everybody talking about trades at the 3rd pick and the 4th pick, which quarterbacks are available changes that entire conversation. There are certain teams that I believe were very anxious to move up to try and acquire Jayden. If Washington's not listening, well, that changes the overall trade value that you might see for New England at 3, right? So it's all about, again, what flavor of ice cream everybody likes.
If it's not Jayden, it is the craziest. I really, truly, because I just don't know who all of a sudden at this point. If it's Drake May, there's a lot of smoke screens that have worked successfully at this point. I think it's got to be Jayden.
It'll be a Blake Bortles type of situation when no one really saw that one coming.
Yeah.
I hate this, though, to point this out, but 2nd overall picks at quarterback don't always work out particularly well. It's just, Zach Wilson.
How about last year?
CJ
Stroud, we just
I know, but we got one.
Stroud.
We got one. I'm just saying, wait.
We almost got through without using it on the 2nd one.
I know.
All right.
How do we feel about Jayden Daniels, quarterback, LSU,
Yeah,
2nd overall pick? I think
that's good.
Yeah,
I like it.
So this is an interesting moment here because we'll go to Gorney first on this. You made a really good point as we were even getting ready for this, and it was about Jayden's size in high school. Because I want to remind everybody, Jayden Daniels is 24 years old. He's older than some of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So he is let's say, he's skinny. I've been saying I'm not supposed to call him a wee little man. He's a wee little man for a quarterback, Gorney.
I said slight.
Slight, sure.
You can't call the guy a wee little man. He's a professional athlete, and you are you. Okay.
Listen, I'll say this: he played ball in the SEC.
Yeah.
He played against Bama. He played against the top talent in college football. So size, all of that don't matter to me. He showed up whenever he needed to. He played in the toughest conference. He showed toughness. He showed the ability to play smart. And like we talked about, he makes plays with his legs, but he doesn't take a lot of hits. He doesn't get plastered. He doesn't get tossed all over the ground where you're concerned about your quarterback. He plays smart. He plays tough. To me, that's part of playing tough, is knowing how and when to play. And
there's no, let me be clear. I coveted Jayden Daniels. I wanted him to be the quarterback for my beloved Raiders. So I agree with everything you're saying. It's just when you see him stand next to Cam, he looks slight of frame.
Tripling down on it. Double down, triple down, quadruple down.
Okay, but to be fair, let's be fair about Cam. This guy's 250, 240 to 250, 6'6". The dude's built like a linebacker. When we saw him in the league, we're like, that's a linebacker playing quarterback.
That's like me standing next to Matt Harmon. It's just unfair.
Yeah.
So,
Very fair.
He was a high 4-star quarterback in high school, super talented kid, ball pops. He's going to be a dual threat guy, much more of a dual threat than Sam Howell ever wished to be. And so I think he's going to, be a likable guy in the locker room. He's going to have a lot of fast receivers around him. That's kind of his game. Credit to him for transferring. It takes a lot of courage to do something like that. But at Arizona State, his career was going nowhere. His last year there, 10 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He goes to LSU, and I said this yesterday, it was almost like Burrow-esque in terms of restarting his career at LSU. He had Malik Nabers and Brian Thomas. That helps for sure. But that's a big step up in competition as well. He's a player, and I think this is a great pick.
What's interesting with him, too, is that, we talk about the situation that he's going into. And I think from a receiver standpoint, he's got 2 guys that he can work really well with. I think Terry McLaurin can kind of map to a lot of those vertical X receiver routes that Jayden Daniels had some success with Brian Thomas, obviously, on the outside. And I think Jahan Dotson is a much better player than his stats would indicate. I think he's a guy that can win on those slot fades that like Malik Nabers won on. Now, again, not in the same type of freaky way after the catch, but I think these are two guys that he can build a rapport with. But I'm interested in seeing if we see maybe Washington trade back into the first round here.
Just so we know, I don't want to interrupt here. Drake Maye is on the phone right now, okay? And we're at the 3rd pick, right? So probably a pretty good indication that the number 3 pick is going to be Drake Maye with the New England Patriots. Okay, so I'm just putting that out there now. Maye's on the phone.
Getting ready.
Yeah. Okay. So get ready for Drake Maye to get taken by the New England Patriots. Real quick, just to step into what you said. The template here for Jayden Daniels, I think, does exist on the NFL level, and it's Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow transfers to LSU, right? Has elite wide receivers just like Jayden Daniels did. Jayden Daniels is going to have very likely two first-round wide receivers in this draft. Joe Burrow goes to Cincinnati. He achieves his success with what? Elite wide receivers put around him, right? And Burrow's had some injuries on the NFL level. There's a little bit of concern now about the frame, things like that. But the template for his success, particularly when they went to that Super Bowl, is in place. I think you can follow that, right? If you're the Washington Commanders, you just have to make sure you have the pieces around him.
Ask in the room, do we like Kingsbury with him? I mean,
we haven't said Cliff Kingsbury's name yet,
Cliff Kingsbury is the new offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders.
Let's just say this: Cliff Kingsbury couldn't win at Texas Tech with Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
And I'm harsh for calling somebody slight. No, but you're right. I mean,
we said you were harsh for calling him a wee little man, not slight. Let's
both
be
harsh.
super clear.
I say both harsh. Both were harsh. That was out of nowhere. I knew you were coming with the wee little man. That was out of nowhere.
Here's the thing with Cliff. Like in Arizona, I will give him credit for this though. They did design a very good running game. I often thought that run game was super efficient, even if they didn't have like the most well-known backs in the world, right? I mean, James Conner, pretty decent player by the end, but dude, he was having like Chase Edmonds. People thought he was going to be a thing in fantasy because they were running that well in Arizona. And a lot of that was done based on having Kyler Murray at quarterback. Can they do similar things with Jayden Daniels?
By the way, the pick is in, so it looks like
Drake. He's not the podium yet, but Drake Maye's a Patriot.
There we go.
All right, Drake Maye's the pick. By the way, the emoji reaction so far, again, showing the change in the general population's opinion on quarterbacks. 59% of fans agreed with Caleb Williams being fire to the first overall pick. 64% of fans love fire for Jayden Daniels. I'm telling you, people just fell in love. 78% of Commanders fans. Charles McDonald, our Charles McDonald, gave it the
think.
And then only a C+ in the Yahoo commentary. You and I gave it fire. So I feel like we're on the same page. But again, the pick is in, and I'm just going to hit it.
You already have it. Yeah, it's Maye.
Because even though Raj hasn't said it, we know it. We're sure it's Drake Maye.
Should I wait to do this?
No.
You got it up there.
We got. Go ahead, show the world. I'm going fire.
I'm doing curious.
Yeah, I'm doing.
It's mixed reviews, though. Mixed reviews here.
All right. So why are we mixed reviews because of the player or the system, Dame?
I gotta go both, honestly. I'm not sold on the player. And I haven't seen anything of Gerard Mayo yet, how he wants to set up his offense, to have faith in, the system helping the player. Because that's what we've talked a lot about, right? What flavor do you want? Can our system help somebody that isn't necessarily, this guy might not be the most talented guy, but he's the best guy for our system. I don't know. I don't see enough in Drake Maye, and I don't know enough about, the New England Patriots offense to make a connection there.
Look at the surrounding talent, right? You're a little nervous about the surrounding
talent.
And
I love those are my guys. I love them. I love them all. I love them all. And I think that, but I'm going to stop you before you even get started because I think that team doesn't get enough credit because they have a lot of potential at a lot of different positions.
Okay.
Running back, receiver. I think their offensive line is strong. And I've played with these guys, so like I said, I have seen the potential of some of these guys. I think that obviously you need a great quarterback to bring that out of all of everybody on the team, but like I said, I don't know.
Okay, so let me push back a little bit, though. C-Rob.
We'll ignore the Patriots bias.
There is this thing that we give certain organizations, benefit of the doubt, right?
Right.
The Chiefs get benefit of the doubt because they just always make it work, right? Like there's certain organizations that get it. For a generation, the Patriots, rightfully so, got that benefit of the doubt. They earned it. Why does this regime right now deserve any of that? Like I think it's an incomplete to me because I don't know. How do you know what to expect from, like, I know you know these guys, but, like, we have no idea if Jerod Mayo's actually going to make the transition to a good head coach.
Yeah, you don't know that. But what I do know is Jerod Mayo is a great coach. He was a great player, and he's a great leader. You know, some of the guys, like I mentioned to you guys yesterday, you know, Dante Hightower was the guy that I looked at, and he was like on my Mount Rushmore of football. You know, not running backs, not position-based, but of football in general. And once I, you know, got to the league and I played for the Patriots and, you know, I got to learn more about Hightower and his career and his story, you know, I learned that he looked at Jerod Mayo the same way. So that automatically made a connection to me that Jerod Mayo is a winner. He's a man of integrity. He plays the game the right way. And so I think that, if anything, you know, that's what I'm banking my hat on.
And we talked about this before. When you look at Houston, D'Amico Ryans changed the culture of that building really fast when he got in there. And that was not a team we thought much about, right? When they acquired the 3rd overall pick to go up and get Will Anderson, the talk then was, you just gave up a top 3 pick next year because you still suck as an organization. No, things were already changing. People internally had potential, right, that was not unlocked at that point.
That's what I'm saying.
And one thing, too, and I would ask Matt to chime in on this, you and I had the conversation about Josh Allen and what Josh Allen's receivers look like when he went to Buffalo. Tell people who Josh Allen's receivers were when he got to Buffalo, and it got better.
People forget that Josh Allen's rookie year, the top 3 most targeted players were Zay Jones, Kelvin Benjamin, and LaShawn McCoy.
Heavy Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, not pre-ACL rookie year.
Right?
The one that had beef with
Well, he didn't have, Cam had beef with him. He didn't have beef with Cam. He didn't want no beef with Cam.
By the way, 31% catch rate that year for Kelvin Benjamin. So not the best numbers, but that's the thing here. This is a long-term project, I think, with the New England Patriots and Drake Maye. But I will say this, like, there's a lot of potential with this player. I really like Drake Maye. I think he has all the tools that you're looking for in today's NFL quarterback, which is a guy that can threaten every blade of grass, can push it all over the field, and has the tools to do it out of structure, can throw off rhythm. Now, he obviously needs to be more consistent, and if you look at the 22 tape, it's pretty good because he had a number 1 receiver in Josh Downs that could run every route, that could separate against man press coverage, could win in contested situations. He didn't have that last year with Tez Walker and the boys. So I think if they can, look, I mean, they're not done yet, right? They can take a guy on day 2 and get going.
Yeah, the pick is in. Just FYI, Arizona's made the pick.
So
all this conversation, I thought quarterbacks would go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to be the first to admit that. I said that quarterbacks would go 1, 2, 3, 4. I thought Arizona might try and trade down. I didn't think they would take a quarterback. But yeah, like
I took yours.
I don't know how I feel about it. This is really because we all know I can't do a damn thing about it. What am I going to do? Look at the NFL
play? The button, not the emoji.
It's on the other side. It was on the other side, yo. He was slacking.
One last thing on Maye is he's going to New England coming from something that he didn't have a lot of weapons in 2023. So anything is an upgrade for him. He's not going there expecting day 1 to be a Super Bowl champion. So I like that. He is not a finished product, though, and that's actually a good thing. You know, he missed his senior year of high school, and then he didn't play his first year at North Carolina. So in the last 4 years, he's only had 2 years of football. Some might like that. Some might dislike that. He had less than 1,000 throws at North Carolina, though, in 2 years. So that's not a lot of book on him. It'll be interesting to see how it works out.
The pick is in for Arizona. Again, I thought Arizona would trade out. We would see quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're about to see some chaos because all reports have been that everybody's open for business. But apparently the Cardinals did not get an offer that they liked because it was going to take a Godfather offer, according to most, to move out of the top 4, is what we've heard. And
for Marvin Harrison, we can do it.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is the pick out of Ohio State. I say this all the time, but, like, to me, the most impressive stat on Marvin Harrison Jr. is 0. That's how many drops he was credited with in the last 2 years combined at Ohio State. Like, every single thing that he was ever asked to do.
But let's discuss the other 0. 0 work in the draft process leading up to the selection. I've been dying to ask Damien about this. If you're a veteran in that locker room, right, and you were in the Patriots system, you were there with guys. It was about structure. It was about do your job, right? This guy is tailor-made for the league. Everybody's known it. I remember his sophomore year, getting texts from personnel guys who were there for Ohio State's pro day, and they're like, we're all looking at the guy we can't draft. He's running around, and he's the best guy in the field right now. Okay, we get all that. But he straight up said, nope, I'm not doing anything. I'm going all the way through the process. I'm not going to do a single thing, and you're going to take me anyway because I am the goods. The system just doesn't fit me. It's not that I don't fit the system. You're in a locker room now.
What a way to put it.
Do you have a problem with that kind of a situation? Like, does it at least give you some pause about who does this guy think he is? Because most other players who are in that locker room did everything, even though they didn't necessarily want to.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to just look at it with the trajectory of, the landscape of college football leading into the professional sport. These kids are getting more and more sure of their talent, we'll say, and more sure of their ability. And like they are, like you said, I'm the catch. You know what I mean? Like you said, I fit the system just doesn't fit me, if something goes wrong. So, you have to adjust with that time a little bit. And I think that he's a dude. You know what I mean? He's a dude. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
I can sit here and.
My thing is this: the guys are in that locker room at receiver are Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Chris Moore.
Well, listen, I'm not worried about
Tyler is going to roll that red carpet
but
out.
Adam, I'm not worried about the guys he has to compete with, right? Like, I'm worried about the leaders, like that, the people that are, and those aren't necessarily all the time, like, the Patriots. I mean, there's special teams.
Yeah, it's not always your quarterback. It doesn't have to be Kyler Murray. It can be a starting middle linebacker.
Anybody.
It can be your best special teamer. Yeah. That is something that, would kind of
Matthew Slater's a leader, right?
Yeah,
like, that's a good example.
Because we all know, regardless, there's a way to play the game and there's a way to go about your business and stuff like that. But with this guy, he's a dude.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean? And he doesn't give off the same vibe as maybe a Caleb Williams, as like I'm too good to do this. It's just like, listen, I know what I am. I know where I stand. And as a team, you know where I stand. You guys have wanted to draft me since I was a sophomore. So this combine isn't going to – he had 0 drops. I mean, do you want to see him do a gauntlet, or you want to see him go through 2 seasons with no drops?
Yeah, and in fairness, for anyone that doesn't know, he didn't do a pro day. He didn't run at the combine. He literally just said no to everything. He's like, no, go look at my tape. But one thing in 72 hours that we have spent in L.A. just hanging out, you say something a lot. You say respect the game all the time because, like, I feel it. Like, sitting next to you on the couch, I feel how you feel about football. Mm-hmm. There's not some part of you that's like, man, I respected the game enough to do these things that were asked of me, and you just don't?
Of course, there's a part of me that, looks at it because – that's not me. That we're not talking about me right now, right? So I can obviously sit here and look at, I would have done things differently. I would have done things this way, or, maybe I would have thought of this. But at the end of the day, this is Marvin Harrison's decision. You know what I mean? He is the stud that he is. And, teams have wanted him for a long time. And now they knew what they were getting. And I don't think – you guys can tell me if you're wrong or if I'm wrong, but I haven't heard any teams complain about the fact that he didn't do a pro day. I haven't heard any teams complain about the fact
he said that all the teams he talked to that were kind of in range to take him were just like, yeah, we don't care. Because
more of this going on, right? Other than quarterbacks not throwing?
Generally, there's gripes. It's like some grumbles about it. But so one GM – actually, there were 2 GMs I thought put it in a perfect kind of frame. One said, the system, the way it's set up now, it's going to have to change, the way it works with some of these guys. And for him, it's not a good fit, and because of what the talent is. He can do this, and we have to be okay with that. That's just how it is. And then another GM said to me, it's an element of overexposure. He's like, the longer we sit and look at him, say he goes out and he runs a 4.5. And then Malik Nabers runs in the 4.3s. Mm-hmm. And then Malik Nabers does this, and Malik Nabers does that. And say Malik Nabers has a better 3-cone. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, we've looked at Marvin for so long. What about this other guy? And there was even a little bit of that, even without Marvin doing anything. Nabers had a great pro day at LSU. It's like, oh my God, look at this guy. Mm-hmm. So that exposure after a while, you've stared at a guy who's so good for so long, where you're like, well, wait a minute. Did we forget about this other guy? Well, no, you're just starting to wander because you're looking at the same high-level play over and over and over.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me and I was trying to make this evaluation, I couldn't care less what he does from a workout perspective, right? Because it's all on film. Like, and he's been this guy for multiple years. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I agree. Cool, Malik Nabers runs a faster 40. Like, look at what this guy does on the field. And the reality of it is that opposing defenses know this too. I mean, I track this stuff, right? Like how often these guys are double covered, how often they're beaten man zone press coverage. This guy was doubled at the highest rate I've ever seen of a prospect, and by a lot, by the way.
1/18 is the covers.
Yeah, exactly.
1/18.
And double the amount of Malik Nabers, double the amount of Odunze. Like, he's been that guy. Everybody knows he's that guy. And we talk about respect for the game. I respect the fact that he said, like, yeah, I'm not training to run a 40 because, like, that's a different training than, like, training to be an NFL receiver. I'm not 100%. Training to do that. I'm not spending a second of my time on that. I'm spending time on improving as a wideout.
And succeeded with C.J. Stroud. succeed with Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
Right?
And also, defenses had to choose to bite the bullet on Harrison because Egbuka was on the other side. There wasn't other slouches that they could just leave off.
Yeah.
They had to double him because he was that good.
Yeah.
By the way, the public finally loves a pick. If you go to the Yahoo Sports app, iPhone users, you can give it emoji breakdown. Again, Caleb Williams, at this point, only 61% of general fans love it. 63% of general fans love Jayden.
What's up, Joel? 5 to
Right,
the
so we got
Chargers.
that.
What happened to all the
real
JC
quick,
Latham stuff?
Marvin Harrison Jr., 88%.
Why are you talking about old stuff now?
I'm saying, man, you had me hooked.
Listen, the second of the pick is made, all the mock draft stuff is old stuff. All right, this is new stuff.
So this is interesting.
Sound like a fantasy analyst, buddy. You're right,
We
you're
haven't
right up
seen
my
the
alley.
pick, we haven't seen the pick officially come through, but it's Joe Alt.
Yeah, I think
They let the entire clock, like we were sitting there watching the clock run down. Makes me think that they were running the phones as best they could. But the funny thing is for all the conversation about trades, like we've spent months speculating. Today, there was wild trade rumors every 2 minutes from somebody about something. We end up with nobody trading out, and top 3 quarterbacks go that we all expected to be the top 3 quarterbacks, followed by the best player in this draft, according to most people, followed by, according to most fat guys I've talked to, the best offensive line. Like so far, this has been sort of a chalky draft.
Yeah.
Chargers
Where's the shakeup
fans.
gonna be?
Oh, that's a good
Yeah,
question.
where's the shakeout?
I mean, it's not
This
a
is,
6.
I mean, this so far. I mean, it's a little bit of a shakeup because the Chargers also could have used a wide receiver, right?
Yeah,
You know, so they do, and I'll tell you what, this also tells us that Jim Harbaugh's not a liar when he said to everybody, "Offensive line's important to me. Like here, I can lay this out for you. Look at all these different situations, and oh, by the way, go back and look at my situation in San Francisco. How many first-round picks did I have in my offensive line?" When we went to the Super Bowl, I think it was 3, right? Like he had 3 highly drafted players on that offensive line. Obviously, we knew what he did at Michigan, right? That was the heart and the spine of that team. So he's already shaping it in a way that is a little more conservative, but it's true to him.
Like, shouldn't we also factor in wins above replacement, though, when it comes to pick value now versus wide receiver? Like, this is a really deep wide receiver class. So if they've looked at it and said, man, we can get the special kind of ice cream we like in the second round, they still have a high pick in the second round. The drop-off from Joe Alt to whoever they're getting in offensive line.
Guess what position right now is dragging behind an APY value? The tackles are starting to fall behind. So he could be sitting here 5 years from now laughing, going, "Ha! I don't have to pay Malik Nabers $40 million a year to extend him. I've got Joe Alt, and I only got to pay him $30 million." Like he's turned into the franchise tackle. So even from that standpoint, it almost seems like a smart pick.
C-Rob, by the way, Miss Cleo, because he told us it's Joe Alt, but we don't even we're still watching Raj come to the podium. Miss Cleo's a psychic reference from the 80s.
They should get him a bench out there so he could just sit all night.
Yeah, he's walking.
The
like
walking
Joe
out
Biden
is
right
not
now.
working.
Yeah, he looks.
Oh, man. All right. On that note, quickly. I can't hit this enough right now.
I can't promise that's going to be my last joke of the night.
Joe Alt is your pick out of Notre Dame, and this is the one thing I
like it.
breaking down.
Yeah, I think it's a good
I
pick.
like it.
Yeah.
Breaking down
Justin
fat
Herbert at
guys
all
is
costs.
hard. Like breaking down, like I know that. What I try to do is talk to as many offensive linemen, former offensive linemen, as possible. I keep saying this, Gorney. They have talked about Joe Alt the way that like somebody talks about an all-you-can-eat cinnamon bun. Like it's
Nabers is on the phone.
Malik Nabers
This
is on
dude
the
is
phone.
on it. Yeah.
He's like 8
He
minutes
is
ahead of
on
us.
it.
Malik Nabers is on the phone.
I thought you were going to be the main interrupter, but it's him.
No. If he's got
I'm
it,
just trying to tell you guys the picks. Like,
Hey.
they're coming up, all right?
If he's got it, then
number
we're gonna
6
go
the
with it.
Giants, be prepared for Malik Nabers, okay?
Joe Alt, you've seen him for a long time. What makes him special?
Big learning lesson here. He was a 3-star for us, which is really sad. I'm going to give the cringe to myself on that one. But he was a 6'7", 270-pound high school kid. So you didn't know if his body was going to fill out, his frame was going to fill out. He played right tackle in high school, so you question his athleticism. Why was he on the right side and not the left? He didn't really just manhandle people in high school. He played in the Minneapolis suburbs. It was COVID. See, these are all the excuses I'm making here. But along the line, he grew into a man. He was 6'9", 321 at the combine. No nonsense guy. At Notre Dame, they're going to run the ball. In many ways, Michigan kind of played it like Notre Dame. Run the ball, power, overpower guys. That's what he developed. 51 pounds of good weight at Notre Dame is pretty impressive.
Chargers fans hate
Oh,
the pick.
yeah.
Right now, in the Yahoo Sports app on the emoji counter, Chargers fans 38%.
Matt, I want to ask
like
you,
it.
fantasy impact. Does
38.
this drop Herbert and the run game moves up way higher?
Well, let's see what they do the rest of this draft, because I get it. And the Chargers guys over there, Matt Moneysmith and Chris Hayrie, that do the podcast for the team site, they literally brought me on the show to do a whole receiver episode because their fans were so pissed about the proposition of them doing what just happened, taking a tackle.
Yeah.
So they're like, we got to get the receiver guy on to just do a whole receiver episode, and that just went up in flames with the 5th overall pick here. But the reality is, there are going to be guys on day 2 that could be instant impact players, and history would show us could be potential Pro Bowlers, elite players. We just talked about this at the top of the show. A.J. Brown gets a monster extension. He was a 2nd-round pick. Just because they don't take the guy here at 5 doesn't mean they can't take a Ricky Pearsall in round 2, and then maybe come back with Javon Baker later. There are ways to build a receiver core beyond just taking, maybe one of these rare talents.
And there are some guys.
If you've spent months hearing about Malik, and then all of a sudden, I understand why fans feel that way, because it's just hard to break down fat guys. Right? I love a draft of fat guys.
It's definitely sexier.
I was going to say, the Chargers took a receiver in the 1st round last year, and it did not
It
work
did
out.
not go well.
That was not
that was not a great pick at the time.
But as a Chargers fan, do you want to see them redo the pick now that there's much more desirable receivers in this draft, or do you want to be like,
There are
that
some
pick
guys,
didn't work out, let's go elsewhere?
There are some decision makers that won't take speed till day 2 anyway. No matter
you can
what's
find
out
good
there.
speed all throughout the draft.
C-Rob's already
It's
told
official.
us.
Malik Nabers is a pick.
Malik, no, okay.
Okay, how many minutes? How many minutes did we beat it by?
We have several. If you're
By the way, it wasn't
Like
on
a
social
long
media.
time.
Just so people
Like-
know, it wasn't on social media. We
Long
beat
time.
it
Yeah, just
5 minutes ago. So.
stick with us. We're getting you the picks 15 minutes in advance. This is amazing. But also, we spent. I swear to God, I will walk.
That was
away.
quick. That was
That will be about enough.
Yahoo! Okay.
That's worse.
Where's the
Oh, the pick is in, and it's Malik Nabers. So I guess all the talk about the Giants wanting to move up for a quarterback was malarkey, right? Because if they wanted to move up for J.J., as everybody's speculating,
there, right.
they just passed on J.J. So this just shows you how much
Which is another conversation. JJ is starting to get, if you're the Vikings, right? You're come to us. If you want JJ, you don't have to necessarily package to move up. Let's see where this goes.
Yeah, but Malik Nabers obviously has been a huge riser, huge conversation. What do you see there?
I would say this, and look, one of these top-level wide receivers is going to land with the Giants, which, if we're looking at landing spots in the top 10, maybe not the most desirable because there's some uncertainty at the quarterback position, right? I think it's pretty well known that even those guys, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, might have a little bit of buyer's remorse with the contract they gave Daniel Jones, especially because he's coming off a major injury now, too. But I would say this, if one of these receivers is going to have to go here, I think Malik Nabers is uniquely talented to maybe not thrive, but survive in this landing spot, because he's the type of player that he's going to run those quick, short routes. That's what he did great at LSU, and then just make plays on his own. I think Daniel Jones, for all of his flaws, and maybe even Drew Lock at some point this season, you can, if you're Brian Daboll, who you played under, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, hey, buddy, look at me. You see that guy? Get the ball to him.
Get him the ball.
Hey, get him too quick. Get him to
ball.
him quick.
We're gonna
get it.
let him
And
run.
then if he's not there, just run.
We're gonna find out real quick though. That little spark up a week and a half ago, where it was maybe Malik Nabers can't be in a big city though.
The biggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is now the interesting thing about him too, though. Some comps, not exactly the same physically, but there were some OBJ comps with him. Some of the things that he does with the ball, the explosive ability, the way he competes. We'll see how it works out. Some people are going to look at this and they're going to go, I like Nabers less because of where he's walking in with a quarterback.
Yeah, sure.
And some people are going to look at it glass half full and go, maybe this finally helps Daniel Jones. And if he can't get over it with a number 6 wide receiver who's seen as a 1A, right? Marv was the one, there's no question about it, but the talk was always maybe Malik Nabers is the 1B to Marv's 1A. So.
So far, again, recapping what we have, the 3 quarterbacks went off the board that were widely considered to be the top 3 quarterbacks. The best wide receiver, the best offensive lineman, now the next best wide receiver according to most. For all of this overdrafting talk, best player available seems to be the approach for all of these. Like, this feels like a very smart draft. Not everybody agrees in the emojis. Again, I will point out only 54% of Chargers fans like the Joe Alt pick. I like the Malik Nabers pick. 72% of fans overall like that. But I'm looking, and I've put fire next to all of them. I think all of these picks so far have been good.
I think Giants fans are just aching for a playmaker, and that's what they got. He was a kid that missed his senior year of high school because of transfer rules. I suspect that he knew that he was going to miss his senior year, which is a little curious. But when he played his junior year, 1,500 receiving yards, more than 20 touchdowns, more than 21 yards per catch.
Seventh overall pick by the Tennessee Titans is going to be J.C. Latham.
If you're just tuning in, Charles Robinson is getting everything like 18 minutes in advance. I don't know, I don't know what pick line he's got in, but so far everything's been remarkable. Charles Robinson, obviously our insider, Matt Harmon, doing a bunch of great work on fantasy, giving you that aspect too. Damien Harris just walked off the field and now sits on this couch and hangs out with us, giving us the players' insight. Obviously, Adam Gorney from Rivals giving us a little bit of the history. I'm Jason Fitz. You can go out and get the Yahoo Sports app. You can react with emojis. Let us know how you feel about the picks. We're letting you know how we feel about them as well. It's a great way to stay up and be involved in this. We're going to be here for every pick tonight. We're going to be here for every pick tomorrow. So get comfy, sit back, put your comfy pants on, eat some popcorn, get going. We're ready to have a good time.
Did we get any popcorn?
Well, I mean, we can work.
Only if it's whole grain, though. You know.
I keep my popcorn in my trailer. That's
Look
like,
what you did. You're not slick. You're not slick.
all right, so obviously there is some mention. You just mentioned J.C. Latham is the next pick for the Titans.
Yeah, right tackle. I mean, really, especially if you want to run the football. He's a baller.
He's a baller.
He's going to beat the hell. I mean, he's 340 pounds. I mean, pass blocking will get there. I mean, I think it's something that's still got it. But that's his ceiling, you can raise, right, when he comes out. But as a run blocker, he is there. You can put him in at right tackle right now. Boom, go. He's a day one starter. They loved him. And by the way, I was told in the process, and I think I can reveal this now, had Alt and Latham both been on the board for the Titans, they would have taken Latham.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's what. And there is some moment here where the Titans' new regime, new head coach, we should say it that way. But Will Levis, they're banking on Will, right? They've decided Will is better than anything they had available to him right now. So if you want to see what your young quarterback can do, they've invested at the wide receiver position. They go out and get a big boy up front to help the offensive line. Makes sense.
Yeah, especially because it helps the run game too. The Titans just signed Tony Pollard, and if I'm him, I'm happy as hell right now because that's a guy that you want to run behind. If I'm Will Levis, that's a guy like we said. The pass blocking will come, but it will come. And once he puts it together, run game, pass game, he already has the nastiness. Like when you look at linemen, you want somebody that's nasty. You know what I mean? You don't want somebody that's, I don't like seeing my linemen help other guys up.
And I don't think you can teach that.
Yeah,
right?
and that's not something that you're born with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I would never like to see my lineman, run a guy over but then help him up. Like, nah, come help me up. You know what I mean? But that's the thing J.C. Latham's gonna do. He's gonna drive block you for 30 yards, put you in the ground, then he's gonna find his back, pick him up, get ready for the next play.
I have no idea how to project this offense from a fantasy standpoint at all, but maybe I'm a sicko, but I find this group to be really fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Tony Pollard that joins Tajay Spears in the backfield, that guy has some legit juice. They signed Calvin Ridley.
Wild Bill.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is still there, so that gives him a really good 1-2 punch as an X receiver and then a flanker, which is really how you want to use Calvin Ridley after he kind of was forced in that X receiver position last year. And Will Levis, I said a few months ago, I was like, I don't really think I have a strong take on Will Levis. And then on the fantasy podcast, I said to our buddy Andy Barron's maybe he could be this generation's Jameis Winston. He's like, that's a strong take, pal. If he's going to be out there just throwing bombs like old Jameis Winston there, if this offensive line comes together and the coaching staff kind of I don't know what the offense is going to look like, but it could be exciting.
One quick point before Gorney chimes in. I know you want to. Remember, Brian Callahan is the new head coach of the Titans. He brought his dad, Bill, over to be the offensive line coach. So, he's definitely, if they're picking an offensive lineman, he's listening to his dad, and his dad's saying, that's the guy I want. And his dad's been in this league a long time. So it makes sense from that.
Yeah, and I believe that they weren't blowing smoke. They did want Latham. And it's easy to see why. A 5-star kid, what I love most about him is what we've already talked about. He will look at you and put you on your back, and no one is going to stop him. He's massive. He wants to do it. What I also love about him is he's from Wisconsin originally, didn't have the competition level up there, so he transferred to IMG for a national schedule. He wanted to get after it, wanted to get better, wanted to improve. I love this pick. I think, maybe I can't fault Alt, but I love Latham too.
Yeah, it's just, this is an entirely new version of the Titans. And I'm going to echo this a lot throughout the course of the draft. I think when you have new regimes, I said earlier, why are we giving the Patriots any benefit of the doubt? And I think you defended that really smartly. I just think that what we have to acknowledge is that we're learning identity from some of these teams. And one thing I've learned just talking to you over the last couple of days, different franchises really embrace different identities, right? And that has to be so clear in who you pick. So to me, this is Brian Callahan coming in saying, hey, we understand our identity. I wasn't sure if this is the way they were going to go because, frankly, it didn't always feel like, even though the Bengals repeatedly tried to address the offensive line, I'm not sure they did a great job of it. So it just became, hey, let's get Burrow, get rid of the ball, and just throw the ball as many places. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the Titans' approach. This, to me, tells me that there's going to be a different identity with this Titans team.
And by the way, I think that's critical to point out because you hire the guy that's the offensive coordinator with the Bengals. You think, oh, he's going to bring that system. But what I just said about Will Levis, that doesn't sound like Joe Burrow, right? So you want to give this guy a steady, consistent run game and then take shots off play action. So drafting Latham here, I think, leans into that identity. And that's good coaching, by the way, to not just say, oh, we did it with this guy before, I'm going to bring my system down here. No, you want to fit the system to the players that are on the roster, and I think so far, so good for Tennessee.
Alarmingly, we've broken down the entire Titans pick before they've even shown it on TV because we got C-Rob just working. C-Rob's over here. Yeah. He's like, I don't know if C-Rob's...
I think we should all give C-Rob a fire.
Yeah, I was going to say, he deserves the button.
Yeah.
Oh, and the button comes back out now. God, this is why I can't have nice things. So thanks. At least let me have it through the Raiders pick. I mean, let me have my joy. Can I have it back when the Raiders
You can earn it if you do a few more good things.
You can't tell me he's not walking like President Joe Biden right now on his way out there. You can't tell me that Goodell's not walking.
Hey, ain't nobody used to have a bad back, okay?
And the New York Knicks pick.
The Titans selection is in. To give you guys a recap.
I wonder who it's going to be.
I mean, who could imagine? But this doesn't vary what I said a minute ago. So far for a draft, J.C. Latham out of Alabama, the tackle, as we've already broken down, is the pick for the Titans. So far, this has been a very chalk draft for the expectation that it would be wild and chaotic. And C-Rob, you're right. The closer we get to 11, 11, 12, 13 are three straight teams that supposedly have had their eyes on quarterbacks that a week ago.
Okay, well, look, let's look. 8, right? Kirk Cousins. He's not going there. 9, what are we looking at? The Bears. They just took their quarterback, right? Yeah. 10, the Jets. Not going to the Jets. Yeah, Vikings are good. If that's your guy.
Unless somebody else
just
jumps
look
up.
at this man walking out here.
Coming
that's a big dude.
That is a dude right there, man.
Yeah. J.C. Latham. It's a large.
I love how we're just all admiring. Walking through a hallway full of Vikings. That's a man's man.
Some guys some guys just have that look, right? He's got that look. There's no doubt about it. You're right, though. The Vikings can likely stay put unless somebody moves ahead of them.
Right.
This just becomes interesting because everybody thought the Giants wanted a quarterback. Well, they literally just passed on him. Everybody thought that there might be play for 4, 5, and 6. It's almost like the media outside looking in.
Oh, there was the hug.
J.C. Latham just picked up
look
Roger
at him. He's hurt.
Yeah, talk about playing through pain, baby.
Oh, yeah, he's hurt.
Look at Roger. He's like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
He's going to be dead-legging it when he comes back out for the next.
Oh, my gosh.
The big update you need.
Come out on a rascal?
Oh, man.
Roger had back surgery a few weeks ago, so there was a question about whether or not
Let's watch this again. Let's watch this again in slow-mo.
Latham.
Look, he knew it was coming, too. You saw him start to grimace like, oh, no.
Oh, I just picked him. Picked him up, carried him. Dropped him down.
But that's what he'll do to your edge rusher. That's what he'll do to your linebacker. That's what he'll do to anybody. So
I think the edge rushers in the NFL are going to be a little bit bigger than old Roger, but I hear your point.
By the way, did we all give it fires? Did we all give J.C. Latham fire, or did we give it?
I haven't done it yet.
That's fire for sure. That's fire.
I'm just going to make sure I put it in the app because right now I feel like I'm giving everybody fires.
51% agree. Did you see this?
51.
Look, this is what I.
Titans fans don't like it at all.
I tweeted it out earlier today. You're sitting there, you're expecting the shiny thing, and then they take an offensive lineman. And you're like, oh, man.
What the hell are the Titans fans expecting if not an offensive lineman? I mean, maybe they just had gotten used to seeing Joe Alt at that pick.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes you got to eat the broccoli, you know. You don't like it, but it's there.
Grow up and eat your vegetables.
But I think this is an Alt thing. Like, you and I both do phoners every week in Nashville on 102.5 The Game. And, like, every week that I went on with the host, every week he's like, Joe Alt this, Joe Alt that. And I kept saying, I don't think Joe Alt's going to be there. I thought he was going to go
Let's be clear. It would not have been Alt. It would not have been Alt. J.C. Latham was their guy. I'm telling you this. When Rand Carthon does his press conference, I hope somebody asks, but I can tell you he is telling the truth. If he says, we liked Latham, he was our top tackle, he is telling the truth, because I did not get that from Rand Carthon. I did not get that from the Titans organization. I got that from other teams that were vying for offensive tackles and knew who they had to deal with in terms of who's going to take our guy, because there were people further on down who really liked J.C. Latham and knew if he gets to the Titans, he's not going to be there. Regardless of if Alt's on the board with him, if he gets to the Titans, he's not going to be there for us.
But, like, let's also be real for a second. Like, the Titans' offensive line was an abject disaster last year.
Yeah,
like, and that's being polite.
They were real bad.
Like, fix it. Go fix the problem. Like, this makes sense to me.
Yeah, it makes all the sense
Skoronski
in
and
the
J.C.
world.
Latham, right? I mean, that's a good.
Yeah.
Skoronski's your guard. You slot him, boom, you got Latham. Those are two guys that I think fit. So, but as you were saying, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, you're good. I like the pick, obviously. I think I'm echoing what everybody's saying. I think that for what the Titans need, what he provides, I think that was the best pick. It's unfortunate that people can't see that because, I mean, he's one of those cornerstone pieces that if they can get everything out of him, if he can produce the way that they think he can, that can be a pivotal cornerstone for a franchise.
Another pick is in, and another no-trade situation. Atlanta should be noted, we're 7 picks in, we're 7 offensive players in. We thought that might be the case.
I'm going to tell you, I got somebody texting this to me. I can't believe it, so I'm not going to say it out loud.
Oh, can I get the button back for the suspense on this one? I mean,
yes, you can button. You can button.
I just want to look at his face right now. Like, I don't even want to look at the pick. I just want to look at his face.
C-Rob has had the pick every single time, and now he has it, and he won't tell us because
I'm not going to say it because I'm wow.
Is it a quarterback?
Well, I can't wait. No,
it's not McCarthy, is it?
Hey, no questions. There will be no questions.
Just wait.
There will be no questions.
I'm not going to tell you guys who it is because I want to see what your reaction.
But yeah, we're all waiting eagerly. While we're waiting, we should make sure that you know that you can watch us, obviously, on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places. You can interact with us. We've got some YouTube polls out there. We love the interaction we're getting. Plus, we've got emojis in the Yahoo Sports app. You can go out there if you're an iPhone user, give an emoji to the picks. You can see how other users are rating it.
Bro.
You can see how we're rating it. I cannot believe the suspense. It is killing me. Roger has not walked out.
How long is it going to take Roger to get out there?
Roger's going to deadleg it, man.
That's what we're waiting.
Oh, Roger's walking pretty well.
Do we need to get McDonald like a helpline after this? What's
no,
the deal?
Roger's walking a little. Any guesses? No. All right, no.
You guys can
That's it.
I'm going to hit the button early so that we can all. Oh, God, I'm so excited. Roger is letting us know the controversial Falcons selection is in. And with the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, Michael Penix Jr.
Whoa.
Michael Penix Jr. has just been drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. They are drafting the heir apparent to Kirk Cousins? We're speechless.
Drafted. Okay, look. All deference.
I'm going cringe.
I don't know.
I'm going cringe.
You drafted a 6th-year senior to now sit and wait before he plays in the NFL. Michael Penix may not see the field until 25, 20. I mean, seriously, I don't even understand this. Like, how long? Like, this pick does not make sense to me given what you just did with Kirk Cousins. This doesn't make sense to me.
He also could not be more different than Kirk Cousins too. Like from what I think this offense wants, like to run off like bootlegs and stuff like that, play action, under center stuff. This is a guy that just you drop back, you sit him in the gun, and he just kind of javelins the ball downfield. Like I've been saying, he's like a perfect 1995 quarterback. And then to put him in this system that's overtaken the modern NFL, it's bizarre from both the position and the player that they've taken here.
I want to be clear on something here. For the cringe, for the concepts we have, our conversations about Michael Penix Jr. have been mostly positive. This isn't necessarily, Dame, about the player.
Right.
This is about the fit of the player with the Falcons, considering other needs the Falcons had and considering the fact that they just gave Kirk Cousins so much money?
Yeah, this is definitely a favorite flavor of ice cream. That's the only way to describe it. They saw Michael Penix. They liked him. They wanted him. No rhyme or reason, no explanation. They drafted him. They're going to see what happens between him and Kirk Cousins, and we're going to see who's going to be the quarterback for the Falcons.
But Damien, you paid Kirk.
A lot of money.
He's got his money. So here's the thing. Are you sitting this guy for 2 years? Because realistically, you're not shedding the Cousins contract for at least 2 years.
It's impossible.
He's going to sit him for 2 years. He's not going to play until he's like 27.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally talking about a guy who may not see the field until 2026.
Right.
What the hell?
It's like I said, there's no rhyme or reason behind this pick. It's other than this was my favorite flavor of ice cream.
I got texted to me and I'm like, no way. Like, somebody's wrong on this one. There's no way this is right.
I thought, honestly, I was thinking if quarterback at all, which I wasn't expecting, but maybe J.J. McCarthy, just because that's closer to me than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
But let's also go back to the identity conversation. Like, who the hell are the Falcons right now? Like, you just spent win now money on a quarterback, and you just drafted somebody that doesn't help you win right now. I don't understand.
And you paying him a lot of money. No. Like, let's not forget, like, even though he's on a rookie deal, like, that's a high. He's slotted to make a lot of money.
This is gonna be Rome Odunze, number 9 to the Bears. Which it's interesting because in the process, Caleb Williams told the Bears, "This is the dude." We had the pre-production. We all had this conversation. We talked about Tank Dell, about C.J. Stroud being like, "This is the dude." Rashee Rice, okay, off the field stuff aside with the car accident in Dallas. Productive player who Patrick Mahomes was like, "This is the dude. I've worked out with him. Let's go get this guy." Rome Odunze. And it didn't take, by the way, Caleb saying he's a dude. They're like, "Oh, really? Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that." But it's what are you doing with Caleb, right? You are boom, boom, boom. You are putting the pieces in place.
This is another interesting pick because he really resurrected his career at Washington. He started when Chris Peterson was still there. Then Jimmy Lake, which was
a long time.
Something of a disaster. And then DeBoer comes in. Penix comes in. 2 years of great production, especially this year. Now, I know a lot of people rip the Michigan tape that Michigan sort of overwhelmed them. He didn't really have either playoff game was all that great. But there was also a stat that I saw that he's number 1 in-game speed out of any of these receivers. So that is really impressive because when you watch Nabers, he looks faster, but Odunze plays faster. So very interesting pick. I think Caleb might have tipped this, that they were on the same flight to Detroit. This just reinforces that Chicago is circling around Caleb Williams for what he wants.
Frankly, I love the kid. I love the receiver. I spent some time with him at the national championship in the college football playoff process, and it was interesting because he was so real when you talk to him, and has such an edge about, I asked if they felt disrespected, and I got chalk answers from so many guys. And when you talk to Rome, it was real. He was like, we've been disrespected over and over again. And when you talked about, not being appreciated for the receiver he was real about it. See, Rob, I loved it.
Call it.
Oh, we got,
we're so used to calling him.
Rome Odunze is the pick.
Fire, man.
Such fire.
The one guy who, in this draft run-up, the only player who I didn't hear anybody say negative about him.
We have a trade. We have a trade.
Spaghetti-o.
I'm at least getting this information.
Minnesota. Yeah.
The Jets have pulled off a trade with the Vikings. We do not know the details of that trade, but according to Ian Rappaport, the Jets have made a trade with the Vikings. We have our first trade of the NFL draft. So, again, we have not yet seen a defensive player go off the board. We've got one shocking pick. The Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr. Was a shock to everybody at number 8. So now as we sit at number 10, the question was, would the Jets go with the weapon or an offensive lineman? The answer is they would go with the trade. So the Vikings are moving up one spot, which means the Jets at least convinced them they had an offer from somebody else trying to move up ahead of the Vikings to get a quarterback, right? There's no doubt this is a quarterback. The question is just, is it, I would think it's J.J. or is it Bo Nix?
We're ready to believe anything at this point, but I would imagine it's going to be McCarthy. Man, for Rome Odunze to go to Chicago here, Caleb Williams set up to thrive. I mean, you never want to be chasing weapons when you have that young quarterback. And now I would argue that, I mean, I'm a big Rome Odunze fan. I was close to ranking him the #1 receiver in this draft class. I mean, he is a great route runner. He was #1 in success rate versus press coverage and reception perception. He was, I mean, the best contested receiver I charted. I mean, he won at all 3 levels. He's just so clean. Best hands in the draft. Do the Bears now have, like, one of the best receiver trios in the NFL if this guy is good? I mean, because DJ Moore is a 1. Keenan Allen is a verifiable. I mean, he's still great in the slot, right? He's a 1.
He's a 1 receiver. We got to still say Keenan Allen is the #1.
He's still a 1.
And I think that's why he's a Chicago Bear, because he was coming off one of his best seasons, and he wanted, or
they say
they
want to take a pay cut. Yeah, he said, I'm all set on that.
You know, because he knew what he was coming off of. So I still put Keenan Allen as.
And I think Rome Odunze, I will be shocked if he is not a 1 in 3 years or so. I mean, he's that good of a player.
Just think about being Justin Fields tonight. You know, you get criticized, hacked away, and now talent after talent comes in. You know, it's just rough.
I also think the opportunity for Rome, and you could speak to this, like he can latch on and learn from day one. Like when we talk about absorbing a playbook and figuring out how to be a pro, he's got 2 wide receivers in that room that can teach him from day one. It's like the Puka Nacua effect, where it's like, hey, I'm just going to latch myself to guys that can show me everything I need to know. Like, I think that accelerates the process, puts him in a better situation.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge for me going into the league, because I had a lot of veteran leadership, but they were guys that had played great football, had played at a high level, and played the game the right way. So, when I went in, I had guys like Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, Brandon Bolden. Like, they helped mold me into becoming a #1 back, which I eventually became. So I think that, along with the fact of, from what I've heard, Rome had 0 bad interviews. I haven't heard anything negative about him. So he sounds pro-ready from an attitude perspective. I think you combine that with his talent and the veteran leadership.
Go ahead.
I think it'll be good.
The details on the trade.
The Vikings moved up to take J.J. McCarthy, 10th overall. Yeah.
So J.J. McCarthy is going to be the pick. The Vikings give up the 11th overall pick, so it's 1 slot, a 4th and a 5th. And in order to do that, they receive the 10th overall pick and a 6th rounder. So some minutia there, but this is a move up
4th round pick is valuable. I mean, that can be valuable for sure. But I mean, if you're moving up from 11 to 10, it was either Broncos that you were nervous about or it was the Raiders you were nervous about, right? It's those only other 2 teams in play. I can't tell you which it was. I mean, I would think it's the Broncos, because at one point I know that Sean Payton did express to the Michigan staff that he really liked. Now, it was like early in the season last year, but Sean Payton did express to the Michigan staff that he really liked J.J., the tools he was working with. It was like after about a month of Michigan season. So I do think he was definitely a guy that was squarely on their radar. But I think the story here is we all forever talked about the Vikings are going to package these picks, they're going to move up, and it's going to be 4. And is J.J. McCarthy worth 4? Maybe people are more comfortable now because he goes 10th, right? So you're like, okay, the value fits a little more. And I think that's also where other teams kind of had him assessed. When we did the pre-draft meetings, a lot of teams I thought, they were like, he's a top 10 pick. Well, you get him at the back end of that, right? And you didn't have to give up the house. You've moved up. Now you have another first-round pick, and you can use that first-round pick to do something to help your build.
Look, I got killed by a lot of people in this draft press process. As a Raiders fan, everybody knows that. When I talked to the Raiders radio station, I got killed for saying at the time that everybody kept saying 5 quarterbacks would be gone before the Raiders even picked. And did I think Penix would be one of them? No, but that's exactly. We've had 5 quarterbacks now chosen in the top 10 picks of this draft. Like that is inevitable fact, right? So now everybody else if you were sort of in on Bo Nix, you got to be nervous.
You better get in.
You got to get in now. And it is wild, because I don't want to say it's overdrafting, but I do think that we have to just acknowledge that in this market, especially in C-Rob, and I talked about this on Inside Coverage a couple of weeks ago with Jory, that once they change the salary cap, now we live in a world where you can get rid of a quarterback every couple of years. So drafting a quarterback wrong in the first round is no longer catastrophic. Like the dead cap hit today, if the Carolina Panthers were to cut Bryce Young, is $32 million. That's manageable, right? So Why not? All of these teams are like, might as well take a stab at quarterback because if it doesn't work in 2 years, you can chunk out and you can try again. Like, that's the new NFL.
In some ways,
Sorry,
Oh, no.
Honestly, it don't bother me. I got a newborn at home. It don't bother me. The sounds don't bother me.
I got a newborn at home.
I got a newborn at home. It's nothing.
Wait, do you mean the button or just Fitz?
Honestly, either. I got a lot of patience. Now. We're here just woosah.
how do you guys feel about what I'm going to say? McCarthy is the safest and the riskiest quarterback to take this high. And by that, I mean 713 college passes. Penix, a top 10 guy, had 1685, and Nix was 1936. So there's not a lot there. Did he manage games? Did he have to put the team on his shoulders to win games? He had a great offensive line the entire time he was there, an awesome running game the entire time he was there. That's an interesting pick. It's interesting. He was a 4-star kid for us, high 4-star, which crushes me because we want 5 stars to be first-round guys. Grew up an Ohio State fan, and Ohio State passed on him for Kyle McCord. So, but what we were talking about last night comes to mind as well. Kevin O'Connell wants to grind. J.J. McCarthy is going to be a 24-hour guy in that building, and so I think that really fits. And we're talking about fit. That is a perfect fit for me.
And I think we talked about this on the podcast. When I'm like at one point I asked the GM, I'm like, just brass tacks it for me. Like, who is it? Who's the quarterback? And he said, who's going to Minnesota, right? Because I think we talked about the player. Where you like the player's talent, but where is he going? And then you're like, all right, well, then what about the destination and how that reflects on the player? So, JJ, you're right. Everything's limited, but also in those limited things, when you talk to I talked to a swath of GMs when he got named at like 2, right? Oh, Washington's interested. I reached out to GMs. I thought he's going to get killed, right? Like, this is crazy. Instead, what I got GMs saying was there's enough film to project, and that's what you're doing. He's just turned 21. You're projecting there. Fine, you can project. He turns his back on the defense. We talked about this too, about all the top 3 quarterbacks that went ahead of him, and Penix for that matter. They all stand there, and they're looking in front of him, watching the defense unfold. He has to turn around, do play action, all these different things. So if you really want this guy to grow into the situation that he's in, he's going to have an offensive head coach who's not going anywhere. Kevin O'Connell's not getting hired away, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully you have J. Jeff, right? You just drafted a rookie quarterback. You do the extension there. Jordan Addison, you have the 23rd pick. So there's another asset that can potentially, and you have T.J. Hawkinson.
Right.
So, and it's a deep offensive line draft. You could go, let's go get him a tackle.
What you're saying, too, is sort of mind-blowing because from the day they acquired a second first-rounder, it was, they're going to move up to take a quarterback. They did, 1 spot.
Yeah.
They moved up 1 spot to get their guy.
For
By the way,
cost of a 4th and a 5th, right?
Yeah.
Which is
And thinking that they might lose future assets for next year, but now they have a first-rounder next year to continue to build around him. And, yeah, I think the quantity of attempts is low for J.J. McCarthy, but the NFL quality of those attempts is rather high. Like, let's just be honest about a lot of these college offenses. Like Bo Nix, that's a lot of Mickey Mouse attempts in there. There's some like Looney Tunes offenses across the collegiate football landscape. That is an NFL offense. Like, you see this guy rifle throws over the middle against zone coverage, which is a lot of what Kevin O'Connell's going to want him to do. And yeah, man, I can hardly remember very many ecosystems that were best set up to incubate that young quarterback more so than Minnesota.
not for nothing. Like, I'll go back to Field Yates over at ESPN tweeted out a couple of weeks ago that everybody was saying it was going to take 3 first-rounders to move up to 4. So when you think about they both this year and 1 next year to move up to 4, and instead they gave up a 4th and a 5th, and they move up literally 1 spot and they still get their quarterback. So right now on Yahoo Sports, we've got a poll going up. Favorite quarterback fit, 39% of the vote goes Caleb Williams in Chicago. 29% of the vote goes J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota. Also interesting on the emoji. By the way, what emoji are we giving J.J. to Minnesota?
It's fire.
It's fire. It's fire, right? So interesting about how much people. Oh, curious. Okay. How much people love wide receivers. If you look right now at the emojis in the Yahoo Sports app for iPhone users, when you start talking about the wide receivers, Malik Nabers has 73% of fans give it fire. Marvin Harrison, 89% of fans. Odunze, 82% of fans.
Wide receiver business is booming, baby.
Everybody loves these wide receiver picks. Offensive lineman, 59, 52. Quarterback, 63, 66. We've got one of them up here, but it's tiny. I can't see it.
And speaking of wide receivers,
McCarthy's
by the
up
way,
here.
like, if you're Justin Jefferson, I think you're feeling a lot better today, right? I think if you're Listen, I haven't given a lot of the the selfish fantasy managers a little bit of attention.
Yeah, big
but
guy, you got something.
Listen, if you're a fantasy football player and you're drafting Justin Jefferson #1 overall last year, right? And maybe you had him in Dynasty and you're thinking like, Kirk Cousins is gone. Is someone really gonna sell me the Sam Darnold bill of goods again? Like I got to get myself on the Sam Darnold train here if I have Justin Jefferson in fantasy. I think J.J. McCarthy, maybe he doesn't get on the field right away, but I think when he does, he can give them viable NFL quarterback play, and that's good for Jefferson.
You guys can see the J.J. card up there, by the way. Vikings fans right now, 78% of them like the pick, 61% overall. C-Rob and I have both given it fire. You've given it Oh, we got another. The Jets pick is in? Look at that.
The Jets are taking Fashanu.
Yeah.
Okay. The Jets are taking Fashanu. Another offensive lineman goes off the board.
And eat your vegetables pick, okay?
Yeah.
Don't pick up the candy.
Yeah.
All right, Jets fans, let's see how much you hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think going offensive
Will
line,
the
guys,
Jets fans
makes a
ever
lot
be
of sense.
happy?
No.
Will Jets fans ever be happy?
No.
But, Gorney, you said something about Olu last night when we were talking. Because, look, there was a period where people thought he was going to be the top tackle off the board. Everybody loved him, but...
Yeah, and this is the thing. When he was a high school kid, 4-star kid, but it was about potential. He had all the physical tools. When he was at Penn State, it was still about the potential. At some point, that has to turn into production and not potential anymore. I think he guessed a little too much at Penn State. He lunged a little bit. He was trying to guess what the defensive end was going to do, and he got out of place a little bit. I think he definitely has the physical tools. When you see him walk out here, he's going to look great. But this is a little bit of a risky pick.
Well, I will say this, though. I mean, it's on paper before this pick, the Jets had a good offensive line, right? Like, we signed Tyron Smith. Awesome left tackle. He's been great left tackle in his career. You trade for Morgan Moses. You sign John Simpson. You get those guys that are going to help you establish a run game. I mean, that's good news for Breece Hall. But if any team knows that you should never just think what's on paper on the offensive line, it's the New York Jets. Right? I mean, Tyron Smith could play 3 games this year. Yeah. So now you have some insurance here. But it's also a guy that you don't have to throw to the fire right away. Like if Tyron Smith is healthy for, maybe all year, maybe just for the first month and a half of the season, maybe this is a guy you can give a little seasoning to along the way.
Also, Caleb Williams is his high school teammate. Washington, D.C. Gonzaga's repping tonight. I mean, 2 picks in the top 11.
That's the sort of insight you get from Adam Gorney because he joins us from Rivals, and we're doing a ton of Rivals Rewind, too. You'll be able to see all sorts of content from these guys all the way back to high school. He's Damien Harris. Matt Harmon giving us all the fantasy breakdown. Damien, by the way, just stepped off a sideline, and now he gets to hang out with real professionals. C-Rob, Charles Robinson down at the end. I don't know. I mean,
you got him back there somewhere?
That's fair. I'm Jason Fitz, and you're watching Yahoo Sports coverage of the NFL Draft. We're with you through every single pick tonight, commercial free, hanging out the entire time.
Every single
we're going to make this. We're going to be back for tomorrow for every single pick.
Every single one.
So far, it's been an all-offensive draft. We're 11 picks in. Not a single defensive player has been taken, and we have seen 5 quarterbacks go off the board, the most shocking of which the Atlanta Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th overall pick, something not a single mock saw coming. But now we get to number 12. The 12th pick in this year's draft belongs to the Denver Broncos. So we'll see. C-Rob's working the phones over there.
Can I throw out a theory?
Yes.
Atlanta takes Penix because they have Rondale Moore and Mooney and finally use Kyle Pitts more. Cousins will have his time, and then they have the best deep ball thrower in the draft in a bad 25 class.
Well, look, there's no question that there's talent on that Atlanta roster, right? Like, and guys that were not maximized under the previous coaching staff and with the previous quarterback. And, I think if you're Atlanta, you just never want to be back in that spot where you've been the last couple of years. Like, we forget that this is a team that went right from didn't end well, but the enthralling Michael Vick era, right to Matt Ryan, and we're just stable, rock steady at the quarterback position for years. And then, like, our colleague Charles McDonald talks about all the time, like, I don't care what you do. Give Kirk Cousins all the money. I don't want to go through Marcus Mariota to Desmond Ridder again. Like, you want stability at that position. So this doing a lot to get that stability, but like Drake London, I think is a great player, a true number 1 X receiver, right? And like Kyle Pitts, I think if he's healthy, can be a great tight end. Bijan Robinson's a superstar already, in my opinion. So all these guys might be squarely in their prime when you're ready to drop Michael Penix in a very Jordan Love type of way.
Jets fans are happy. Did we give our emojis on Olu, by the way? I gave it curious.
It's fire.
I gave it curious.
I'm giving curious.
I'm giving it curious.
I'm a positive guy.
Curious.
They gotta address offensive line.
Yeah.
Like, look, they could have taken Bowers and gone with the shiny thing. That's happened in the past, okay? And to me, it shows we're serious about this. We made additions on the offensive line already if you're Joe Douglas, but realistically, somebody's going to get hurt. We've seen that last year. We saw it the year before. We're going to have an offensive lineman get hurt. We need depth. I think this is a good thing to add depth at that position.
I agree with all of that. I just think the Olu thing, it just feels like the hype is better than the player a lot of times. And so I'm just curious to see how that, so I'm not saying, ooh, bad pick, but Jets fans love it. 67%, which for an offensive lineman is so far very good in this draft. 67% giving it the fire emoji. So Jets fans overwhelmingly positive. 69 nice fans overall are giving it to him. But I'm a child. Thank you so much.
I'll tell you what though, talk about Brock Bowers. I did not need to see Brock Bowers with Nate Hackett, okay? I think there's a real chance that Brock Bowers can do so much for you in so many different ways. Like, Damien, you played with the rookie tight end last year in Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that Brock Bowers goes to a team with an overmatched play caller, which I think Nate Hackett is an overmatched play caller. And he kind of galaxy brains himself into too many different roles. So that was a risk for me. And, if you like Brock Bowers, you want to see him thrive, I think not going to the Jets, even if Aaron Rodgers is there, is probably good news.
Yeah, that's probably. Go ahead. You got to pick. Go ahead.
Bo Nix.
Wow.
He's a Denver Bronco.
He can't help
the
himself.
pick is in for the Broncos, and it's Bo
I'm looking
Nix.
at a commercial.
6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely speechless, and I'm not saying that Bo Nix doesn't turn out to be.
I don't even know which one to pick.
This is somewhere between grimace and curious for me.
Yeah, I was.
So, C-Rob, is this just need a quarterback, take the last one that they think is good?
Okay, we can say that, right? That's definitely something we can say. However, for a long time, people have said that Nix's traits, what he can do, fits what Sean Payton likes to do in his system, right? The tools he brings to the table. Sean Payton doesn't need a guy moonballing it down the field. What he needs is someone who's going to be accurate, 10 yards and in, 15 yards and in, run the system, hand the ball off when you have to, run the offense, just be efficient and accurate, and hopefully you continue to grow into a situation where it's like Drew Brees, where he starts to take over the offensive scheme himself at the line of scrimmage. But right now, if you're going to be starting a young guy, this fit has been there in the Sean Payton system for a while. So I don't want to just say it's the last available guy there, but at the very least, we're not looking at it going, well, that's like a totally wonky fit for what is offense.
Let me ask you this, Charles, because I have been one of those people that says, I can see Bo Nix fitting with Sean Payton.
Sure.
And overall, I think Sean Payton is a great offensive coach. How much faith do we or should we have in Sean Payton developing a young quarterback? Because he's never done it. He's never taken a quarterback in the first 2 rounds, and we've never seen him groom and develop a young guy.
He might not have gotten Brees if it had not been for the injury.
Right, and is this a situation with Cortland Sutton, who wants a new contract, and if I'm Denver, there's no way I'm paying Cortland Sutton. Good, solid player, but some of the money we're seeing at the wide receiver position, and beyond him, it's Josh Reynolds and Marvin Mims, who didn't have a good rookie season. In this situation with this surrounding talent and Sean Payton's history, is this a good fit?
I think I understand what you're saying situationally when you start to look at all these other surrounding factors. But let me give you another one. Who's he taking next year? So let's say you start Jarrett Stidham, right? Let's say you do the Stidham thing, and then you do the Zach Wilson thing. And let's say Zach Wilson is what he is, right? And let's say Stidham.
Nobody
is
wants
what
to
he
do
is.
that thing.
Stidham's not. He's got some run, right? So let's say Stidham is what he is. And then you're back in the draft next year at quarterback. But, Peyton, you squeeze out an 8-9 season, a 9-8 season. Maybe you go 10-7. Where are you in the draft in what right now looks like it's going to be a weak quarterback draft? Then what?
Yeah.
I mean, at least now, and here's the thing about Nix, too, that's important. He's played a ton of games, right? He's ready. He's one of those guys where you were like, okay, that's a guy he's 24. He's going to come in and start right away for you. He can. He's capable of doing that. So there's that element of it. And then I think there's also the element of it, too, that can't be overlooked. He did struggle. He went through something. He had an experience during his college career where at Auburn, it did not work. And it was hard because he was a huge Auburn guy. His dad played at Auburn, all the pressure and expectations. And then he entered NIL, which takes some guts. Even if it's not working, hey, you enter the portal. I'd said NIL. He entered the portal. It takes some guts to do that, essentially start over again. He goes to Oregon, and things fall into place. So, some character elements, too. You're kind of like, all right, he struggled. We saw him overcome it. I get the surrounding factors, but I also keep looking in that 2-year window, and I'm like, okay, well, if not this guy now,
what are we going to do?
What are you doing next year?
For personal reasons, love it. 5-star kid. I don't care what Denver does.
Go. The whole time we're sitting here, he's like, take Nix. Come on, man.
Come on, Nix has to go before 32.
The pick is in officially, by the way. Bo Nix, I just give it the sort of,
Yeah, curious. It's weird. He's thrown more than 1,900 college passes, and you don't really know what you're getting. Yeah. Are you getting Auburn Bo Nix when Auburn was a real fire, a dumpster fire before Hugh Freeze got there? He wasn't playing for Hugh Freeze, and then he goes to Oregon and just thrives in an offense that fits him. And I think Sean Payton is smart enough to design offense that will fit what Bo Nix can do.
I don't disagree with that. I asked Bo on Yahoo Sports in an interview last week what changed from Auburn to Oregon, why he had success. And I thought his answer was pretty surprising because he qualified it by saying, well, people seem to forget that we had some success at Auburn, too. So I thought that was an interesting moment there because it's like, no, you didn't.
And I think that's entering the no-spin zone.
Look at the home and away splits. And for anyone that didn't look at the home and away splits at Auburn particularly and at the beginning of his career at Oregon, on the road, he was terrible. And I've never gotten an answer to that. So I think there are styles makes fights and systems, and I think Sean Payton is brilliant. And I really like Bo Nix, the kid, and I like Bo Nix, the quarterback. So I hope it works out. But I give it the because I just don't think we know,
I just want to interject here because you're a Raiders guy. Gorney's sitting there right now going, Rattler, 13. Come on, let Rattler be 13.
You're going to have to break that bottle.
It was a 5-star. You're like, 13. Come on, baby. Come on.
Please.
Overall, by the way, in the emojis right now, overall, it's amazing. Everyone gives Bo Nix 51%. Broncos fans, 72%. They're in. They wanted their quarterback. And I'm never going to fault any fan base, by the way. Like, my favorite team needs a quarterback. Of course I wanted to come away from the first round with a quarterback. That's not going to happen, right? Like, I think I totally understand.
I like it.
If your favorite team drafts a quarterback, you should be happy about that tonight. Yeah. Unless it's Michael Penix to the Falcons.
Again,
It's just terrible.
I still can't believe
My
that's the
neighbor
thing.
texted me like, what are we doing?
I mean, that's okay. Like, seriously, this is absolutely 100%. This is the Michael Penix pick.
Yeah, right.
That's the Michael Penix pick.
Yeah.
Okay, that's absolutely the Michael Penix pick. Right.
Do we have that option in the app?
I'm combining them.
Get the developers on the blower right
the
now.
app
Let's
designers
add
are
that
sitting
in.
there. They're like, you know how long it came to do this, and now you guys want
Okay. But to make you feel a little bit better, Brock Bowers is a Raider.
Seriously?
Yes, Brock Bowers is a Raider.
Look, that's okay. That I'm stunned.
I think you need a little bit more juice.
Yeah, like
Such anger for so long that something good happens and you just don't know how to react.
no,
you don't
like
know how to
okay.
process
So
it.
I don't know how to process this because I think Brock Bowers is an absolutely great player. I would not have identified that as a position of need for the Raiders coming into this draft. Like, everyone knows the offensive line is in a hard spot. And we all talked about the fact that defense makes a lot of sense. Secondary can make a
So
lot
we
of
have
sense.
Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers in the same offense being thrown the ball by Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah,
Or Gardner Minshew.
Or Gardner Minshew.
Gardner
Well,
Minshew.
but like you say, the position is not a position of need. Yeah, they take a TE last year in the draft, but Brock Bowers is more than that, right?
Yeah.
Right. No, that is a fair point. And, you know, certainly Devontae, Brock Bowers, I think Michael Mayer is going to
Myers
develop
good
to be
player.
a
Kobe
good
Myers, I was
player.
about to say.
Kobe Myers.
Kobe Myers is a
Man,
Kobe
good
Myers is a
player.
beast.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So I do think, and by the way, not for nothing, right now the Raiders, and I've never said this on a draft show in all the years I've done this, the Raiders have done very smart business over the course of the last several months. Gardner Minshew, you can laugh at as a signing, but they hedged their bet from day one, understanding that they didn't control their own destiny with the 13th overall selection in the NFL draft. You had to have somebody to at least push Aiden O'Connell to see what you could get at the quarterback position, and you didn't control your own ability to just go get one. So if you were only in love with Jayden and he was never available, you had to have a secondary option. I think the Raiders have approached this offseason. I cannot believe I'm saying this. I believe that my favorite team for once has approached the offseason really intelligently.
What's also interesting here is the criticism of Bowers during the pre-draft had a little bit of an edge, wasn't really great in interviews. And my interactions with him were phenomenal. He wasn't a huge talker, but I do remember when he was on his Georgia visits, Our Georgia reporter wanted to meet him at his hotel. He gave us the address, the Spring Hill Suites in Athens. If you ever see Brock Bowers there, that's his spot. So he's a Napa, California kid, and you think wine drinker, soft? Not at all. During COVID, he was super mad he didn't have a year to play. He was running hills and showing videos. I think the edginess matched with Mayer is very interesting in this offense.
I asked him at the Super Bowl, just a conversation before we did our interview for Yahoo. I said, so how's Vegas treating you? And he said, came in this morning, leaving tonight. And I was like, not going to hang out and see the city? And he said, man, I got too much at stake in life right now. If I do the next 10 years right, I can see the city however I want later.
Yeah.
All business, baby. He's going to be seeing a lot of Vegas now.
I mean, he ain't going to be seeing a lot of Vegas now. Like,
a lot of Summerlin, maybe.
Look, if you take Brock Bowers has been one of the most interesting conversations of the draft because he is sort of a tight end, and how do you value tight ends? But also, he's a great player, and some people thought he was a top 5 talent in this draft. So, like, I think he's just sort of that guy that nobody knew what to do with.
Man, I will say this, though. A quarterback competition of Gardner Minshew versus Aiden O'Connell, that does not exactly get my pants on fire.
No, but what else are you going to do? Like, literally, what else are you going to do?
Well, at this point, we didn't think Michael Penix was going to be the 8th overall pick. So right now, yeah, I mean, that is what you're going. So you're right. It's good insurance. Like, Gardner Minshew is an acceptable quarterback to start. I think that is the tier of quarterback that he's in. And they have players around him to make him look good. I mean, that was a pretty good supporting cast, in my opinion, Pittman and Downs last year, but this is certainly even better for him this year.
Look, I mean, Dame, I'll throw to you on this, but, like, look, it's rare that I defend my favorite team. They usually let me down. But realistically, if you didn't know if you could get a quarterback and you just went out and made your weapons better, is that not smart team building? Like, you look around that offense, you got a million guys right now you can rely on. So you don't, if your quarterback's only okay, you're still in a better situation than you'd be if you reach for some quarterback you don't need, or if you put yourself in a situation where, you know, you at least you're making Gardner's life easier.
Yeah, and I think that kind of talks to, you know, the notion that game managers are bad quarterbacks now, right? Every time we heard people talk about Brock Purdy, right? Everybody was like, he's a game manager. He's not that good, right? Sometimes you need a game manager. Sometimes you need somebody to look at the talent around him and be like, listen, I've got great players around me. I just can't F it up. You know what I mean? I just cannot F it up. I got to throw the ball on time to the right person. I got to hand the ball off. I got to make the right checks. I got to protect myself. Like, that's what you need. And I think that that's, you know, what Vegas is doing. They're setting themselves up. They've got playmakers, and now, you know, they're going to have a quarterback battle to see who can manage their team.
You guys think if Penix was still there, they would have taken Penix?
I do.
Yeah.
But I also think this. Tom Telesco has made a career out of drafting best player available. Yeah. He did it for the Chargers. He's doing it now. He's never in his entire career traded down. I don't think that was going to be enough.
Middling results.
We've seen veteran quarterbacks migrate, right? It's a league that happens now. And we don't always see who it's going to be. It'll develop during the course of a season or whatever. You can set up those surrounding positions on an offense and make it an enticing team. It's true. There's a reason why Tom Brady chose the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Because he looked at all the other pieces and he said, that's a damn good roster. That's where I'm going to go to have success. Look at this line. Look at the surrounding pieces. It's set up for me to go there. Now, it's rare that a GOAT moves, but we do see it happen in these off seasons. And if you're not going to be able to address the quarterback position in the draft next year, what you will do is you'll go to start to headhunt veteran quarterbacks to see if there's a guy who comes loose.
You want to tell me Mark Davis wouldn't write the check for Dak? And you want to tell me that Dak wouldn't go there?
That's start having a Dak conversation.
I mean, he's going to be a free, his contract doesn't allow for him to be franchised.
That controls his destiny.
Right.
If he wants to be in free agency, he will be in free agency. And it's the Raiders, if you have but he's coming from an enticing situation in Dallas too. Yeah. So there's a lot of other things in play there. But I do get some of the sense. I think what happened with Penix screwed the Raiders. I'll be honest. I think it screwed them. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think when that happened, it probably shocked them. And when we went through the pre-draft process, I showed you guys where teams, there was like 12 teams that had that guy slotted, maybe fringe first rounder, and then everybody else was like middle of the second. Yeah. And I said to you, what's going to happen is he's the classic case of if somebody loves him. It only takes one. And I think that's ultimately what we saw. I don't think the Raiders necessarily saw that coming, and I think that's how you get into the situation right now.
Where did people have Brock Bowers in that same conversation?
Fuaga, by the way, is the next pick at number 14. for the New Orleans Saints, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe we may go the entire first round without a defense.
Yeah, we still had one.
I thought Fuaga, I thought might be the pick for the Raiders. I wouldn't have been surprised at all if they picked him there. I think my reaction to Brock Bowers was stunning because I expected it to be a big fat guy. Like, I just thought that's where they go. But look, again, I'll go back to talking to Michael Jr. a lot about Fuaga, and like somebody that just absolutely is a mauler, can play inside, can play outside. You can do a lot of different things with him. In a modern positionless offensive line world, he can fill a lot of different holes. Like, I think this is a solid pick by New Orleans. It's a pick that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is one I screwed up, and it was my fault, but not really my fault. He was a 3-star for us, and the reason was because he was 6'5", 329 in high school. So you didn't know if he was going to 360 and fading out of football. He's one of the rare instances that he actually lost weight in college. A lot of credit to that Oregon State staff for developing him. Jim Mahalchik did a phenomenal job up there. And, at that time, 4 or 5 years ago, those guys that were positionless, guys that could move inside and be a guard, that could stay outside and play tackle, we didn't really love them as much. We've learned to really accept those guys now. Like, are you big enough to play outside? Are you tall enough? Do you have that length? It doesn't matter. Move him inside, move him outside. He kicks butt, this kid. He likes it. In high school, he didn't have, a great frame. We could see the video now if you want to look at it. Not a great mover, but he's really developed in the last few years. And he gets after people, and like I said to Damien before, you can't teach that. He just wants to hit people and hurt them.
I'm just looking at him, Dame, thinking like, that's a high school kid?
Yeah, no.
Look at him off the edge.
Those aren't the kids I was playing in Richmond, Kentucky. That is not the same competition.
All right, so that's for New Orleans. I don't think it's a shocking pick, right? Like, going offensive line, we all predicted would be a situation of need. New Orleans needs to get
Fashanu had made it to them, that would have. I think he was at the top of their. I think they thought that was the guy that would ultimately get to them, and then when it didn't happen, this is.
New Orleans though needs to start hitting on some draft picks. Let's be honest about where this team is, like every year they're robbing Peter to pay Paul. It feels like every year they're in credit card debt trying to figure out the salary cap. Every year it feels like they're weirdly constructed, and I'm going to go back to the identity thing I talked to you about earlier.
Yeah, sure.
Like, when you start thinking about the identity of who this team is, but also your quarterback. Like, Derek Carr's not somebody that loves getting hit, right? Yeah. You got to find it. Not that any quarterback does, but if there's a knock on Carr to a lot of people, it's that when you start to get after him, it affects him. So they need help on the offensive line. This makes sense, but man, New Orleans needs a big draft this year.
Yeah, they do, and I think kind of like we talked about with quarterbacks, I feel that way about linemen. Whenever people pick quarterbacks, there's a fire in people's eye, and we're like, okay, yeah, we're instantly going to get better. I feel the same way about linemen. I talked about J.C. Latham. You get guys who, you talk about establishing an identity. Nobody does that better than your offensive line. When they protect your quarterback and when you're able to run the ball, move the line of scrimmage, and displace defensive linemen. So, every time I see an offensive lineman get drafted, it gives me excitement, because if they can fill that potential and if they can live up to, the first round draft pick, then, that's usually a cornerstone piece that can help change the trajectory of your franchise.
Looking at some of the emojis recently, I want to go back to Olu, and again, in the Yahoo Sports app, you can do this. Olu Fashanu. It's funny. C-Mac gave it fire. I gave it, Frank Schwab gave it the cringe. Jets fans, 77% love it, but only 68% of the general population love it, which I think is interesting. You go back to the Raiders pick, Raiders fans don't like it. Only 60% of Raiders fans gave it fire, where 71% of everyone else gave it fire. So I think it is interesting. C-Rob gave it the, and C-Mac, both C's with Yahoo, gave it the,
Did Charles McDonald vote on the Falcons pick? Because I got a great text from him about it when it happened.
Let me see if Charles McDonald gave it the cringe.
In fact, I think he wished he could maybe give it something a little stronger.
And the draft grade on the Yahoo Sports commentary is an F. First F of the day. Pick makes no sense. The Falcons signed Kirk Cousins, now drafting a 6-year college starter to sit behind him for 2 years. What sense does that make? Penix isn't the cleanest prospect and has injury concerns. We'll find out what this looks like in 26 or 27. Woo! Scathing.
Spicy.
Scathing. And again, with Fuaga going off now, we still don't have a defensive player. We got a defensive player finally? What?
My pick is Dallas Turner.
Yeah, I would go with Dallas Turner.
Yeah, you love Dallas.
I love Dallas Turner. I do.
I want you guys to see this one.
Oh, he wants us to see it.
told me that.
No, why?
I want you to see this one because it's a doozy. If it's what I'm being told right now, it's going to be a little bit of a surprise.
Where are we, by the way, Fuaga? What emoji did we give Fuaga? Were we in on the fires?
I gave it. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I give.
I'm going to give it a fire. I'm going to give it a fire.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, this is it's an eat your vegetables pick, like we said, and this is a team that like.
How many vegetables do we eat as a community?
I was going to say y'all love that saying.
Gorney, if I like,
when you
a
get a
scale
good
of
one,
1
you
to
just gotta
10,
use it.
veggie consumption, scale of 1 to 10.
10.
Okay, a 10.
You want to trade shirts?
I was gonna say Captain Crochet over here is all around the veggies all day, every day, right? Like you're
I do. Listen, I do athletic green shots, so then I don't even have to eat vegetables.
athletic green
Work
shots.
smarter, not harder.
That's not a product plug, is it? Because
I'm just answering the question.
There's no freebies,
I'm
okay?
answering the
But
question.
by the way, you must send me a box. So that was,
Hey, if they send me a box, I'll send you a box. How about that? I'll send all of y'all a box if they send me some.
Oh God. So the pick is in. C-Rob's not telling us who it is. Let me ask you guys this. Are we a little surprised that because we're pick 15, we're hearing C-Rob's keeping the suspense that it's the first defensive player off the board.
I believe it is.
But it's the Colts on pick 15. A little surprised there? Like, we haven't seen the run on the rest of the wide receivers yet. So, like, is this a surprising destination for the first defensive player?
I mean, it is in the sense that I think a lot of the focus around the Colts coming in this draft was another piece to help Anthony Richardson, right? Like I heard Worthy connected there very strongly. I heard, hey, they could be the team that moves to get Bowers. That it was, they really wanted to do something to continue to accentuate something around Richardson. Now, again, we'll see what's on 4 minutes left on the clock. Hopefully this is right. But again, I'm fairly confident this is correct, but I want to be conservative here because it is a bit of a surprise in terms of how things stacked up defensively.
well, if it's a defensive player and it's Chris Ballard, it's got to be like a freak athlete is my guess here because he loves to draft the athletic phenoms. But even if it's not an offensive player here, they want to add to that receiver room, which, by the way, I like Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. They can get someone to add in as that 3 if they and I think Ballard still really likes Alec Pierce, but they can get somebody to add in as that 3 in round 2 or 3 here.
Yeah. I wonder if that's part of like in a real moment of talk about wide receivers. Like, maybe we're about to get a massive run. But at the same time, I would also say, like, is there some part of everybody saying, well, we can just get it in the second round? So, like,
yeah,
there's a little bit of
open that floodgate and let the run happen.
With this receiver class, which got a lot of hype, and I think deserved hype because the top 3 of this class was awesome. They were true tier 1 prospects. But the rest of the guys, and Brian Thomas, he has medical issues. Teams have concerns about that. On film, just pure evaluation, he's like a round 1 talent. The rest of the guys after that are kind of, questions. To me, I wouldn't say questions, but they're like late 1s, early 2 types that are going to be talk about a phrase we love, the flavor of ice cream, baby. Right. So I think a lot of these guys are. That's going to be the meat of this draft. Like, I have a feeling you guys are going to be throwing me a lot of questions on tomorrow, day 2 with a lot of these receivers. But the rest of the night, like, I wouldn't be totally surprised if we get Thomas in the late 20s, and then that's it for wide receivers. But, we'll see.
Don't you also have to wonder if teams, because one thing that C-Rob pointed out earlier is that the Raiders probably surprised by Penix Jr. being the shock at 8 overall. I wonder how many teams right now are surprised because in history, this is the first time there's ever been 5 quarterbacks selected in the top 10 picks. We've never seen 6 go in the top 12, obviously. So it's pushed the entire board down. Like, we're at pick 15, but if you were not in the quarterback market, we're really at pick 9. Right? Like, so you start thinking about how just the run on quarterbacks has pushed everything back, including the wide receivers. So it's interesting because the depth at offensive line and the depth at wide receiver was supposed to be the big story of the first round. But now if you're picking in the late teens, early 20s, you're sitting there saying, holy cow, like, I got all this value I didn't think I was going to have.
Yeah. I learned, obviously, from Bill Belichick, and he was the best at finding value throughout the entirety of the draft, whether it be a lot of times it wasn't day 1. It was day 2. It was day 3. It was in the later rounds. So, as teams, are surprised by these picks and, their big boards get kind of shuffled around, I think it's important, obviously I'm not a GM and I never have been, but it's important to keep your cool, keep your composure because there's a lot of talented players in this draft. They're not all going to be first-round picks. They're not all going to be second-round picks, but you will be able to find value at different positions in different rounds.
The pick is in for the Colts, so we're just waiting for that announcement. But somebody took my button, so I don't know how I feel about that. He's the button keeper. Look,
I think
you were a little more judicious about it, so I support this.
Right? Yeah, right.
He ran it like 6 times in a row.
Well, that was because we had a real surprise, though.
I'm just saying, if we had an over/under on total number of button pushes, right now you are far.
I don't think so. I know no shot.
Listen, it's not the first defensive player that you would have expected.
Okay, it's not the first.
It's not
defensive
Dallas.
player.
Not Dallas Turner.
Well, what are there like? Oh, that's a good look. I feel like we're playing like a dating game now. See, Rob knows. I'm like,
I know. Yeah. Now I'm really going to be judging. Honestly,
I feel like Goodell,
Charles. If like
Would it be so Colts
down.
to take like Cooper DeJean?
I think that would be pretty exciting, though.
Yeah.
I like Cooper DeJean as a player, but that would be interesting here.
What's it like when you know who the pick is and we're just over here speculating like, oh, well, what if it's this guy? What if it's this guy? What if it's...
He's a master of tuning us out.
Yeah.
That's clearly the answer to your question there.
Talk.
I mean,
He has no
could be
idea what's going
Oh,
on. Right now.
Latu. I mean,
Latu
mildly shocking.
is one of the more difficult picks to figure out in this year's draft because of the medical, right? See, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely some
Finally
teams.
got a response out of C-Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went like radio darkness for like
Man
2
working
minutes.
over there.
I'm like, are you sure you can confirm this? Like, I'm hearing this team's trying to move out right now. Like, there's some other stuff going on. I think the Colts took some calls, maybe potentially move out of that pick and couldn't. But yeah, Latu, there's concern over the neck injury, right? And there was questions about like who could clear him, when he could get back on the field. He's obviously cleared, played, but there are some teams that subboarded him and said we can't take him with this because
Subboarding
meaning you take him off your board and you put him in a place where you say if he falls to a certain point where the risk and reward, we'll take him and we can take him. We can select him at that point. Now some teams completely remove a player and say we can never take this guy. And I do believe there were some teams that took him off and said we can't take him. I had one team that told me they think he's one injury and done potentially because of this past neck injury. I had another team bring up Leighton Vander Esch where they're like, is this going to be like a management thing at times with the neck and eventually like maybe an early retirement. Other teams were fine with it. So it's definitely a mixture there. I think there's no doubt the talent, but I do think that's a little shocking to have him at the top of the defensive stack because of that.
Super interesting kid in high school. Was a 4-star kid. Started at 226 and was a tight end and bulked up to 272. Looked like he was going to be an inside guy at like 285, 290 in high school. Thinned out one of the other rare occurrences that he dropped to 259 at the combine and looks like around that size now. The Washington stuff was definitely scary. Got cleared to play at UCLA. He was in the same high school recruiting class as Trayvon Walker for the Jags, who has 2 years of NFL experience already. So he's an older kid as well.
That's one thing that I don't want to get lost in all of this is that some of these kids coming into the league this year are grown-ass men, right? Like, I mean, Damien, because you start talking about the impact that COVID had. They played in the league. They played in college longer. They're coming into the league at a different size with a different body build, with a different, frame. Like, the usual expectation of, hey, we're going to do a Max Crosby here and bulk this guy up. Like, that's easier said than done on somebody that's already coming in older.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys are, kind of, I don't want to say as developed as they're going to get, but, that's the risk you run with these older players who had extended careers in college, had COVID years, extra redshirt years, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, he's just like everybody else. Time will tell with him. He's been cleared and he has an opportunity to play football again. So, we'll just see what he does with that opportunity.
So Dallas Turner is 2 years younger. Jared Verse about the same age.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Jared Verse story is such an interesting one because of his path to get to where he was. But is there any surprise that Latu goes before Dallas, who was just, it felt like, I hate using this phrase, but it's the only way to describe it, like a cleaner prospect to a lot of NFL teams? Like, it feels like Dallas was sort of the guy that everybody's like, this is the safe version of that pick.
Well, I thought he was a safer pick. I thought in my humble opinion, I would have thought he was the better edge rusher. I mean, we had a conversation where I was comparing him to Will Anderson, that's in Houston, and I think he's the same caliber player. We saw how high Will Anderson went on to be rookie defensive player of the year. And, I see that same type of potential with Dallas Turner. So, I'm kind of shocked to see him not be the first defensive player.
Different players in a little way, though. Latu's straight at you. He's going to run through you. Turner's going to get to the edge. I think Turner's wingspan is 83, and his is just a little over 78. So I think they just wanted that sort of physical Mauler-type defensive lineman. Definitely a risk. If it was me, I mean, Turner is just so special.
They just wanted that flavor of ice cream.
And it's like Gus Bradley's had a very specific style of defense that's really stood the test of time, honestly. I mean, he's been in a lot of different places and has run that system around. And I think the Colts defense actually maybe outkicked expectations last year without having, like, besides DeForest Buckner, another real presence on that defensive line that was a consistent game changer. And so maybe this is a guy that they can stand up, move around a little bit more. I think that's like that building block piece that they're looking for.
Yeah, and by the way, right now, 65% of the fans overall giving it a fire emoji, 67% of Colts fans giving it a fire emoji. I've given it the C-Rob with the cringe. Oh, you got another pick?
Okay. I'm fairly certain. I know a team was moving up to try and get Byron Murphy. That's what makes me nervous here, but I think Seattle selected him with the 16th overall pick. I'm trying to figure out if a team moved up to get him. So I think he's off the board. It's just, is it for sure Seattle that has moved up to get him? I'm trying to get confirmed. I'm
Byron Murphy.
I'm trying to find out from a team that was Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas. So I'm trying to find. I'm like, hey, did you guys get up or not to get this kid?
So, C-Rob, I want to talk to you, too, because you talked about Newton here. Byron Murphy, 70 tackles, 8 sacks in his career. Newton, 187 tackles, 18 sacks in the Big Ten. And you're going to take Murphy. He looks better. He's more jacked. But the production, it wasn't really there. He only had one season where he had more than one sack.
Now, I think he's a big-time disruptor, though.
Yeah, sure.
And Josh Norris from Underdog's famous for saying the phrase, disruption is production, right? Like all those years ago. And I do think that Murphy is a guy who brings that disruption up front. Like, I'll be honest with you, man, sometimes, like, you see a coach like make that leap maybe, and like Mike Macdonald is kind of in that territory for me, because I think that Ravens defense last year was just so well coached, well designed, one of the most multiple defenses in the league. So it's like if Mike Macdonald's ready to rubber stamp that pick, like I'm kind of in too.
But this comes back to something I mentioned earlier too. Let's look at some of the money that went out this year, right? Like if you need a defensive tackle, it costs you $100 million on the free agency market.
Yeah.
So if you're Seattle and you're looking around, you're saying, okay, the one caveat I give you though is even Ravens players admitted that it took a minute to figure that defense out, right? So I think we need to understand that Seattle is about to have their own sort of come to Jesus moment where it's going to be a transition. And if you're a Seahawks fan, you're used to just being good every year. And we keep talking about identity. I think we know what the identity of the Seahawks are going to be. I just think everybody might need to give it 2 years to get to the spot where it's really being executed, which is why I love this pick. Like, I love the concept of Murphy in that defense.
Get him in there now.
Get him in, get him working, and in a couple of years, it's beefy.
Johnny Newton, too. I mean, the foot. Like, there's teams who are definitely nervous about the foot. Like, I think is definitely playing in that evaluation for him when they're splitting up. The defensive interior is not a great track. It's not like super deep. There's not a lot. Murphy and Newton are those two guys that I think a lot of people are looking at. I think the thing, especially like the Bears, Ryan Poles really liked Murphy. Yeah. And I think there was some thought, like, could he go off at 9 to the Bears? And I think teams are looking and they're saying, if this guy even projects as a penetrator in the middle, wreaks havoc, he's not going to be Chris Jones, right? But if you can get Chris Jones light, if you can get something similar, the league's seen how disruptive Chris Jones can be. Even when the level of the defense kind of waned a little bit in Kansas City, he was still that rock that you built around.
And to Matt's point, it's so true. I see it at the high school level all the time, especially college. You get these big defensive tackles who push the pile. The linebacker cleans up and finishes. So that's definitely an important part. You watch Byron Murphy on film, that's what he does.
But if you can get a guy that can do both, by the way, like a Chris Jones, that's when you're really cooking.
That's
you
the
get
real
that real
money,
closer on the inside.
I mean, that's what everybody wants. If you're just tuning in, Yahoo Sports, we got every single pick covered. Damien Harris just stepped off a football field and decided that it'd be more fun to hang out with us.
Yep.
As yet undetermined if we get to try and tackle him throughout the course of the night. Matt Harmon would be the one that actually gets to try and tackle him because, let's face it, I'm small and frail. He'll give us all the famous.
I have a bad knee, so to be clear. I'm a medical red
got a bad neck.
Then I'm definitely not tackling it now.
True. I'll sue you. I'll sue all of you.
I mean, like pseudo-athlete, bad knee, white guy allowed to say something to an NFL player? Like, it's just like, there's this moment
I didn't even bring this up.
No, you're like, I got a bad knee. It's just, I don't know how I feel about that.
So I don't know the context of this video, but I'm watching a video where the Falcons GM is sort of explaining the pick to Arthur Blank, and Blank they don't look too pleased with each other about the discussion here.
Well, Arthur Blank's probably, by the way, Adam Gorney from Rivals. You're right. Charles Robinson, our insider extraordinaire. I'm Jason Fitz. C-Rob, any other, like...
Okay, I'm going to tell you what is happening right now. Arthur Blank is like, Charles held this up. What does that mean about Michael Penix? He's like, I don't understand. I didn't even know that was in the system. And then we picked this guy.
I liked it until I saw.
Yeah.
And all of that is because we have the most shocking pick I can remember in several years, honestly, covering the draft. As if you're just joining us, 5 quarterbacks went in the top 10, 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12, and one of those quarterbacks was Michael Penix Jr., selected 8th overall to the Atlanta Falcons. What do you got?
So, by the way, like just looking on Twitter right now, Jane Slater from the NFL Network said that as we sit in shock over the Atlanta pick, a source tells me Kirk Cousins just as, quote, shocked and, quote, disappointed, never said anything to him or his reps about a quarterback in the first round, despite suggesting they would. Still, quote, it's a business. And that's multiple reporters. Daniel Jeremiah also said on the NFL Network that Kirk was not given a heads up.
Real quick. No. Trade. The Vikings are moving up to 17. With Jacksonville, so we're going to see ultimately what they're trading up for.
We still haven't gotten the official Seattle
when
pick.
Jackson. Oh, okay. All right. Let's get through this first.
Right.
Let's get through Byron Murphy.
This is going to be Byron Murphy. And by the way, you should just be hanging out with us for the duration.
We're way
of the
ahead.
draft, C-Rob is like 18 minutes ahead of Goodell. C-Rob's actually calling Raj and being like, Raj, I got the pick.
C-Rob, what is that? What is that with Penix? Is that just taking the best player? I mean, you're not hiding it from your quarterback that you're going to take another quarterback.
I honestly, I wish I could give you the rationale behind it because even talking to people there in the run-up, I never got any sense whatsoever. And it may be because when Cousins lands there, you just take him off the radar. I would never have asked about a quarter. Maybe later, like, hey, are you going to go get a guy to maybe develop down the line or whatever? When you go and get a Kirk Cousins like that, and I guarantee you he had no idea. I know Mike McCarthy, his agent, I guarantee Mike McCarthy had no idea. They're probably like, what the hell is going on? And it just, I'm mystified. When that happened, and I swear to God, I had 2 people who are like, it's Penix. And I'm like,
it didn't seem like the owner.
I don't think this can be real. Like, it just didn't compute when that was going on.
I know you're mystified. I would say it's bad business.
It's
like how can you be so obtuse as to not even reach out to the quarterback you just gave all that damn money to?
It's an Adam. All you guys, like, think about this. If it was a 21-year-old, okay, a 20-year-old, somebody who you're like, you know, we're going to bring him along. He's got a couple years. Like, let's give him a couple years to marinate. We've got these traits we like in him. Kirk's in here. He'll see what hard work looks like. It'll be good in the quarterback room. All these. Michael Penix is 24 years old.
Yeah.
And you signed Kirk to a deal that rationally he plays the next 2 seasons for you, which means, again, I just stare at this and I'm like, so Michael Penix is not going to play football. Like, think about this. 6 years in college, 2 years not playing in the NFL. So by the time he actually plays in the NFL, it's his 9th year of high-level football, college and NFL. That's insanity.
The Florida State kid, the one year that came? Winky.
Yeah.
Winky was like 832 years old.
Didn't Winky get drafted at 27? I think he was like 27 when the
Brandon Weeden, also same thing, 27. Yeah.
Wow.
It makes no sense. To your point, the Vikings have traded up. We will get the details of that trade. Their pick is already in as it stands right now. So the Vikings have traded up. They already picked J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings get the 17th overall pick, and to do that, they give up their 23rd, a 5th, and next year a 3rd and a 4th.
And they're gonna use that to take Dallas Turner. Top edge on a lot of boards. Really clean evaluation. Shocked that Latu went ahead of him, just given.
They just got an edge rusher at 17 that was being mocked to many teams at 8. At 8.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to use their equity to move up to 4 to get. Well, like trading graphs is an ignorant exercise that we all do. But if you just look at the logic for the Vikings, like this feels like a great day for them.
Yeah, I mean, they got their quarterback and they got the best player, in our opinion, it seems like, on defense, without having to give up too much capital for it. I mean, I would say that that's good business. Like you were just saying the pick before was bad business. I think this is good business.
You went from you were potentially giving up these 2 picks to get up and get the guy who you got just by sitting there, and then you flip a 4th and a 5th rounder, and then you get the top. We talked about this in the production meetings. Team said cleanest evaluation because I started to bring up Murphy. I'm like, hey, is Poles going to take Murphy at 9? Like, is this potentially changing things? But throughout the process, maybe the only gripe, and we talked to you about this before because you were part of the Alabama program, is you get the question every year: are these guys maxed? Where's the ceiling? Like, how much further can he really go? Because he's in a pro program right now that knows how to get every single thing out of him. So but you saw Will Anderson play last year.
Yeah,
exactly.
He looked maxed to you.
Exactly.
He looked maxed to me.
Yeah, even if he's maxed out, he's got an 83-inch wingspan.
Yeah, that helps.
And more important than anything,
normal
5-star player, Dallas.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, there we go.
Hey, Damien, can you kind of walk through the comparisons we were making earlier between Will Anderson and Dallas Turner here?
Yeah, so I like Dallas Turner a lot, and I thought that his knack for actually getting to the quarterback was a little bit better than Will Anderson. When I watched Will Anderson in Alabama, I thought he got to a point where he was getting a lot of hurries, but he just wasn't, the production wasn't there.
Wasn't finishing.
Yeah, he wasn't finishing, right? And I know that we just talked about disruption as production, but not all the time.
Sure.
Especially with a guy that's that highly touted, right? I thought Dallas Turner did a better job of finishing at the quarterback, finishing plays in the backfield. I think he has the same type of defensive play, rookie of the year type of potential, like Will Anderson. And I think that whenever teams kind of lock in on him, it's like, okay, this is a good young player that we have to look at. I think he's still going to be able to get to the quarterback. He's got those long arms. He's got good pass rush moves, and he's got a lot of power. He's got all the intangibles to still be able to get to the quarterback.
Could be coached by Brian Flores too, and that was a wild defense to watch last year. I mean, Brian Flores is just throwing things at guys behind center, and now he's got a real edge rusher to do it with.
I love the fact that Vikings fans, again, I'll go back to our emoji system in the app, 74% of them gave the J.J. McCarthy pick fire, okay, which is very good. 74% is fine. The Dallas Turner pick, right now 90% giving it fire.
Yeah, this is
Vikings
good.
fans are like, this is
This is
absolutely
good business for the Vikings.
I mean, you're talking about Alabama's best defensive player consistently for at least 2 or 3 years, and a quarterback who doesn't lose and just won the national championship.
Right.
So far, from my quick look, the Vikings fan support of that pick is the highest support we've seen of any pick from any fan base throughout the course of the entire draft.
You
so far.
You wonder if people in Minneapolis were like, thank God they took Latu, so Dallas Turner is sitting there for us.
Oh, for sure.
Probably.
And now we've seen a little run on defensive players because it's fair to point out first 14 picks, all offensive. That's pretty stunning. But now 3 straight defensive guys have gone off the board, and the Bengals are on the clock. So the Bengals are in an interesting situation because, y'all, I don't know what to do with T. Higgins. They've made it clear that they're not going to trade him supposedly, but there's got to be some mindset of hey, think a year down the road, adding T. Higgins, not the worst.
Yeah,
adding
a Brian Thomas, or I mean, this is a rich for Keon Coleman for me on my board, but I have also thought that this would be a perfect spot for Keon Coleman to land because I think he's a guy that needs to move into the slot, be that big slot receiver. They let Tyler Boyd walk in the offseason, so maybe you throw him in the slot earlier, and then he's your number 2 receiver next year when T. Higgins moves on. But, yeah, I mean, I do wonder if the Bengals are looking at the Eagles right now come on, man, we're telling everybody that we can't pay Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. And what do the Eagles do? Yeah. They pay A.J. Brown after paying Devontae Smith, after paying Jalen Hurts, and they gave Saquon Barkley big money this offseason. So you got to be sitting there if you're a Cincinnati and you're trying to throw that line out there, being a little frustrated. But I'm with you, Fitz. I do think this is a spot to potentially look for a wide receiver here.
Any thoughts on is there some moment here move and look, I'll spin to you. You've been around the Bills so much, obviously. When a team is right there on the edge, right there, and that's where the Bengals are, right? And you're expected every year.
Yeah.
But now you got to figure out how to pay guys. And you got to figure out how to replace guys. What's the move for a team that's sitting right in that spot?
I've never been a GM. I ain't never been paid to put a team together. and to take that team over the hump. I played for championship teams, but we had all the right pieces. Everything fell together. We worked our butts off. We were coached by Coach Saban. We did all the little things right, and we earned what we got. Being a part of the Bills, that was an eye-opening experience for me because it was the first time I was on the cusp, being on a team that was on the cusp of winning something great, but just couldn't figure it out, right? And that's what's so important. That's why it's so important to have good leadership. We always talk about the players, the players getting drafted, the players on the roster, this, that, and the third. Like, this is times where we have to look at GMs, we have to look at ownership, we have to look at coaches. Like, just like you were talking about the GM for the Falcons and Arthur Blank looking at each other and being at odds, that's bad business right there. You know what I mean? Like, if your leadership is not on the same page, that's bad business. So
and that feels so simple, C-Rob, but it's just not, right? Like, there's just you got something. What do you got?
Dude, hold on, wait.
He's got this thing.
Wait.
Bengals taking Amaris Mims, offensive tackle out of Georgia. Wow.
Mims, interesting.
Look,
Short resume, but man, a lot to love there. But also woo, you got some development in front of you.
The hard part,
that's some gamble there.
What do we got up there?
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Yeah.
But you know what?
It's a gamble. And I just talked about loving offensive linemen.
I'm with you on that, but also if you look at that situation, they do have two guys that they can start to tackle this year and bring him along slowly, right? Like they have Orlando Brown in place. They've paid him. They signed Trent Brown this year, player you're familiar with, Damien, right? He's a guy that they can just roll out this year. Maybe Mims comes along a little bit slower. Yep. And I'll say this about Mims, man. That guy is a freak show. Very often I'm not going to sit here and talk about another man's waist, but for a man that is that big and that tall, he has a tiny waist. He is built incredible. He looks like a star tackle in the league.
So here's the reason, though, I give this the question mark. Sorry to cut you off, Gorney.
No, yeah.
The reason I give this question mark is because the Bengals certainly have tried year in and year out to address the offensive line and make it a strength. They've spent money, they've drafted, they've spent draft capital, they've done everything. And it just never really goes the way you think it's going to go. Now, on top of that, the offensive line coach that they had that was supposedly going to be developing that is now at the Titans. So an organization that hasn't necessarily been able to figure out home runs developing an offensive lineman now gets an offensive lineman that I feel like needs some development. So it's just the fit to me is just kind of scary.
So we had him as a 5-star coming out of high school.
Oh, hey! There we go. That really should be what the Yahoo button is for, right?
Really. 6'7", 300 pounds, and like Matt was saying, just looked phenomenal. Country kid from Georgia and was great. The college performance, definitely not 5-star worthy. He only had 8 career starts. 8 career starts, which is scary. And there's a saying in the recruiting world that the guys who are hurt always get hurt. There's another saying that they're a lot like the Jaguar, it looks pretty, but it's always in the shop, he missed almost all of the 2023 season with a high ankle sprain he got surgery for, goes to the combine to try to prove himself, pulls a hamstring. So you get these concerns there, awesome potential again. And when he played, he was outstanding, but you just wonder if he can stay injury-free.
I love that we're breaking down Mims right now, and you're giving us the perspective going all the way back to his high school, and we're playing his high school highlights, and we're looking at the TV and still waiting to make the fit. We're already through his entire career. We went all the way back to high school by the time they make the
What's
fit.
next?
But this does sort of, although it's been quiet in getting to this point, it does continue the run on tackles. And I'll go to Dane Brugler with the Beast that has ranked his offensive tackles. Joe Alt went off the board. Fashanu went off the board. Latham went off the board. Fuaga went off the board. Now we get Mims. So we get our 5th tackle off the board. And I started this show by saying, and I want to echo again, to me, there are not 32 starting caliber left tackles and right tackles in the NFL. There are not 64 guys right now that you're like, yeah, I got my guy. So I'm not surprised we're seeing a run on tackles. At the end of the day, there just aren't enough great ones in the league today. And these kids coming in, this is a renowned class.
You wonder if you're done after this, though. You wonder if you're done for the first round.
I don't think so. I bet we could see at least one more. Yeah. Guyton's a guy that people talked about in the first round.
I just wanted to say Suamataia because I worked on it. So that was
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank God.
Oh, I hope so. And for one reason and one reason alone.
Adam is a 5-star. Let's go. Oh, God.
I think Roger Goodell's moving a little bit better.
You think so? I think he's moved slower. So every time he's coming back.
No, where's the cortisone shot?
Yeah, I was going to say. Toradol. Chase his own medicine, right?
I wasn't going to say Toradol. Damn, Toradol.
I need to see him walk up the next time because honestly, it got so slow that I just stopped watching.
I thought he looked pretty good coming up here with the Bengals one. So keep your eye out. I want your scouting notes on pick 19.
I want to see a close-up and make sure
honestly,
it's actually Roger.
the hug looked like it hurt back surgery or not. You know what I mean? That looked like one of those, like, yo, put me down.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, is there a Roger body double we don't know about that's maybe walking out?
It's a Roger body double.
What is your browser screen here? What sites are you looking at, buddy? I want to know. Hey, what Reddit boards you in?
We don't have the audio, but like Roger's like limping. Are they still booing him? Like the guy
booing the guy. Hey man, I'm not
longest boo.
I'm not gonna feel bad for you if your salary's that high and you get booed. That's fine.
With the pick-in, I do want to say this real quick. With the Marius Mims at home with his family, I think it's such a beautiful moment. We get so caught up every year in like who's going to Detroit in this situation. I almost said New York, force of habit. We get so caught up in who's going to the draft. It takes so many people that sacrifice so much to give these kids this opportunity. Like these grown men that are going into the league. Yeah. I just think it's a beautiful. Like when you see that whole crew of people and you know that they're around everybody that loves them, that helped them get there. I think it's one of the most beautiful things about the draft.
Yeah, it is. It took me back, because I remember when I had my little draft party. It wasn't that big, but, I had a small draft party at my house. And, being a small town kid, being a 5-star and having the opportunity to play for Alabama, win national championships, and then, bring it all back to where it started and just celebrate with my closest people, my closest friends, family, you know what I mean? It's a special moment that you won't forget. I know a lot of people, love the idea of going to the draft and walking the stage and everything, and I'm sure that that's a great experience as well, but, I can speak to being there with your family and having the people that you love and cherish the most around you.
While we're waiting on the Rams pick, so tell the people about what happened to you after you got drafted and when you were going to the big party.
Oh, man, yeah, this is like the most Bill Belichick New England Patriots stuff of all time. So naturally, of course, I had plans to have a big party, you know what I mean? We rented out some spots in Lexington, Kentucky. We were going to get down, me and a couple people. I remember I had a Suburban at the time, one of the big body Suburbans, and, we piled some people in there. We're like, yeah, let's go rent out this place. Let's get some hotel rooms. We're going to stay in the city. We're going to have a good time. We're going to celebrate. Boom, 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 whatever. Driving on the interstate, I get a call from Miss Nancy Myers. I'm like, hello, Damien. Coach Belichick wants you on the first flight at 6:30 in the morning. And I'm just driving, just like, I got to turn around and go back home. What are you doing? You know what I mean? So honestly, though, this is the type of guy I am. I'm very unselfish. So I still proceeded to take the people that I had with me, my little entourage. I took them out. I let them enjoy it. I went back home. I don't even feel like I had enough time to sleep. You know what I mean? Yeah. I got home. I was still excited. I was packing some clothes, and then I was on a flight to New England the next morning. So
that's crazy.
I still need to celebrate.
That's a beautiful. You're just a good person.
I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy.
We've learned that quickly, like hanging out. Like you've got that aura of kindness. Unlike C-Rob, what do you want? What do you want, C-Rob?
I'm waiting my turn. All right. I sit here for minutes.
Patiently waiting.
Okay, come on.
Enough about Damien being nice.
Jared Verse is going to be an LA Ram. The FSU edge. So
I love this. I think there's certain guys that, I'm going to be honest, I root for. And the first time I talked to Jared Verse at the beginning of this year, college football season, you talked to him and you realized that he was playing small ball, like not a lot of people were paying attention to him. And he popped on film, taking on, a larger opponent. COVID hits, he sits in his garage, figures out a makeshift way to add size, spends every day working out to get that anger and aggression of not being able to play out, finds himself at Florida State. He's worked his ass off for every single step of the rise that he has had. I root for this kid. I hope he goes in and just tears up the league, because you spend 10 minutes talking to him and you realize that this is a kid that has the respect for the game, as Dame keeps saying, but also just has the fire in his belly for greatness.
He went to a high school about an hour from where I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania, literally cornfields across the street. He grew up right by Julian Fleming in Elysburg and Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. Had no offers. An hour east of Penn State. They didn't give him a look. 6'4", 240 in high school. Had to go to Albany. Had to make it there. And then he made it there, which is fine, but that doesn't make him a first-round NFL draft pick. Then he had the courage. And Florida State took a shot on him. He goes there, 89 tackles, 18 sacks or 19 sacks in 2 years. a complete bull off the edge. He is a monster, and he plays like he still has that edge, like no one respects him, which you have to love, and I think that's a perfect pick.
And he could have come out last year, but he chose to return to Florida State because he really felt like they had the shot this year to do something special. And not for nothing, they did. Like, I mean, we sometimes forget how everything ended in Florida State's season. Like, he went back because he loved his teammates and wanted to win a national championship and felt like and I even asked him about the risk of going back and what if it hurts your draft stock. And his response was something to the effect of, yeah, but what if I hadn't come back and I never had a shot to win a national championship? Like, I just there's something beautiful about the way he just loves what he does that, man, C-Rob, I root for him.
And not only that, I think it is a testament to not having to go, right? Like when you can, right? And I'll give you a guy. Well, obviously the pick's coming up right now. We'll wait for this. Watch. Yeah, I'm watching.
Goodell was moving.
Dude, he is. Yo, he's moving slow.
Christmas, yo. Slow as Christmas.
JC Latham busted this dude up.
he really messed his whole spine up.
You're gonna be having surgery tonight.
And there it is. The pick is in, Jared Verse.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So the Rams, real quick on this. Verse, Byron Murphy, and Dallas Turner were those three guys in a block that I think, and they were making calls to potentially get up to take. I think it was Byron Murphy. Then when that happened, obviously there wasn't the ability to get him. They lost him at 16. Then they lost Verse. It's like you're starting to lose all these pieces that you're potentially moving up for. But again, with Verse going back, I think of him when I think of Chop Robinson, okay? Because Chop Robinson, we'll see where Chop Robinson comes off here. But he was a guy who I had a few evaluators say, look, if he goes back to Penn State, there's a lot of raw stuff here that you really like, but if he goes back to Penn State, this is a guy potentially like a top 5 pick, top 10 pick next year. Now we'll see where Chop Robinson comes off, and I know all about starting the free agency clock early and all these different things, but Verse was not going to be a first-round pick last year. Like he could have gone, but I don't think he would have been a first-round pick, and you don't ultimately know where he would have ended up. And now he ends up in LA. I think this is a great selection, and I think it's also a sign to everyone. This is how they're going to start to rebuild their defense now that Aaron Donald is gone. They know they have to restructure how they attack people. They want to have edges. They're not going to be able to just depend on Aaron Donald picking up 2-3 blocks inside and freeing up. They need people who can beat blocks, who can get off, who are going to get doubled on the edge and be able to handle it.
Versus 23.5. Does that matter as much on defense or not really?
I mean, any older player, like the COVID era, all those guys that are a little bit older, that's factored into the whole situation because, again, when evaluators are watching tape and they're seeing them beat certain guys, sometimes they're going, okay, he's 23 and he just beat a 19 or 20-year-old. Yeah. There's a difference between 19 and 20 and 23. I'm sure for you were like, 19-year-old Damien Harris was not the same as 23-year-old Damien Harris, right?
Man, a lot of ways, on and off the field.
Okay, all right. But yeah, so I think there's an element of the age. Like if he was 20 right now and had done what he did, then you get more projection into it when you have a 20. If you're sitting there looking at his numbers, you're saying he's only 20. Like, oh my God. Like I remember when Moby Okoye came out years and years ago out of Louisville. I think he was 19. Yeah. Like when he went into the draft, and for him, they're like, look at where this guy is physically, 19, 20 years old. Where's he going to be? And they got the projection. He was a good player, solid player for a time, but the production never really caught up to where he was going.
Question for the room, as we are now 20 picks in. We're flying through this thing at this point. Charles Robinson, by the way, obviously giving us all the breakdowns. And if you're just tuning in, has been giving it to us like 10 minutes before the picks are actually in. Matt Harmon giving us all the expertise we can handle on the fantasy side, breaking down wide receivers too. Damien Harris coming straight off the field to come hang out with us with the player perspective. Adam Gorney giving us all the rivals perspective you can ask for. I'm Jason Fitz. We're here for every single pick. And make sure you're hanging out with us in the Yahoo Sports app, also where we have emojis. If you're an iPhone user, you can get out there and give emoji reactions to every pick. You can see how other fans are breaking down the picks, how fans of that particular team are breaking it down, an immediate grade from Yahoo Sports. And, of course, you'll see some of our reactions. We are still getting the emojis in even as we go. We are 20 picks in. Again, the record, 5 quarterbacks in the first 10, 6 quarterbacks in the first 12. It's pushed everything back. Not a single corner has gone off.
Let's have the corner conversation. Troy Fatuanu is going to. Troy.
Fautanu.
There's at least 3 names that I was going to butcher. You took one of them. Thank God. This was a second. Where were you on that?
Yeah, well,
Fautanu, is going to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So another offensive lineman goes off the board to the Steelers. I don't think that's a huge surprise, right? Like,
no. This is a team that, number one, is needed to address the offensive line and did in the previous year's draft, so that was a good start, but it wasn't a finishing move. This is more along that lines, and we know what Arthur Smith wants to do. He wants to establish the run. There's no question about that. And I mean, when you're Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is going to be your quarterback, you're going to want to run the ball. They have 2 running backs back there that I think are certainly in fantasy are going to be pretty exciting. So Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, both these guys could be potential starting RB2s in fantasy, and this team's going to push to lead the NFL in rush attempts this year. And obviously addressing the offensive line here was going to be a critical part of that.
Yeah, but a huge guy. I mean, he's huge. The Athletic had him as the #1 rated guard.
Yeah. That's the curious thing about him. Where is he going to play?
Yeah,
is he going to be a tackle? They take Broderick Jones in last year's draft class. Is he going to kick inside? Because I think you could maybe potentially argue both sides of it. Is he better off at tackle? Is he better off at guard? And I think they could use help at both positions.
I kind of don't care where he ends up. I'll go back to the point that I made earlier, but look at the money that went to guards this offseason in free agency.
Robert Hunt, $100 million man, did not see that one coming.
If Robert Hunt's worth $100 million, then a guard's worth a first-round draft pick just to try. That's real. So obviously, take us back to his days as a wee little lad.
Yeah, he was never wee. He's 6'4", 289 in high school. And again, in 2019, we were looking at these guys that, is he a guard, is he a tackle? That's going to be a knock on his ranking, actually. It was sort of an old way of thinking, and now it's great. Like Matt said, if he needs to play guard, he could play guard. If he can move out to tackle and play tackle, he played some defensive tackle in high school. And what I liked about him, he was from Henderson Liberty in Nevada. He just wanted to get after people. He was another one of these kids that just looked to put people on the ground, didn't apologize about it. I kick myself. I wrote it just today. I kick myself for not making him a 4-star at least. And having him as a high 3 because we weren't sure if he was going to project. Only 6'4" in high school, so I give myself some defense for that. But definitely a 4-star talent with that athleticism and just that toughness.
We've already broken down the pick, and they haven't even announced it. That's how we're doing here. So I want to go back to this. Go ahead.
Gets back to the Steelers, right? I mean, this gets back to their template. Here's the thing about this pick that I think is interesting. It was, you would hear a lot of other teams would connect, they're going to take a receiver, right? They have to, you look at the receiver room, it's basically, you got one big play guy, but he's also potentially a problem at any given moment, and now you have to make it work with Russ. To me, this is the Steelers I've known for 20 years, right? Build the lines, build the offensive line, build the defensive line, build the edge, and go from there.
And I think
are they going to make it work with Russ? What's the over-under here?
We don't know because now we know what we know is.
Whatever it is, I'll take the under.
I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Look
Look at him putting his hands behind his back. You're like, I ain't going to hug you, don't worry.
He's hurt, guys.
Yeah, you're right. I misspoke. He definitely is not walking any better there. But it's interesting with this Steelers offense too, because they definitely have a hole at the receiver position, Charles. But you look at the guys that they've hit on, and I know we talk about the Steelers and their history with wide receivers, and it is good, but I think it's a little bit more myth than reality. They've had their fair share of misses. I think we count Chase Claypool as a miss, right? They took Marcus Wheaton on day 2 years ago. Many years ago, Lima Swede, right? So we've seen them. Sammy Coates at Auburn. They've had their fair share of duds, but when they've hit, it's been on day 2. Deontay Johnson obviously was a good player for them for a long time. Day 2 draft pick. George Pickens, like you mentioned, volatile for sure, but still day 2 draft pick. So I think that's when they'll take a receiver.
I just keep thinking, though, how pissed off am I if I'm, at this point, I'm Justin Fields, and I'm looking over and I'm like, you've acquired who for the Bears? And you've added what for the Bears? And you brought in, and now you, it's just such a different situation.
But if you ever think back to Justin Fields' first start in his first year, what happened to him? Driven into the dirt consistently by Myles Garrett and the guys. So I think if I'm Justin Fields, I'm thinking, okay, I'll figure it out with old Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson and these guys, as long as I'm not getting crushed like I was earlier in my career.
They gave him DJ. It wasn't like they bailed, okay? They did give him DJ Moore. It was, now granted, the line, you could say the same thing about Rodgers. Rodgers goes to the Jets. They did not. They put him in a situation where he dealt with the same thing Zach Wilson had dealt with the year before. The line's still bad, so we just all thought, oh, Rodgers can overcome it. Yeah, about 30 seconds into this season, he couldn't overcome it. So.
Oh, God, like, Jets fans still have so much, which is why, by the way, I think we all agreed that, like, the Jets picking a fat guy made a lot of sense this year. Yeah. Like, you know, and I say fat guy, it's a term of endearment, by the way. I realize I keep calling them all fat, and they can all just murder me.
Yeah. You're the only one. That ain't come out of nobody else's mouth. Just you.
That's probably pretty fair. I will say, again, because of the way the board has just sort of shifted, I think teams got to be surprised, right, that Terry and Arnold and Quinion Mitchell are both just still sitting there. Like, the top two corners in this draft right now, like, we talk all the time about trade up for quarterback. And I understand that that's a large part of the conversation when you get to the lower third of the NFL draft. We're not in that situation because 6 went in the first 12 picks, and, you know, we can debate that all day long. There is first-round talent right now that is sitting around that I just think if you're the Eagles right now, you're sitting around saying, glory be to God, we need a corner, and you're telling me we have our pick of the draft?
Yeah, not only that. Yeah, Philly's sitting there, and they were a move-up team, right? Like, that's what we were hearing. Hey, they could potentially deal up. Some respected mocks had them moving up to, like, top 10, 12 range. Is that Arnold, Terry and Arnold? Is that Quinion Mitchell? If they're looking for a corner, sit here right now, and one of them's going to come to you, right, in the next couple of picks. So Eagles are probably another team, too, given what's sitting there at the cornerbacks, having one of those top two cornerbacks who I think we're closely rated for some teams, you know. And in the pre-draft meetings, I told you, like, some teams really like Quinion, or they're like at the combine, he couldn't catch. Like, he's dropping balls, and we got to have guys that catch it, whereas Arnold was catching everything. And but that was really what separated those two. Either way, the Eagles not necessarily having to move to get the corner if that's what they're looking for.
And then Brian Thomas, you know, runs that great time in Indy, and he's still sitting there. And the Texas receivers are still sitting there. Ladd McConkey's still sitting there. So there could be a run here at the end here.
At pick 21 here, Miami. It's a tough team to get a read on, in my opinion. I do think there's a little part of Mike McDaniel, and if I'm in that room, I'm definitely trying to, like, hold him down. Like, you are not getting on that phone and calling Xavier Worthy, okay? Like, I know you love speed, but, like, let's come back to the eat your vegetables phrase again. Like, that is that's eating the candy for that pick right there. Like,
it is, but
no nutritional value.
But for 1 second, let's go ahead and dream of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Xavier Worthy on the field.
And dream of them getting knocked down the first round of playoffs again.
I just feel like all three of us pole position. Just go straight.
Just go.
He's really just trying to play Madden on a field. That's it's all go all the time.
And then when they can't protect Tua late in the season and they can't run the ball consistently in cold weather, then we'll be having the same conversation, even though they got the fastest player in the draft.
Yeah, but, like, the weird part about it is, okay, let's say you're the Dolphins and you really wanted an offensive lineman. You can take, like, the 7th best offensive lineman in this draft, or you could take as C-Rob's just like
I'm not saying anything.
Dancing with this paper.
No, finish.
I
appreciate that. You know?
Okay, that's not my fault. Production. I didn't have anything to do with that. I'm not jumping in front of them.
Are you being told? A
little bit. I got yelled at a little bit.
Who yelled at you?
Wow.
Interrupting is good.
Wow.
Chop Robinson goes to the Miami Dolphins at 21. So
makes a lot of sense, right? After losing both of their edge rushers to season-ending injuries last year.
It feels right. Like, it feels right, and it feels like a right value, doesn't it? I mean, like, Chop at this point in the draft is like, I can't find a negative to that. Like, this actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Big upside guy, definitely raw projection. Transferred into Penn State.
Classic Penn State.
Out of Maryland, right?
Yeah.
You go to Maryland. He was a big. What was his? Was he a 4-star?
4-star kid.
4-star. Yeah, but I mean, flashed at Maryland, goes to Penn State, and then just shows. I had an evaluator who said, "Look, I was looking at Penn State too. I'm trying to evaluate the linebackers," and he's like, "I keep." I keep looking at this guy, and it's like chop, and I'm like, I'm trying to get my linebacker work done, but I'm looking at this other guy who I'm like, oh my God, these traits I'm seeing on the, with him, he's not fully there yet. And as I told you, it was a GM who told me, like, if he goes back, potentially as a top 5, top 10 pick.
Yeah, and
1 year from now.
And a 4-star, and we ranked him as an outside linebacker actually, because he was only 220 pounds. In high school, which is even more of a credit to him. He hasn't played the position for all that long,
That's part of that
he's
raw
been
and
so dominant.
Yeah. Yep.
Miami's undergoing a defensive transition in terms of identity too, right? Like Vic Fangio, they mutually agree to part ways or whatever. He goes to Philadelphia after the season is over, and they bring in Anthony Weaver off that Baltimore Ravens tree. Like, make no mistake, everybody you talk to in the league right now, whether this is going to work out or not, like it did when everybody wanted Brandon Staley's defense and the offshoot of that didn't really work out in certain places, but everybody wants what the Ravens did on defense last year. So you get a defensive coordinator in here, you get a defensive player with that first draft pick under the regime here. They're starting to try to build something different.
It is interesting. He transferred from Maryland because they wanted to change his position, right? Like they wanted to move him to linebacker. So, and he didn't want to do that, which I respect in this, but it's also such a reminder of part of this evaluation process. Like when you're a player and you're going through different coaches and they're trying to get you to do different things, we keep talking about scheme and how much it matters. Like it's interesting because that college experience likely limits some of the way he's seen going into the pros, and then we'll have to figure out where he belongs there. But like systems matter for these guys.
Yeah, and I mean that's the important thing as a player is like you want to be drafted by a team that's going to utilize your skill set and bring the most out of you. You know what I mean? Guys are aware they don't want to go into a bad situation. You know what I mean? As a receiver, you don't want to get drafted by a team that doesn't have a good quarterback, or vice versa. You know, you don't want to feel like a team is just drafting you just to draft you. They don't have a plan for you. They don't have a rhyme or a reason. You know what I mean? Like that's not what you want. You want to be confident in the team that's drafting you has a plan for you. They're going to lay the foundation for you to make yourself as successful as possible and give you the tools and the resources to be your best.
And at almost 6'3", 254, he ran 4.48 at the combine. So there's some burst.
There's some blazing.
Yeah, that 40, you're like, holy crap. Like, this dude is massive.
Again, though, classic Penn State, right?
Blazing.
Like athletic phenom, but the resume.
Just the
Never won a
thought,
big game.
like, the thought of how many people sit there and we all do it, but like the amount of fans that are sitting there that like can barely get off the couch and they're yelling at him for being too slow at this or too bad at that. And it's like, man, some of these guys that are twice your weight can just outrun the best thing you could ever imagine in your life. And it's just such a reminder. We already know the pick. The pick is in, obviously, and it's chopped. So we continue to have a little bit of a run on defensive players, not to run on wide receivers that we expected. You're good. They resisted the temptation to take it.
You see Mike McDaniel and that little bit over there?
Drop an F-bomb, maybe?
I saw him kind of just.
Yeah.
Man, I really wanted the speed guy. I mean, come on.
The responsible pick was made, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't.
Oh, nice jacket.
Hell of a jacket.
I like that jacket.
That's a fly
Franklin,
suit.
is that James Franklin there?
Are we giving that fire, by the way? Like, there's not
no.
the jacket. The jacket gets fire, but the pick itself. Does the pick get fire?
Yeah, James Franklin.
Yeah, because they did the responsible thing.
Okay, no, we'll give him the fire.
I think that's the first time I've ever seen like a college head coach at somebody's
Man,
house.
does he know how to do it? The recruiting part, he's got down. National television, you know, he's in the living room. Everybody's watching. All the recruits are watching tonight. James Franklin knows how to recruit.
Dolphins fans love it, by the way. In the emojis on Chop, I'm a little bit stunned. Go out to the Yahoo Sports app. If you're an iPhone user, you can see it. I gave it fire, and that's fine. The overall general population gave it 72% fire. Dolphins fans, 91% fire. Dolphins fans wanted Chop, and they got Chop.
Do you think they see this as a potential, I don't want to say replacement, but Jalen Phillips got hurt last year.
That's it.
He
No,
was
absolutely.
I mean, that was a kid who even I, as a player, like we circled him on every scouting report. Like this guy is a problem. Like he's their best rusher. He's a young guy, but he's great.
I think it's insurance. Okay, so that's another thing too. Phillips, it gives you a little cushion. Like let Phillips
Give him
heal,
time.
get him where he needs to be.
time.
And by the way, we talked about the gap years sometimes with the knee injuries.
Yep.
Maybe he's not going to be back to fully what he was in 2025.
Yeah.
But you have Chop that gives Chop a lot of ability. He's going to get snaps, time to, he's raw. What do you need when you're raw? You got to develop. You got to be out there playing.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody's ever going to complain about too much depth either if you're talking about rusher. Like
Especially an edge rusher. I mean,
You lost Christian Wilkins too. Like, I know it's not a different position, interior, but still, I mean
it's
that
pocket penetration.
Exactly right. So that, and again, Bradley Chubb also hurt last year too. Also coming out.
I mean,
with
the top two defenders up front right now. I mean, Phillips and Chubb, and they're both
coming off season-ending injuries.
they're injury guys, right?
And I love what you said about circling guys, because I always go back to when I worked a bunch with Harry Douglas. Harry always said with the Falcons, day one of installation was game wreckers.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the first thing they looked at was, who are your game wreckers? And his whole point was, if a team you were facing didn't have any, it changed your entire installation for the week. You got ahead because you were like, hey, we don't have to figure out any special things.
Right.
So we're like, it made the entire practice week easier by not, if you were facing a team that didn't have them. I think edge rushers, particularly in the league, have become so dominant that it changes the whole way your prep week works.
And that's usually where it starts. When you circle guys who can wreck a game, it always starts up front, whether it be interior or edge. Up front is usually where the game wrecking begins. You know what I mean? And like it's the inverse of offense, right? We talk about offensive line. They set the tone for the offense. They set the identity for what the offense is going to be. On the inverse, you know, your guys on defense, your edge guys, your nose tackles, your guys up front, they really set the tone for it. Getting to the quarterback, getting TFLs, you know, tackling the runners for loss. So, you know, I think this is a good pick.
The clock is running down on the Eagles. They're down to under 2 minutes to make the pick, the 22nd overall pick in this year's draft, obviously. But again, I will stress, if they want a corner, they've got it.
Right.
I mean,
They're pick of the litter.
everything is there. So that is obviously a big part of it. By the way, just to reset, we have Charles Robinson, Matt Harmon, Damien Harris, Adam Gorney. I'm Jason Fitz. To be completely transparent, they said something in my ear right there, and I didn't hear it. So I don't know if they're trying to tell me. There's a tweet. There's a tweet for me to look at. Look, I mean, if I can't just share this, let's see. Andrew Officer. I'm at the. Oh, Darius Slay tweet. I don't see the Darius Slay tweet. So, well, there's a Darius Slay tweet. This is riveting, I know, but we'll get this tweet up. We've got a tweet coming for you from this. Let's see if I can find it.
Well,
in the meantime, y'all.
I mean, I guess we could talk amongst ourselves here instead of letting old Fitz drown here. But no, it is really interesting, right? Like if they take a corner here, it makes a ton of sense because it's a position of need, and that whole defense last year suddenly turned into from a great unit during that Super Bowl run to like a true mess last year.
We have the tweet, by the way. They were telling me Darius Slay tweeted, damn, no DB in the first 20 picks, ... It's a lot dogs in the class. I just had to read it as properly, like, just to make everybody slightly uncomfortable. Darius Slay making the point, no DBs taken in the first 20 picks. I can't imagine why he would say that, but that is true, and here we sit, you know?
Yeah. The one thing I would say, though, about they're taking Quinyon Mitchell, by the way.
Where's the button?
Like I couldn't even that was so on the line.
I'm
that
waiting.
wasn't even worth.
I told you guys I'm waiting.
That wasn't even worth a button.
I am waiting to break in on picks. I'm letting everybody finish the conversation first.
I think we need a real announcement though, because that was kind of weird.
Okay. All right. The Eagles are taking Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo. Quinyon Mitchell was the guy when we picked the All Juice team this year, which we do in honor of Trez Paler. He was the closest, like years ago, Jalen Petrie, the safety out of Baylor, I had 12 guys in a row say, when I asked them for names, they named Jalen Petrie. Quinyon was not 12 in a row, but he was pretty close. It was like he was like 7, which is a lot. It was like 7 straight evaluators were like, Quinyon Mitchell he's a dog. Like he's now one scout said to me, this was great. He said, when I met him and I talked to him, seemed a little quiet. And he was like, I'm at Senior Bowl, and his game was loud as hell. Yeah. And that's exactly what I would love in a player. Like, hey, quiet with all the BS, loud on the field where it matters. Had a fantastic Senior Bowl week. I mean, absolutely nuked it. It was like he was everywhere. The one concern, though, was there were some guys that were like, hey, at the combine, not catching some of the balls that are hitting his hands. That's going to be important. I hope, hopefully that's not reflective of maybe where things go. But coverage-wise, I think there's a ton to love.
See, Rob, how much do NFL guys care? He shut down guys at Toledo, and it's not hard to beat the Eastern Michigans and Bowling Greens and Terrion Arnold. I wonder if Terrion Arnold's 4.5 and his 4.33 was the difference in this pick.
It's interesting because I thought, given the choice of these two players for Howie Roseman, he's plunged into the SEC pretty hard the last couple of years. And I was like, man, he's taking kids from big programs, successful programs. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's the way he's leaning. This is where this is going to go. But this is quintessential Howie Roseman.
Yeah.
He zigs when you zag, right? Like he's constantly making phone calls. He's always involved in a draft process. I wonder if part of the reason why it took time to make this pick is because he's like, I'm going the full 10 minutes. Like maybe we can trade back and still get this guy at 25. But yeah, I think it's I think it's a concern, but he was dominant, right? Like, that's the thing. If you're playing that level and you're dominant, when Max Crosby was at Eastern Michigan, I loved Max Crosby, and he went 4th, 5th round. After we did that draft show, they're like, who's the sleeper? I was like, Max Crosby. I know Eastern Michigan, you guys haven't heard about this guy, but he was dominant, and he's like a nasty dude who's going to fit it. Now, I didn't think he would be what he became. Sure.
But that's why that Senior Bowl week was so important for him, right? Because that's where you see more level of competition, right? And you had guys like, man, Ladd McConkey, Terrence.
He wasn't a first before the Senior Bowl week. I truly believe that.
Yeah, and so that, I think, helps address some of those level of competition questions because you see him go against the best of the best in the All-Star circuit.
Also, not for nothing, how rare is it that it happens to be the board has fallen to you?
Yeah.
You're 22.
Yeah.
Your biggest need
If they had moved
as the best player. Like,
if they had moved up to 12, 15, we'd have been like, oh yeah, okay. They moved up to get the top corner that we thought could come off the board. Instead, you get them at 22, and you know what? The Eagles, like they do every year, they're going to get an A because people are going to say, we love this class. You waited in position.
Look, with one major glaring exception, this has been a best player available draft.
Perfect.
He looks pissed.
Yeah.
He looks like Quinion looks.
He's like,
Yeah.
All right, so here's something interesting because we have seen a run on defensive players, but coming into the draft, there were some expectations from BetMGM as they looked at the possible different positions across the board and how many were expected to be selected. For example, quarterbacks, so the number was 4.5. Well, we hammered that. We got to 6 in the first 12. But look at that wide receiver number, right? Like that wide receiver number, right now we're nowhere near that. Like we would need a serious run right now. If you look at that 6.5, man, that's hard to get. I'm not surprised with the offensive linemen and the offensive players overall shows you what we expected. But
Jacksonville's a wide receiver need there, right? So you like right here, if a wideout doesn't go to Jacksonville, I don't know that Dallas. You're not. You're taking a wide receiver.
It would not totally surprise me, but yeah, it'd probably be a stretch.
Okay, Green Bay, they're chalked, right? They already have too many guys. I'm trying to figure out someone's the odd man out in that wide receiver room as it is. Tampa Bay, it's right now the way that it's stacking up, it's definitely not
Going over.
Yeah, 7 is a huge stretch. I think under.
That goes back to what I asked yesterday. Does Buffalo need a receiver?
I think they do.
I think they do. But anyway, you want to shake it. This is supposed to be a historic. I'm not even saying it's supposed
Historic
to be.
receiver draft.
The concept
Absolutely.
is historic receiver draft.
Yeah.
I just think we need to start adjusting right now because of the way the board fell and because of the run on quarterbacks. Some of these historic wide receivers are going to be available at 33, 34, 35.
I was just going to say that. This feels like everybody revisits their board going into tomorrow and goes, I can't believe these Texas receivers are here. I can't believe Brian Thomas is still here. And they're going to take a run at him early.
And some of these teams that went quarterback early, like the Patriots are going to look really smart if they're sitting there and all of a sudden it's like, oh, what do you know? The 5th best wide receiver in the draft is still sitting there for us with the 3rd pick in the 2nd round.
Carolina's dying to surround Bryce Young with some talent. They're at 33 overall. Like they'll be.
Look, Kansas City sitting there right now going, all right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right.
But your point about Buffalo, Damien, is interesting because like, do they need a receiver? I think the answer is yes, but how much do they need a receiver?
This
right?
is the conversation we were having yesterday.
Exactly,
do
because
they or don't they?
I think they do need a receiver, but. Again, I will say this: I'm the world's foremost Curtis Samuel sicko,
right.
So maybe I'm a biased opinion here, and I really like Khalil Shakir. I think that guy can play, super efficient.
What about Dalton Kincaid?
Kincaid's good. He's a tight end, but he's good. So the thing is, though, beyond those two guys, we're talking about like Mac Hollins, special teamer career-wise, and I think they could use one like outside X receiver. Is that A.D. Mitchell late in the first round? Maybe. Is it Javon Baker on day 2? Also, maybe, potentially. So I think they got to add a receiver at some point. But is it a screaming need that they have to do here at the end of round 1? The fan base would tell you yes. I don't know.
Would they?
We know the Jaguars need a receiver, right?
Yes.
Yes.
They don't need a receiver. They're taking Brian Thomas.
That makes all the sense.
That makes sense.
Button? Do we want to do Button for that?
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Hey, you know what?
It's these
The Button
monotone
is-
announcements.
It's nice in his hands. Like, we like it a lot more when it's in
See,
his
I'm not going to
hands.
overdo it. If it needs to be
Responsible
done.
use here.
Come on,
exactly.
Come on.
Fitz. Like I said about his haircut, looks like he's always fast, even if he's standing.
You know what? My hair is perfect. It's flawless, by the way. Shout out. It looks really good. I'm happy with it. I'm pleased with it. And your button usage is good, but not great. Like, you could use a little more flair with the way you use it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, like maybe just like get a little more into it. Like
I think you're doing just fine. Don't let this guy, talk to you like that. You're doing great with the button.
I got a bum knee guy over here trying to tell me how to do the button thing. I don't know. Like I don't know how I feel about this.
Isn't it funny that we talked about I said, oh, that makes all the sense in the world. Brian Thomas taken, by the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have spent more money at the wide receiver position, especially on the open market, than almost anybody the last few years, right? Like, they signed Christian Kirk, they signed Gabe Davis, they signed Zay Jones. Last year, obviously, they have Calvin Ridley in place. Still need another receiver, which is true. Objectively is true. I think it does make you question the team building process, but they needed a guy that they could develop into a true one.
My God, we're at a spot where we're questioning Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like the most sure prospect we can remember, and we're like,
what do we think? There's a contract extension looming for him right now on top of all this. Like, we're not just questioning Trevor Lawrence. We're saying, is Trevor Lawrence it? Oh, we're also looking at the extension after year 3, and quarterbacks now are going to make $50 to $55 million APY. That's a scary question to be asking yourself. Keep giving him assets.
And if we took the Trevor Lawrence name off the back of the jersey, if we took everything we presumed about Trevor Lawrence off of his accomplishments so far in the league, there is no way in my mind that you could justify making him a $45 million contract. And that, maybe it's still there, but it just hasn't happened yet.
True. And here's the thing on Thomas and why it's a great pick. Basketball kid in high school, said he had 4.4 speed, and you're always like, yeah, right, you're a 4.62 kind of guy. Runs 4.33 at the combine. And we all talk Malik Nabers. Brian Thomas is here. 68 catches, 1177, 17 touchdowns.
All
vertical all
too.
day.
Yeah,
so you have Kirk there. This is a big weapon for Trevor.
Now, I think this is the right spot for Brian Thomas, too, because in my opinion, he's going to have to grow a little bit, right?
Yeah.
When I charted him for reception perception, 67% of his routes were a go, a curl, or a slant. That is a very stripped down route tree. But you look at DK Metcalf's rookie year, that's kind of, I think, a usage comparison. 67% of the routes in his rookie season in reception perception, slant, curl, go. So you put him on that developmental path, and you have legit other target earners. He doesn't have to come in here and be the day one number one receiver, because Christian Kirk's a high-volume slot receiver. Evan Ingram, they did sign Gabe Davis. I do think Gabe Davis, though, is a vertical player, so a little overlap there, but this is definitely someone that can come in here and grow and develop. Maybe he isn't going to be a 1,000-yard receiver in his first year, but he doesn't have to be that to be a successful pick here for Jacksonville.
I just find myself every time with teams saying, if you believe you have your young quarterback, you have an obligation to surround them with as much talent as possible to figure out if you got your guy. And then over time, it's supposed to be like the teeter-totter, right? It goes from everybody lifts up the quarterback to the quarterback lifts everybody up. That's the process. I thought as high as anybody did at Trevor Lawrence coming in. It was high, it was can't miss. If I'm the Jags right now, I still got to surround him with a bunch of talent because I don't know. And the cost of quarterbacks, I want to know. It'd be easier to say yay, Trevor Lawrence is the guy. But what have we seen to prove that? So this pick is a good one. It's just until we know what Trevor Lawrence is, I don't know that we know who the Jags are.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Trevor Lawrence, he's good, you know what I mean? But if you take the name off the back of the jersey and just look at overall body of work, what he's done, I'm not sold that he's the guy that's going to earn $50 to $55 million a year. I'm not sure he's in that conversation. I'm sure that, he's still going to need these guys to show up around him. Like you said, they're having to add talent around him, and we have to evaluate if the talent around him can come through and help elevate him right now, because I don't think that he's at a level where he's lifting everybody up around him.
Question for C-Rob. Diana Rossini tweeting out the Texans who don't have a first-round pick have been working the phones trying to get into the first round. Any idea for what?
They could use offensive line depth. Actually, give me 1 second.
They could probably use a cornerstone defensive piece there, too, maybe a Cooper DeJean, versatile player on the back end, someone like that, because they feel offensively like they're set.
Corner, interior, offensive line, tight end, defensive line. So, Terry Arnold.
Thinking corner.
Right?
Corner.
Yeah,
that
would
make if they're able to get back in.
Because Stingley was real good in man coverage situations last year. The more he got comfortable, I think, in that defense, the better he played. Put somebody on the other side of him. Now you're cooking.
Yeah, I think so.
Cowboys on the clock. Any guesses, C-Rob?
They're a little bit of a wild card, honestly, because even though I would say, hey, no wide receiver, Xavier Worthy.
Could you imagine?
I can't. But I'm like,
sexy. It would be.
every time I sit there and try to nail down what I think the Cowboys are going to do.
I mean, the leaves are falling. Jerry's an option quarterback. I mean, you got all kinds of.
Look, wide receiver. I mean, it's not that it's not a need. It's just not necessarily your top need there. But
because the fan base definitely wants an offensive lineman.
Offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and wide receiver. Now, to me, there's no.
Does he love Worthy here? Does he want Worthy here? Texas kid? Be interesting.
I think it's an appealing idea to me. If I would I would do a lot of things if I were Jerry Jones, but if I were him, I would think about it.
Look,
what are some of the other things?
I'd be on that boat every day. But I think about it.
This is where I'll say for the 1,000th time on a Yahoo show, I think the demise of the Cowboys is absolutely wildly overstated. Everybody keeps talking about they didn't go all in this offseason. Well, okay, what does that even mean? But realistically, even if they didn't, why does that mean they're going to lose a bunch more games next year than they did this year? Like, they were a very good football team. Is there any one player in this year's draft that's going to help them get over the hump in the playoffs? No. But, like, is there anything that's happened there that makes me think they win less than 10, 12 games? I mean, that's what. Why are they going to take some drastic step back? They've been fine this offseason.
They've been fine. I think it's mostly the contract drama, stuff like that, the constant, Cowboys over spotlight situation. But you're talking about, like, they need a lot of players. This could be a trade down spot, too. Like, we're talking about Houston's maybe trying to come up. They could trade down if they're looking to add a lineman, a wide receiver. That we know they want a running back on day 2. We know they need a running back on day 2. So it could be potentially a spot to come down here.
Nick Saban had a great quote. He said about Quinyon Mitchell, he was our #1 guy in the portal last year, but he never got in the portal. They're recruiting rosters. Everybody just recruits rosters, man. It's crazy.
Think of what he could have probably made in the portal, right?
Yeah.
My God! I don't think that Toledo money is the same as maybe a few of the Lord shineth.
Look, I was in when they first opened the new stadium. We did a show there at the time, like a private event, and I remember Jerry Jones showed everybody the system that helps them with power in case they lose everything, the generators, right? And he was like, if the entire state of Texas loses power in like 3 seconds, that stadium is immediately lit up. And his quote to us that I'll never forget is he said, we got to make sure that God can see the Cowboys no matter how dark it gets. So, like, look, Cowboys on the clock, lights come on. I mean, just make sure.
Cowboys are trading down for Lions, I think, are coming up to 24 here.
Ooh, Cowboys trading down.
They deserve one of those. That was a nice little nugget.
Yeah, you got it.
That was a nice little nugget.
I think the boss has said sometimes you got to step out of your lane.
Yeah, okay.
Lions, the Cam Sutton.
Yeah,
stuff.
Absolutely.
Probably use a corner here.
Yeah,
true. That's definitely a spot where, if you're, look, edge.
The corner thing,
they have wide receiver. The Lions go a lot of ways here.
Yeah,
really.
But the corner need is glaring. And look, the number doesn't change the evaluation. 3 hours ago, Terrion Arnold was supposed to be somebody that walks in day 1, starts. Right. Like just because he's still here at 24 doesn't mean anything. How about you going full C-Rob Insider?
I got an alert from on my phone from Twitter. Don't give me a lot of credit for it.
Taking all the credit, nobody would have known. I mean, so the Lions are now on the clock with the pick coming in, having made a trade with the Cowboys. We'll see how far down the Cowboys have gone, obviously, but the pick is in almost immediately. I just feel like it's got to be Terrion Arnold.
No. This is interesting, though, right? Like, if ever there was a team that told us to keep
excessive use, go ahead,
keep the surprises, rocking and ready here, it's the Detroit Lions, right? And like, Brad Holmes is feeling himself right now. He has said many times, you get a microphone in front of that guy, he'll tell you, like, yeah, you guys thought our draft sucked last year.
By the way.
It's going to be what?
Terrion Arnold.
That makes total sense.
So there goes, whatever I was just saying about surprises, you can go ahead and throw that in the trash.
But that's a great look.
We nailed it. We had it. Like,
if you're the Lions, with the 24th pick in the NFL draft this year, you got arguably the best corner, depending on what you like.
Speaking of not nailing it, I wrote it down because I'm so mad at myself. August 20th, 2020. I'll blame COVID. Terrion Arnold, DM. Do you think I have a good shot at landing my 5th star? And then I was like, I don't know. We'll see. First round pick. I should have known.
It's your fault. That's why he fell.
It is.
See, Rob, do we like this for the Lions?
Yeah, no, I love it. Absolutely. I think the thing about Detroit, when you look at them right now, the offense, you've extended some key pieces now. Penix Sewell, you've extended Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have money at the running back position at 2. Well, you have investment. You have a first-round investment in Jahmyr Gibbs. Obviously, Montgomery, you have money there at the running back spot. Wide receivers deep enough. I think you can address that another time in the draft. I do think they need to make an addition at wide receiver. But offensively, you look at them and you're like, they're in good shape. Defensively, they need to start stacking some pieces. Like Branch, amazing. Like I think that was a
great player.
fantastic player for them. Oh my God! I mean, he is just. He's a dude. When you watch him, you're like, he is a dude. And especially when he was healthy and in there, it made a huge difference to their defense. Hutchinson has come. He's the guy. He was worth it. It turns out. I think there was some question. Like, is it just? Is like Chris Long? Is that kind of who he's going to be? And wouldn't have been terrible. But you need some more impact players. And I also like that it's a cornerstone. It's a corner, right? Left tackle, cornerback, edge rusher, quarterback. Yep. So go out and get the guy. And by the way, when we did the production meeting yesterday, we went through Arnold. There were a number of teams. There were out of like 12 teams. 4 of them had a top 10 pick potentially, like a fringe top 10 pick.
He's another position versatility guy too. He'll play corner, but he played a ton of safety in high school,
which is awesome.
Interesting recruitment though, because he committed to Alabama right before the COVID shutdown. He was supposed to visit LSU, A&M, and Miami, and he never got to take those visits. So it would have been interesting to see if he would have flipped or how that would have played out, but it certainly worked out for him. A Tallahassee kid in Florida State was never really involved.
I'll keep saying this for anyone that's late tuning in. Part of the reason we are seeing incredible talent, what we thought was first half of the first round talent, going off the board in the mid-20s, which is unheard of, is because of the run on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks, the historic night that we have never seen before in NFL history at the quarterback position, has literally changed the entire landscape of the NFL.
Like they didn't wait. That was the crazy thing. Mm-hmm. Like 6 and 12 is nuts.
Yeah,
like we thought
they just routed them off the board.
Yeah, we were like, it could be 6 by 13, right? Okay, maybe, but we're like, really, is that going to happen? You're thinking one of those guys is going to bleed out, and it'll be in the 20s. Someone will move up, or 6 in the first 12, and then punctuated just by of all the players that just blew your mind. Penix being the 4th quarterback off the board was nuts.
I feel like I'll never really spiritually recover from the Penix moment. That was.
I'm telling you, I wish you could have known when I looked at. I'm looking at my phone. I'm like, there's no way this is right. Like I'm not going to put this out here because
Bet MGM over under would be, is Raheem Morris the coach by the time Michael Penix sees the field?
I mean,
are we all still here on planet Earth by the time Michael Penix sees?
Not to revisit the Penix thing, but like. You've injected some awkwardness into your franchise.
Yeah, that's a huge
for a new staff.
I think for your franchise quarterback that you just signed to how many millions of dollars? How many?
What was it 4 years, 180 million?
Exactly.
45 per.
A lot.
He's rocked up for 2 years. He's getting all that
and
money.
before he's ever played a snap for you, he's already looking at the integrity of the organization. Like,
And you didn't call him. Like, according to the reports.
He was notified, so I texted with somebody. So what happened was he was notified when they were on the clock. So Kirk Cousins had no idea you're taking Michael Penix until you're on the clock.
But who was off the board so much that they decided this?
Yeah, that's a really great point, Adam, because if you look at the way the first 3 picks went down, the first 5 picks all went down chalk, right? Like, there is just not like, number 1, we all knew was going to be Caleb. Number 2, most of us knew was going to be Jayden.
The first
Number
7.
3, yeah, I mean.
Right? Even Latham.
There was
Latham and Titans were like, okay, this all makes sense.
There was nothing that happened in the draft board that was so surreal that Atlanta's like.
I would have loved to have seen the Vegas odds roll, like 7th pick comes off the board just to see the prop bet. Who the 8th pick is going to be in the draft.
But if the whole draft went to plan and they still took Penix, that means that was the plan.
Right.
Like, that was what they went in to do, which is.
Because he was going to be there. Yeah, absolutely, he was going to be there.
which means they didn't make that decision while they were on the clock.
No.
Right.
And Kirk Cousins knows that. Kirk Cousins has been in the league a long time.
Oh, yeah, he's a vet. He knows.
I think Kirk Cousins is genuinely sitting there like, okay, you guys just thought of
Yeah,
this.
they just figured it out.
Oh, okay.
He's
You know
all
what?
pro
I'll
business
give
of
you a
football.
pass.
Okay,
But
here's
like, how stupid do you have to be to sit there and think, you know what, this might be our strategy, but we're not going to tell the new quarterback we just signed.
Or not tell him yesterday, if Penix is still there, we're going to take him.
Right. They did not make that decision while they were on.
You have just told your quarterback and your entire locker room that you don't really give a damn about him.
Exactly.
Tell me I'm wrong. But
No, 100%. And I keep going back to Kirk Cousins because he's the head of the snake, right? He's a quarterback. He's a shot caller. He handles the ball on every snap. And if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm sitting there looking at management. I'm like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, did you if that's the explanation, like, hey, while we were on the clock, Penix showed up. That was what popped in our minds, and this is kind of what we're thinking. That's what happened. I'm not buying that. You know what I mean?
And then think about being in that locker room, and you're looking around thinking they just gave him how much money,
Exactly.
and then did that to him.
Exactly.
Now, they gave him money, and also they're facing tampering charges because that's how badly they wanted him, right? Like
all
there's an
to draft a quarterback in the first 10 picks.
One thing I would say, though, is they did send a ton of guys to his pro day.
Yeah.
Like Fontenot went. And you're thinking, well, is it Odunze? Like, is that why they're, but there were a lot of guys that went and watched him at that pro day. And I'm with you. I mean, this was cooked up, had to be cooked up for a while.
It was. And I only say this because, and I'm passionate about it because this business was my life, you know what I mean? But it is a business, you know what I mean? And if I played 5 years in the league and I could understand that, somebody like Kirk Cousins, and again, all the players in that organization are sitting there look at how they just did this man. Yeah. Look at how they just did Kirk Cousins.
Probably unknowable. Do you think that they had this in motion before they went and got Cousins?
You would think you would hope not, because why would you pay a guy that much money, you know what I mean, to just draft somebody? You know what I mean? Is it like, are you that maniacal that you're willing to spend the owner's money to?
But even if you'll do that, I guess my thing is, if that's your insurance plan, you at least got to tell Kirk.
Well, exactly.
You got to tell
Something
him.
else we haven't considered either. They're going to burn through 2 years of Penix's contract.
Exactly.
Without him getting on the field.
Exactly.
So say it is a 2-year plan and then Kirk goes out the door. Year 3, Penix starts. Say he has a year 3 like, I don't know, Jordan Love's first year in Green Bay as a starter, where, at the end he picked it up and it looked like, okay, this is an extendable guy. But say his year 3 is like Justin Fields, where you're like, pretty good. I don't think we can extend this guy right now. So then you're going into year 4. You're picking up the 5th-year option, and it's – this one.
They're in a hamster wheel.
I guess to play devil's advocate, because again, I was as stunned as all of you guys, and I think this is one of the most stunning picks I've ever seen. But to play devil's advocate, right? You say the Jordan Love example here. Kirk Cousins is a short-term solution.
Sure.
Like he's the 2 years for sure, and he's also coming in off a serious injury too. Like we haven't talked about that.
Love hits, we're all like.
Right.
Look they went and got Rodgers and they sat him, and then boom, look at that transition.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like, this is how they're doing this.
Right. Like in 3 years, if Kirk Cousins has transitioned out and Michael Penix has transitioned.
Don't try to make this make sense, man.
Listen. I'm just saying, we all say the quarterback position is the most valuable position in sports, and it's true. It is, right? And I get this is an uncomfortable situation right now, but again, if Michael Penix is good in 3 years from now, which I'm not even that big of a Penix guy, bro. So I'm not that in on what I'm saying right now. But if he is good, and this is a situation that should allow him to develop and be good with these surrounding players, nobody's going to care about the awkwardness early on. Am I right or am I wrong?
Ooh, that's tough, because whenever you're a player in an organization and you watch what they do, and I don't want to expose too much, but guys have conversations that, from player to player, and, you see how things are run. And you see how they treat certain guys, and you're like, okay, well, Kirk Cousins is QB1, right? You're sitting here talking about how quarterback is the most important position in sports. And if I'm a guy and I'm looking at this, how they're doing QB1, that's awkward, you know what I mean? Yeah. Hell, there was a lot of awkwardness even in the situations like we talked about in New England whenever, we switched over from Josh McDaniels to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and there was just a lot of awkwardness. And that, for whatever reason, that caused issues, you know what I mean? And players, we're just as important in this business as the coaches and as the GMs. So, whenever there's awkward situations, it affects everybody, so.
If you look at the emojis going back to the Yahoo Sports app, this is the pick we're talking about, Michael Penix Jr., universally is just Nobody likes it. Everyone, if you look at the fire rating, it gets a 30%. Falcons fans give it a 30%. You know, it's just across the board. Nobody can make it make sense. Charles McDonald, Jory, and I are all giving it weird emojis. Gets a draft grade of an F. Like, this is, and I got to be clear here. For me, this isn't about Michael Penix Jr. I happen to really like him as a quarterback.
Sure, but we've already talked about the awkwardness, all this other stuff. You're duplicating at a position. But then there's also some probably pretty good players who went off after him. Right?
Yeah, right.
Odunze goes 9.
Yeah.
If Roma's what everybody seems to think he is, Falcons fans are going to be pissed. They're not going to be happy about that.
You're right. That's tough because that's not a roster that was without needs. Like a defensive player didn't go off the board for darn near 10 picks afterwards, and like
there's so many other things.
Who are the Falcons right now?
Are they not better today? That's the thing. Yeah.
No.
That's the wildest part of all of this. By the way, the Packers pick is in as we continue to fly through this. This is pick number 25. So
I think it's Jordan Morgan, but I'm not positive.
See, that's what you now. I don't know if I should push the
I
button.
don't hit that. Don't hit that.
We can't sort of push the button. Either we're pushing it or we're not pushing it. What are we doing?
I'm pretty sure it's Jordan Morgan.
All right, let's see the Packers.
I'll give you a celebratory button push if it is.
All right.
What if it's not? I mean, you throw the button at him.
Then we get rid of the button.
Like, can we get like a trombone in here so we
Then
can do the
I'll give Fitz the button back.
Oh God, please let this be
he's
Jordan Morgan. Yeah.
Jordan Morgan, Arizona tackle, another offensive lineman. We were curious if any more were going to go in the first round. Yet, we're getting Gorney's coming in with the cringe. Gorney, the cringe?
Not a 5-star?
Not a 5-star, I guess.
No.
It's been a 5-star.
No. But when you have Kingsley Suamataia on the board, Graham Barton, especially Tyler Guyton, who's essentially Jordan Morgan but 2 inches taller and played tougher competition, I think there were other offensive tackles here. Guyton was a guy who was super crazy athletic, went to TCU as an athlete, even at that size. Played some H-back. Morgan's a stretcher. They must have really loved him in the pre-draft stuff.
Well, and it's a position of need. They lost a lot of offensive linemen in free agency this year, and like Charles Robinson said earlier, man, that's a wide receiver room that when I do my fantasy projections this offseason, my brain is going to be hurting because that is a tough room. It's a lot of good players, but not a like wide distribution, right? Because they're all kind of at the same level. That room set, the running back room set, they add Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, we just talked about him. Adding pieces along the offensive line, whether we agree with the player or not, this was certainly, I think, the right position to hit.
Yeah, I remember Penaysul's dad told me a few years ago because Penaysul and Kingsley trained together, and he was like, Adam, Kingsley's better than Penay. So that might have been some politicking there, but he's definitely a talented kid that should not get out of the first round.
Plus, on top of it, at 26, you're going to see Graham Barton come off.
And he came off fast. That pick was in quickly.
Yeah, Tampa Bay put the pick in. We got the pick is in graphic less than a minute after they were on the clock. So
they ran that one in.
Like they were ready to get the workout in. And Graham Barton is somebody that offensive linemen really like. Again, I'm going to continue to say I don't care about position because there was a period in the draft not that long ago where the concept of drafting a center in the first round felt like that was something you don't do. I think that's sort of an antiquated thought process. So Graham Barton comes out of Duke, small school kid.
And a guy who could
8 offensive linemen.
Literally can play across the line.
Yeah.
All 3 positions. Does it really well. I think a lot of guys, absolutely love his hand placement, never gets anything wrong. Another kid just light in the shorts in high school, 6'4", 270. Didn't really have a frame that you thought could get to, I think he was 313 at the combine. So,
Wee man.
Definitely.
313 is objectively not a lad.
Oh, so
it's
we'll call him
interesting,
tiny.
too. Where is he going to line up, we think, center? Because, I mean, obviously they have 2 tackles that locked in. Tristan Wirf's a great player. Luke Kadecki, I think, made a lot of strides late in the season. Is Barton a center or a guard for the Bucs? We think not right guard because they took Cody Mock high last year. So that'll be interesting to see if he's a center or a guard for them.
It's not very often you see guys be able to play center through tackle. I feel like in my time in playing ball, whether it be college or pros, you see a lot of guys go from center to guard or guard to tackle. But to be able to play center all the way through tackle, I mean, Bill Belichick used to always say the more you can do. Sure. And, to your point, maybe there might have been a better pick at the position, but, going back to the Bill Belichick days, like you said, the more you can do, that might up your stock a little bit.
Especially in today's world where you've got a combination of, look, every offensive line lacks depth, and then how many offensive lines out there are going 6 wide in different run formations anyway. So, like, if you've got a guy that you can swing all over the place that you believe gives you more versatility on an offensive line, that makes a ton of sense. I think for Tampa Bay, he's a center. That makes the most sense, right?
I would think he's probably a center, and again, that really looks like an offensive line that we probably had some questions about going into last year, right? They moved Tristan Wirfs from right tackle to left tackle. I'm usually not a fan of, like, if a guy's really good at right tackle, like, just leave him there, okay? But then Tristan Wirfs was awesome on the left side for them. He was another all-pro season. He's so good. And again, Gadecki came along, so Cody Mock, I think, had a nice rookie season. That whole Bucs offense outkicked expectations last year. So now you just get a guy at the pivot point who is going to give you depth at multiple positions, but also can give you a great starting center. I think that's a home run for them.
So you see some of the offensive rankings for the Bucs. The most interesting thing about the Bucs is always going to be, what does Baker do, running this thing back? Was that a one-year aberration, or is this going to be more of more good from him? That being said, the next pick goes to the Cardinals, and we should note here that Arizona in the beginning, everybody thought they were going to be, maybe trading down. They were going to do all these wild, crazy things. All they did was sit there and probably take the best player in this year's draft, and now they're on the clock again. So a patient draft for Arizona that feels like it's going to be rewarded at this point.
You go receiver again?
That would be pretty shocking.
No, yeah. I think, let me see here. This is great. TV.
Well, the thing is that
no, we're in Cooper DeJean territory too.
Okay, so they have a corner need,
right?
They kind of have an everything need.
But the thing is too, I think it's going to be Darius Robinson. Honestly, the edge.
I mean, defensive side of the ball makes sense, right?
I think it's going to be Darius Robinson, the edge.
Because if you look on offense, once you put Marvin Harrison in there, I think they have pretty good talent. Like, I like Michael Wilson as a wide receiver, too. Greg Dortch has been, like, kind of a weird yards per route run king. Whenever he's been on the field, he has been, on a per route basis, pretty productive. Trey McBride was awesome last year at tight end. He really had that breakout season. And as long as Kyler Murray's healthy, I think he can be a good starting quarterback. So this, to me, is where Jonathan Gannon's going to start to build up that defense.
Yeah, and I think Jonathan Gannon's a big part of this conversation, right? Like, what do defensive coaches want at some point? They want as many people that can be as varied as possible in their schemes, right? So it makes sense. Like, you address the need with the best player available. Now it's more like, who's the personality of the coach and who do they like, right? So a defensive coach, defensive player makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, flavor of ice cream. What you want?
What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Vanilla.
Oh,
vanilla. Yeah.
Vanilla.
Like just standard vanilla or vanilla bean?
Standard vanilla.
What?
Vanilla.
Why?
How is that possible?
I'm not the biggest ice cream guy anyway, so that might be why. I'm more of like a.
Have you tried other flavors that aren't vanilla?
Yeah, maybe that's why you're not a big ice cream guy.
Honestly, no, because I don't eat that much ice cream. But like, I'm more of a cookie guy. You know what I mean? Give me like
Favorite cookie?
Gluten-free chocolate chip.
Well, I knew it was.
Yeah, shout out to Insomnia, because Insomnia is like the only like chain that has good gluten-free cookies. You know what I mean? I don't know why it's so hard to like serve people with food allergies.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right now,
I'm really like, they are not sponsoring this show.
Right.
I'm serious. I just want to make a comment. No, I want to make a comment right now. There need to be better gluten-free options in this world. That's all I'm gonna say.
You're not wrong.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Like, gluten-free brownies are delightful when you make them at home. So why can't bakeries make them?
I don't understand. You know what I mean?
And let me tell you what, buddy. You're here in LA. Go throw a stone at one of the bakeries around you. You're going to hit one that's got good gluten-free options.
I was on DoorDash trying to look up gluten-free breakfast, and I didn't get nothing back. I even know some LA locals, and they say that you're not going to get some good food out here.
There are lots of
What?
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Man, as somebody that just left LA recently, that hurts my soul, because you get a lot of good food out here. Well,
yeah, there's not too much. Okay.
If I'm going to like a place for baked goods, it's not going to be a bakery in LA. Anyway, let's just keep this thing going. Graham Barton,
I just got it. I just got it.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. I'll be here all week.
I actually think Darius Robinson could be a sneaky good pick. 6'5", 285, biggest wingspan other than like the top 25 edge rushers in this group. So a bigger wingspan by 1 3/8 inches than Dallas Turner. So that is out there. So that could be a very interesting pick. Someone that wasn't, sort of on the radar, but not really for a first-round pick. That could be good.
Well, you look at that defensive depth chart, too. Buda Baker, great player, difference maker, but he might be their only difference maker over there. They have a lot of...
He's got to be frustrated at this point, right? Like, just give the guy some help.
You're trying to unfrustrate him here.
Yeah.
Steve Keim, the previous GM, made like a habit of just taking big hulky linebackers without positions, really. Like they can't move or could move too much to be a linebacker. And Bryce should have been safe. Like that was the thing in Arizona for a long time, that at this point when Jonathan Gannon gets there, they're basically bereft of defensive difference makers. So
bereft.
That was a word.
Ooh, we got wobbling Goodell out here. Wobble.
Yeah, he's got that pain
baby.
face on right now. Too.
It's Darius Robinson, by the way.
It's Darius Robinson. Confirmed.
We're right.
Well, you were right, not us. We don't know anything.
We are a team, so we are right. Just be there when I'm wrong. So far, we've been good. We haven't been wrong, right? Why did you relinquish the ball?
I just hit it once. I did the same exact thing.
Honestly, it was a test of responsibility. I think he passed.
We're in the last few picks here. I think he earned it.
I did it with a little bit of pizzazz. I gave it a little bit of, bit of flavor, kind of like that.
Bills have pizzazz to match the jacket, to match the pick.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Darius's jacket is.
Bills have traded out of 28, by the way.
See how hard it is to not immediately tell people when you know what's going on? You gotta immediately.
The Bills have traded out of 28. Who have they traded with? Don't give us partial information.
Right.
I only got
That's why
partial
you didn't
info.
get a button, yo.
Oh, fine. I don't want that button. That button means nothing to me.
Excuse us.
You are excused.
this button. All right, the Bills traded, but we don't know with who. So
don't know who yet.
We know that the Bills. Any surprise to that though? Because I mean, if the Bills wanted a wide receiver, it would seem like there are plenty of options available for them if they wanted a wide receiver.
I think this fits the narrative that they don't feel the need to get a receiver right now.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Beane even said that, right? Like, we don't need a wide receiver one.
Again, I think between Khalil, between Curtis, between Kincaid, between Knox, between Jimmy Cooks, and just letting Josh Allen be Josh Allen, I mean, you got a pretty good offense right there. A really good offense. In my opinion, I feel like Buffalo is trying to replace more guys on defense.
Yeah, I mean, that was where they had to cut a lot of highly paid veterans.
Guys.
And, like, we think about the Bills are Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and all that offense, but the Bills of that Sean McDermott era was like Micah Hyde and Jordan. That was the original kind of like building the culture group.
Yeah, when I was in New England, Buffalo consistently had the best defense year in and year out. Whether they were coached by Leslie Frazier, whether they were coached by Sean McDermott, that scheme that they ran, the players that they had, it really fueled their team because you couldn't. They smothered you on offense, and then it gave the ball to Josh and allowed him to just do what Josh Allen does.
Bills might not be done yet. It's still. I think they're trying to close it. So.
So the trade is not official.
Then I might be the one that gets things wrong for the first time.
I'm with you. Can we tomorrow? Can we get Can we get a my bad button? Like maybe something that says, "Hey, try a little harder."
I'm not doing that to him yet.
Well, no, it would be nice to have.
I just texted somebody in there.
This is from Mike Garafolo from NFL Network, from Kirk Cousins' agent Mike McCarthy on Falcons selecting Michael Penix. Quote, yeah, it was a big surprise. We had no idea this was coming. The truth is the whole league had no idea this was coming. We got no heads up. Kirk got a call from the Falcons when they were on the clock. That was the first we heard of it. It never came up in any
Come on, he had 10 minutes.
Come on, man.
Yeah. What do you think's going through Kirk's mind when the phone rings? Like, they're on the clock, the phone rings. Do you think he picks it up thinking like, oh, they're going to ask about which wide receiver I prefer?
I mean, everywhere he has gone, look, in Washington, I think he was always frustrated that he felt like there was not the full belief, particularly when McLuhan was the general manager, which is why he leaves, right? Played out through the tag, did what he needed to do to get out of there. Then he goes to Minnesota. They pay him a ton and everything. But at the end, he wants this certain amount of guaranteed money. There's some reticence there for them to pony up. So in his mind, he's like, why are they not committing to me? Is it a Kevin O'Connell thing right now? Is it a Kwesi thing?
I'm getting the update. The Bills have completed the trade with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Thank God. That would have been so embarrassing. That's really interesting, though. The Bills trade with the Chiefs.
That's so interesting, man. That's so interesting.
What do you think? Like, if you were still on the Bills, right, and like you see, we trade with the team that beats us in the playoffs every year and then goes and win the Super Bowl. Does that like matter to you at all?
I mean, yeah. Because it's like, what are we doing? This is a team that we're trying to beat. This is a team we're trying to dethrone, and now we're acting as allies. You know what I mean? It's like, let me help me help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Scratch my back and I scratch yours.
Let me play devil's advocate though. If you're
this,
like, okay.
Who they used to have there? The Chiefs. The guy was pretty fast, right?
This is Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy, pretty fast guy. He's going to be a Chief.
I think
that's big. I love it.
I don't know, man. Part of me is like,
I love it.
Aren't we like enough already with like the small speed guys for Pat Mahomes?
Let me play devil's advocate here, though, to the Bills-Chiefs thing. If you're the Bills and you look around and you're like, man, none of these guys are really worth it, and the Chiefs call, you're like, yeah, I'll hose you guys for some extra picks if you really think he's worth it. Like, maybe they just didn't believe that pick was, like, I'm just trying to be positive.
Honestly, it's okay that we have somebody on here playing devil's. That's my face right now. Truly, like the whole time you were talking, that was my face. Because at the end of the day, right, like you got to get over the hump, right? How are you going to get over the hump by, trading valuables with whoever you're trying to beat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, somebody help me make sense of that.
Because when you trade up for a player, it's a specific, like, I got to target. This is the guy we have to have.
If anything, it should have been the other way around.
See,
the
Rob,
Chiefs have a pick before the Bills. The Bills move up and flip that way. You don't trade back with a team that's on paper and, last year was better than us.
Educate me for a second. When they get that call, like the Bills get the call from the Chiefs,
Right.
How much are they then sitting there saying, who do you think they're taking? Do they give a damn? Typically.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's these are your rivals. I think it would be different if you're in the same division, right? Like if it's the Patriots and the Jets, then you're like, man, you know what? Like,
but has that
walk?
My only question would be, has Bills versus Chiefs become a rivalry that is bigger than some divisional rivalries?
I don't think it has. Like, I think it failed. Like, it got to the AFC Championship level, and then we're like, when are the Bills going to take this step? And this is going to be the big rivalry. Mm-hmm. And what have the Bills done since then? They've receded, right? And so if you're the Chiefs, I mean, maybe the Bills think they're the rival, but right now you're the Chiefs. You're like, everybody's our rival, man.
That's a very fair
We're
point.
busting through everybody at this point.
That's a very fair point, because I guarantee you Kansas City's like, everybody wants to be our rival.
Yeah.
Everybody has a target on our back. Everybody wants to be our rival.
Remember the Bengals that they owned Arrowhead, right?
Yeah.
That whole thing. And so
that happened. That ended faster than it got started.
Which is how I think that's how the Chiefs feel about the Bills.
And I don't blame them, honestly.
The trade's a little more complicated than just an easy trade. So Kansas City gets picks number 28, 133, and 248. Buffalo gets picks number 32, 95, and 221. So Buffalo is moving down 4 spots in this round, but they're gaining.
They get it. Basically, they swap a third and a fourth, a third and a fourth.
Yeah, but they're gaining 38 slots later, and that's
Worthy's camp is hyped. Man, there.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of expletives in this. There's a lot of expletives in this.
You better hit those barbecue joints, because he's got to gain a
little bit of weight.
He was 160 in high school.
Ooh.
3 years at Texas, gained 5 pounds. So he might just be. I mean, that's lighter. That's 5 pounds lighter than Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
So I remember seeing Devontae Smith at the All-American Bowl get just plowed into the stands because he just can't get off jams. So he couldn't at that time. Now he can. But that's the question with Worthy. I don't think Worthy's as smooth as Devontae Smith, not as good of a pass catcher, faster. But, he can run 4.21 in straight line 40 without being touched. But if somebody has their left hand in the jam and he's putting them into the sideline.
That's all happened to Tyreek Hill. That speed won't help you off the line of scrimmage.
That is, but my biggest concern though is the press coverage stuff, right? Because like you mentioned Devontae Smith, you saw in college he could beat press coverage even at that size. Like even Tank Dell goes in the 3rd round last year. I got him at 83rd percentile success rate versus press. That film was really good. Xavier Worthy, that was the biggest concern. And we're talking about like in the Big 12 too. He gets jammed, he gets pressed, and I just, again, I love the speed. I think the speed sells, and obviously with Pat Mahomes, there are going to be some big plays here. There's no question. But I just wonder if the Chiefs have consistently looked at these guys that are kind of create a touch, like get them in space type of players, whether we're talking like, there's Tyreek Hill, but there's also McCole Hardman. There's also like Sky Moore didn't work out. They get Kadarius Toney, and I know Toney's an off-the-field concerned player too, but he was another like, man, the speed and like the ability to make players miss in the open field. Like, can we not just get like a consistent outside receiver that can work against press man coverage? I think that's been an issue here.
Okay, let's get the Cowboys pick in before the Chiefs pick. They're taking Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle. Chiefs pick's not in. We got the next.
We already that far ahead.
But on Worthy, the production was there. He almost had 200 catches in 3 yards in 3 seasons. But his touchdowns went from 12 as a freshman to 5 as a junior, which not great.
The most important news is it has come to my attention that Rocco in the comments has said the guy holding the football is sexy. So
Oh, thank you all. Show me on the screen. Show me on the screen. Show me on the screen.
No, now they're Tyler Guy.
Yeah,
Okay,
show me on the screen. Look at that guy. That's a handsome guy right
Look,
there.
it's a crocheted shirt. People, relax.
And a
Okay,
handsome face. Listen, what?
I'm just saying,
It's not just a shirt. I know we made a big deal about the shirt, but it's not.
No, it's a nice shirt.
It is a nice shirt, but it's on a nice frame too.
Yeah, it is
it's on a
I
nice
know,
frame.
let's be real. Like a pudgy guy can't wear a crochet shirt. Like dad bod can't go crochet. Like,
True.
you're right.
I'm a dad now. This is dad.
Yeah, but you ain't.
This is dad
Like,
right here.
That's
This
what
is dad.
dads you should aspire to be.
This is what
okay?
a
No
dad
excuses.
is right here.
Yeah, okay. Dad,
I mean?
well, according to the YouTube chat,
is
it's
it?
also with
Who
Daddy. Rocco Hamill. I don't know.
Appreciate you, Rocco.
I got
I never
tongues
thought I'd
and-
be called
sexy.
sexy by a man named Rocco.
I know it's
Honestly,
first
time for
that's a huge surprise for me.
well,
but
you know,
I take compliments from all.
No, that's what's going to
But most
happen around here.
important for my wife.
Okay, that's a very good save.
Fitz, I know it's early, but 100% fire emojis for
Oh, I
Xavier
love that.
Worthy.
Is it really? Is it 100%?
Oh, it's dropped to 79. I'm sorry.
Oh, the haters are out there. Like,
Everybody should love Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm giving that the fire. Like,
Yeah, that's
15
fire,
AFC
though.
teams, they're like, dude, what the fuck? Why did you do this?
Yeah, the question is he John Ross? Is he
Even-
just fast, but not great?
even only 83% of Chiefs fans are giving it fire, which I think is a low percentage, knowing what they needed and the fact that you've got Patrick Mahomes. Like, seriously, all I have to do is say they drafted a wide receiver. You should care about nothing else. You know that you have Patrick Mahomes. It's good. You have the best quarterback, you have the best coach, and you have the best GM in the NFL. Enjoy. Just go have a beer and enjoy the draft. You won.
You wonder what his career would have been if he could have stayed at Michigan, because he was there for just a few weeks basically and had to leave. I think it was an admissions issue. Lands at Texas. Would Harbaugh have just run the ball like he did? Would he, with that weapon? Could McCarthy have even improved his numbers more? Would he have passed it? So that's an interesting sort of thing that you could walk down the line and see how that would have played out.
Patrick Mahomes tweeted like a running guy. You got to love that.
Also, another comment, 2 dads and a mic. Me and Damien Harris meet in the trenches. I'm taking me. Like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like, I'm just going to let you know, 2 dads and a mic, you're not. No, it's just help yourself. I see him up close. Also, Seth Walder points out in our draft simulator, in their draft simulator, there were 5,354 drafts where a Falcon user selected a player at number 8. 10 of them picked Penix Jr. there. So 10 fans must have
You know those 10 fans are like, whatever.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's 10 Terry Fontenot entries.
Yeah, that's what the GM is just hitting fire emojis and Worthy. And
Absolutely.
Penix.
Okay, so with the pick being in for the Cowboys, how do we feel?
Look, they needed to address offensive line, offensive tackle. You moved back. You still got a guy. Look, in terms of the stack, the thing about Guyton that I like is that when he was stacked across boards, so we're talking, again, this is the 12-team stack, right? He was ranked ahead of Amarius Mims, who went a heck of a lot earlier. He was ranked well ahead of Jordan Morgan, right, who went earlier. So you're talking about in the stack, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's the 6th ranked offensive tackle stacked by 12 teams. So to get him, moving back at 29, to be able to select him at this spot, you got to feel decently good about it.
I love that he's an athlete first, played H-back, played defensive tackle in high school.
Feet, right? I mean, that's
great feet, and he was coached by Bill Bedenbaugh at Oklahoma, maybe the best offensive line coach in the country. So he's coming in well prepared.
I love your point on the coaching aspect of it, because I think that's such a big, when you talk to guys that played offensive line in the league, they'll tell you that the hardest transition is that so many guys in college just don't get necessarily the coaching they need to prepare them for the next level. So really important point there that, that's a huge learning curve for guys that are especially on the offensive line.
Okay, remember, now we're at 29. Guyton is going to come off here.
So we're half a pick ahead. We've already told everybody.
Right, yeah,
think
we're
we
half a
might
pick
be a
ahead. So
full
we have
pick
30,
ahead.
31, 32. So we have 3 picks left. The over/under on wide receivers, what was the
6.5.
6.5. Okay, so
We're at
right
5?
now we're at 6.
We're 6.
No, wait, we're at 5. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we're at 5. Yeah. So A.D. Mitchell is still sitting there, right? And Still think, one of these guys, Xavier Legette or Ladd McConkey, could be like that 30-second pick surprise.
Yeah.
The hard part about it is look at the teams that are
Right,
left. Like
right.
the Ravens.
Okay, San Francisco, you might have an Ayuk problem.
Yeah, all those teams could add a receiver.
Buffalo can add a receiver,
fair.
right? Absolutely. Baltimore could trade out and somebody who wants a receiver.
Yeah, Baltimore did just extend Rashad Bateman. That was an interesting one because he hasn't been productive, but I think he's a good player. I do think.
But he's hurt. It's
He's
like,
hurt, but he was healthy last year.
Right.
Which I think that's a good sign that the organization feels good about him from an injury perspective. Probably a player that some people would say I have a quote weird affinity for. So that's it.
Well, I mean,
Everybody's got things they like. I like Rashad Bateman.
It is a weird thing to say that.
yeah.
Oh, please. Yeah, you know what they were saying last year? Literally my business partner, James Coe, said, yeah, Matt Harmon got a weird affinity for Nico Collins. How'd that turn out, Charles Robinson?
How many times are you going to bring up Nico Collins?
This is the first time on air. It doesn't count if it's
You
in
got to
the
lean on your winners.
Does that look like Jerry's boat, or are they in Dallas right now?
I think they're in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
If
I
you,
would ever since I saw the whole thing on social media about Jerry Jones doing the draft on his boat. Why would you do it anywhere else?
no, that's a really good
Why,
question.
why would you do it anywhere else?
Why would you do anything not on that boat? It's like
You know what I mean?
$250 million.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a floating palace.
All right, so the Ravens pick is in at this point.
Wow. Okay. What is going on there?
Oh, my man's falling behind over there.
The Ravens pick is in. We don't know what it is, but we do know the pick is in at this point. And by the way, we have flown through this thing, and if you're just tuning in, I'm sure there's a way to go back and rewatch it, but make sure you're hanging out with Yahoo Sports as we've got a ton of video-on-demand content coming out of all of this. We're also going to be here tomorrow for every single pick that you'll see through the second and third round. So hopefully you've been having a good time with us. We've had a great time, but we will be back tomorrow for all of the picks, and we'll be doing some pod action tonight also. So plenty to get you fed.
And to help you out here at this pick, the Ravens' high priority is corner. They already have a Cooper DeJean type if he's going to be that safety kind of Tyler Hamilton that you're going to move around, right? So Wiggins is still there. So Nate Wiggins, let's watch Nate Wiggins at this pick.
Why did Wiggins fall? Because 2 months ago, Wiggins was...
he's just not. I mean, he came in light, super light. It's just tough. And he's going to get wrecked. Okay, I don't know this, but I mean, when he came in, when he checked in at the combine, he was so light. I had people immediately text me, he's going to get ragdolled by like 210 receivers. These guys are going to toss him around.
Look at Manuel Forbes last year, right? Like, oh, yeah, pretty good player, but was like a sub 170 pounds, even smaller than Wiggins. And what do the Eagles do as soon as they played Washington last year? It's like, okay, we're going to take A.J. Brown, our biggest wide receiver, we're going to put him on Forbes, and they just went to work. So.
Yeah, among the top 20 corners, he's the tallest and the lightest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 6'1", 173.
And there's not much you can do about it.
See, what's crazy is in my world, like when I go to an event and I see a 6'2" corner, it's like salivating. Like he's got that length, but the NFL teams like those little bulldogs that can kind of get in there a little bit. So it's something that it's a learning lesson for me when we're doing the rankings, and for my whole team when we see it. Just don't fall in love with just length, because it doesn't seem, anyway, at least recently, that they're going early in the first round here.
Feels like a transition after kind of the Pete Carroll sort of defensive boom sort of faded away, right? Like, because that was the whole thing back then, these big, long, tall
Big,
corners.
long, talls, yeah. And it could be a 1 or 2 year trend. Maybe these guys who are 6'1", 6'2", that there aren't that many actually in this draft, that they just weren't first round. But you wonder, as the game gets faster and those receivers get faster, do you just need guys that can keep up with them?
The pick is in from the Ravens, but it looks like there's a band playing or something happening in Detroit. I don't know.
I see a trombone.
There's a whole.
Oh,
bunch
there's
of
Roger making his walk.
Rogers,
He's
unbuttoning
the shirt.
The shirt.
There's
Steps. He looks
this
fine.
is tough.
Yeah, it's usually once he gets like halfway through. Like
Yeah,
once he's
right
through
about
the tunnel,
here.
that's when it starts to slow down.
Yeah, you're right. Like the shirt's unbuttoned now. Like by the end of this, we're gonna see his belly button. Roger's gonna be like,
He could have his Baskin Robbins on his shirt.
He's hurt.
Nate Wiggins.
There you
go.
Corner
Wiggins,
is
yeah.
the selection. And we were just talking about Nate Wiggins. I think part of the reason this conversation came up for us was, if you were looking at mock drafts coming into the beginning of the season or listening to any draft content, Nate Wiggins was a name that was largely considered first half of the first round to many draft nicks out there, right? and he had a good year, but the size, as you mentioned, a huge part of this. So somebody, obviously, the Ravens feel comfortable with that size in this defense.
Yeah, look, I think when you get past the size, look at this. Like, that dude can run.
More than once?
There's no doubt. He flies.
Yeah.
And,
he had 3 or 4 of those.
Wow. And given the expanse of his career, he's played a lot of really good players. He's played against a lot of really good players. Okay. There's, that's just it. It's just the weight. But, I mean, if you need a corner and you're at this spot and you've already got, I wonder if they didn't have Hamilton, if maybe Cooper DeJean would be a factor on their board, given that I think a lot of people accept he's probably going to play that safety, move it around, Hamilton-type role. So this makes sense to me. Now I'm very curious.
Yeah, by the way, not for nothing, Nate ran a 4.28 40.
That's what I was going to say. Tallest, lightest, but also fastest.
Flew, absolutely.
Fastest.
Yeah.
And watching, just covering college football for the last several years, you watch, he breaks so fast. His ability to plant, change, and break to the ball is really incredible. So there's times you look at it and you think, man, he's not in any position, and then all of a sudden he's disruptive. So, I get the size part of it, and I hear you. It's such a difference at the NFL level. But, if you're just asking a guy to be able to run in space and make plays,
I'd love to see a 3-cone time on him, see it turn and go, turn and gum.
Well, and as much as I said the Emmanuel Forbes comparison, who do I trust more? Washington and Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera last year to deploy this guy, or Baltimore? I trust Baltimore to figure this out more.
Yeah,
the final 2 picks, huh?
Yeah, we are down to the end of the first round.
Already.
Should remind everybody that there are a couple of teams that didn't have a first-round pick. So tomorrow when we start this show, and we'll be with you for every pick, Carolina will pick at the top of the second round, at least as we sit right now. The Texans have been trying to move back in. So some fan bases that have really had nothing to do tonight other than sit around and twiddle their thumbs, they'll get in on some of the fun tomorrow, obviously. And a big part of why the end of this round isn't as chaotic as it often is because so many quarterbacks went early, right? Yeah. So the sexiness of I got to trade up to get the 5th year, I think right now there's been very little need for that because of the way the draft has played out.
If we're talking about the stack too, in terms of who were players that teams really thought could potentially be fringe first-round picks or even better than that, Cooper DeJean's still on the board, right? Kool-Aid McKinstry was more of a fringe-type guy. That's not, A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver, is another one. Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle, was kind of a fringe-type guy, but we talked about the foot maybe scaring some teams off. So it's Kingsley. I'm not going to say Kingsley's name. I've never been on. Okay, there you go. He's obviously he's another guy that was kind of like a first-round pick.
Is that your first language?
No, but let me tell you the amount of times, even the other day, I'm in the hotel taking a shower and I'm going over pronunciations, and I was like, Suamatea. I'm just
saying dudes' names in the shower.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Huge no diddy right there.
Look, I don't have men coming to telling me how beautiful
Jackson Powers Johnson too is another. Yeah, the center. Yeah.
It's okay. You just say no diddy. It's all right. Just let it be known. No diddy.
Good call, Adam.
Oh God. Let me see here. Yeah. All right. So we've got 2 picks left. San Francisco's on the board, and the Ayuk thing is the most interesting thing that we're all trying to figure out with San Francisco.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen a veteran wide receiver trade this round. I was kind of expecting at some point because there's just so many of these guys in this contract squeeze, but Ayuk definitely is the big one. I tell you what, man.
How old is Ayuk off the top of your head?
26.
Okay,
26.
Okay, but Matt, there's the opposite end of that contract squeeze because we look at it from the standpoint of the team who hold the rights now, right? Do they want to pay all that money? You want to acquire him?
Yeah.
Now you're going to give up asset, and you're also looking at that money.
Yeah.
So at least the team that's keeping him, they don't have to give up an asset. They just have to sign him. You really have to love a guy. I'm sorry, but where the wide receiver money's going now, I would be scared.
Especially if it's
you got to be in win now mode, right? To go acquire that, you've got to be ready.
And look, everybody's
right
not the Raiders to go and get an expensive guy, and then not.
You know what? I'm having a very good evening, C-Rob. So Brock Bowers, thank you. I'm gonna go buy me a jersey tonight.
Oh, he was shocked, by the way. Brock was completely floored.
Was he?
Interestingly enough, since we're talking about wide receivers with San Francisco, Ricky Pearsall, the Florida receiver who It'd be a shock. I mean, not a shock. It'd be a little bit of surprise here. I mean, he was like definitely a further down the stack type of guy, but insane athleticism. He had that one-handed catch, was probably the single best catch in all of. I mean, it's been years anyone's made a catch like that, right?
I love Ricky Pearsall, by the way. That guy he's a dude. He can run routes, extremely precise, and a freak athlete too. People think, oh, little white receiver. No, he's like a freak athlete. He is not a little.
Whoa.
Oh, listen, what?
I mean, people say.
People do say. They see the white slot receiver and they're like, oh, he's another Wes Welker or something like that. But no, this guy's like a downfield player. So.
Hey, listen, you said it, not me.
And
I
honestly,
did say it. I will say it again.
And honestly, Matt, 65 catches at Florida last year is far more impressive than you'd think. That was not an offense really clicking.
Oh, God, yeah.
So here's the crazy thing about Pearsall, though, when we talk about the stack, right? Those 12 teams, third-round guy, like fringe second to the top of the third, but he's also that guy when you look at the traits, the athleticism, the things that I guarantee you there's a projection involved here where you're like.
These are some of these guys we talked about. Sorry, Fitz, but you're going to leave Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, Jalen Polk.
I have Pearsall ranked ahead of all those guys.
You do.
I have Pearsall ranked ahead of all of those guys. One spot ahead of Ladd. I mean,
McCarthy, who could just get open against anything.
Now they've drafted some good receivers, so you know
this pick will be made by 9 Pacific when he gets out there.
Rod's like,
definitely slowed down.
Rod looks like he needs a hover round at this point. Like,
I told you need a rascal. What the heck,
just get the man a chair and like just let him get out there.
Yeah,
Like,
especially for the
49ers
last
basically.
one.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
Just bring it out. So,
Like, let somebody else make the pick at this point, Roger. Like, just you go on IR.
They're going to move the podium to his office.
Ooh, look at that. It is Ricky.
All right, it is Ricky. So Ricky
I
Pearsall.
told you what? I thought. Oh, you guys didn't take it seriously when I told you.
We
weren't
thought
sure
that
if you
was
were
like
just
a.
alluding.
that was like a
you
legitimate
didn't say it
thing.
in like this is Ricky
See,
Pearsall.
this is what
here.
I'm saying. Like, we don't know when to push the button. Like, you're
you
kind
gotta
of
make-
like, you're not all in right now. You know what I mean?
Like, I think you're gonna, like, we're gonna need like hand signals.
Called like 25 of 31 picks so far ahead of everybody else.
That was a crazy catch. I know we were just talking about that, but that catch was crazy.
And I think Gorney makes a really important point. That offense was just garbage
good,
this
yeah,
year.
not
and
good.
so his production in that offense, it deserves a little bit of a silver medal or something like.
Yeah.
So again, of all the prospects I charted this year, number 1 success rate versus man coverage was Rome Odunze. Number 2 was Ricky Pearsall. This is a guy who knows how to get himself open. He's a precise player. I think he's probably best as a flanker slot, but you do get some glimpses of him playing X receiver. I don't know if this signals like an Ayuk trade, right? Potentially.
Come on, man. To us, right? We just talked about it. Like, well, you would pad the potential trade of Ayuk with a wide receiver selection.
Wide receiver.
Right?
What if they end up trading Debo?
Lord have mercy.
You know, I think that, isn't that just as like Panthers coming up to pick 32?
The only knock.
Okay, so what are the Panthers moving 1 pick up for? Because this is now a trade with the Bills. Remember, the Bills traded
Maybe they
down.
thought Bills taking
and the
receiver.
Bills are trading down again.
Pearsall, 1 good year at Arizona State, parlayed that into 2 good years at Florida and first-round grade. That's amazing. I mean, Arizona State was a dumpster fire under Herm Edwards. I mean, just that is such an indictment of not being able to use Ricky Pearsall well.
Yeah.
And but he is almost 24
And
years
if
old.
someone's going to use him well, it's going to be Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, right.
So the Bills moved down 1 pick, and they get a 5th round in exchange for that, but they give up a 6th round. So it's basically a 5th, 6th swap pick to move down 1 pick. So the Bills now are out of the first round. They just didn't take anybody in the first round. And I'm just curious what you're so passionate about that you would move up 1 spot for it.
I guess we're going to find out. I couldn't tell you. I mean, to me, this is one of those, like, is this like are you actually doing something to make your team better? Do you actually think that moving up 1 pick is going to change your franchise that much? Or is this, like, is there something behind this that's like.
And what does Carolina need? Everything?
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. This could.
So you want the 5th-year option on what? Like, what? It's just curious to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially if it's not going to be for a quarterback. I mean, and it shouldn't be, but like, what is it?
Think about it. Where are they? North Carolina, right? What's next to North Carolina? South Carolina.
Leggett.
Xavier Leggett.
Leggett's the pick.
Which is funny because they told him, hey, if you're here at 33, we're going to.
You know what's crazy is I wanted to say earlier that if I was a gambling man, I would have put my money on Leggett to go 32.
Do I hit the button?
Yeah, hit the button. They're taking Xavier Leggett.
If you're Bryce Young, do you want Leggett where you can throw a ball to a big target, or do you want someone so you just don't end up in the hospital? You know, like just getting smashed.
They did make a lot of additions on the offensive line in free agency, and like they also, this is interesting too because again, this talks about like wide receivers and the flavor of the ice cream, but also just like making a complete room. Because in my opinion, you get a true separator in Deontay Johnson. You trade from him for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Like, and I love that move because the one thing that the Panthers receivers could not do on the outside last year is get open. Jonathan Mingo, DJ Chark, not getting a lot of separation out there. Johnson's going to do that for you. Adam Thielen's still that like veteran presence in the slot. I think Leggett is a little bit of a tough evaluation because he did nothing for 4 years in college and truly explodes in his fifth season. Now he's not like he's certainly not the most refined route runner, but I think if you look at him, you can kind of either see one of two things. You could see an Alshon Jeffrey type of boundary X receiver where you're throwing those jump balls up because he has those contested skills. But I also think like a creative coaching staff, which I think Dave Canales is a pretty creative coach, can deploy him in the non-running back gimmicky Deebo Samuel type ways, crossing routes, get him against zone coverage, and I think that does kind of complete the room.
Matt, what you just said, his first 41 games, 42 catches.
This is what we talked about. Yeah.
42 catches in
It's
41
that
games.
one monster year.
And then 1 year, 71 catches, 1255. I remember in high school, South Carolina wasn't going to take him, and a roster spot opened. They took him. I mean, 4 years it looked like they shouldn't have, and then 1 year it just clicked.
And
was
he
it
had a
Rattler
lot
and
of
his
like
connection. I don't know.
He had a lot of personal stuff too. He was in like a motorcycle accident. He lost both of his parents, and then he had some injuries. So like you can sit there and say there were reasons, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that is a profile you will never see. Like 5 years, one school. And then that type of career junior, it's bizarre.
Can we acknowledge, though, at this point, the Bills have told us clearly you're right. They don't want a wide receiver because they traded out and let the Chiefs take one, and they traded out and they let the Carolina Panthers take one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know the talent on that roster. Kind of similarly to how I was, talking on the Patriots' behalf earlier. I played with these guys, and I know the confidence that Josh Allen has in guys like Khalil, Jimbo Cook out of the backfield. You know what I mean? Dalton Kincaid, who he's a tight end, but let's be honest, he's more of a hybrid receiver. Dawson Knox, he plays tight end. You can split him out. Like, they've got good options. And again, Josh Allen is going to get you 45 to 50 touchdowns a year. So I think that I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I was right. Let me pat myself on the back. But I mean, I didn't think that they needed a receiver, and I think that that's what the message they're sending.
All right, so as the draft wraps up, we've now had all 32 picks go through. I know that Harmon hates saying what he's thankful for, but maybe we could take a moment here and just get a little recap. So, like, one big thought from each of us on what we saw tonight. One move, one moment, one thing that stands out, one impression. It doesn't really matter. C-Rob, one thing that stands out to you from tonight.
Everyone's talking about Penix. Tonight, they're going to talk about it tomorrow. They're going to talk about it next week when people do the draft recap. Everyone's going to ask, how could this have happened? What is Atlanta doing here? What does the future look like for this guy, as well as Kirk Cousins? So to me, I'll just say I'll take the moment. That moment, I mean, even for us, to sit there and stare at my phone and go, I don't believe this. Like, there's no way of saying this out loud, because that will be look at this idiot saying this. This was the dumbest thing we heard today. And then it happened. That is the unpredictability. What did I pick at the beginning? I said the chaos, right? I wanted to see the chaos. Man, I did not see. That's like the moon slamming into the earth.
Harmon, one thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to a few of these teams really trying to set their quarterbacks up for success with wide receivers, right? Brian Thomas to Jacksonville. That was critical. I think that's something they need to complete that room and to help Trevor Lawrence take the step to the point where we're not having that conversation about, is he a $50 million quarterback? Like, we're not having a conversation because it's a clear-cut answer. This pick that we just saw was Xavier Leggett to Carolina. They don't want to leave any doubt about Bryce Young, right? They don't want to do what the last coaching staff did. By the way, the last coaching staff did spend a second-round pick on Jonathan Mingo, who's kind of like the poor man's version of Xavier Leggett, but that is just worth noting. And then, of course, all the way back at the top, you take Caleb Williams first overall, you take Rome Odunze, even though, oh, cool, we've got 2 starting receivers. We're never chasing weapons when we have our guy, and that is what the Bears, I think, now have.
Gorney, one big thing from tonight.
Yeah, I think my thing is no running back, no linebacker, no safety, and only 3 corners. So it was all linemen and all skill, which was kind of surprising because toward the end of the first, you kind of get those positional needs. Do I need a guard? Do I need a safety? Do I need that? They didn't mess around. They went for the skill and the linemen.
Damien.
No running backs. It hurts my heart. But, I can say this confidently. There's a lot of guys that provide a lot of value that are going to go in day 2. And like I said at the beginning, once the first team, takes their I don't want to say risk, but takes their chance on a running back, I know that that's a position where a lot of other teams will follow. It happened in my draft class. Remember, the first, Josh Jacobs was taken first. I think Miles Sanders was taken after that, and then there was a little bit of a lull. And then in the 3rd round, I think it might have been David Montgomery. Once he got drafted, then it was like Devin Singletary and myself, or, a bunch of other guys. So, even though there were no first-round running backs, I know there's a lot of talented guys that are going to go in day 2.
For me, if you look back at this draft, for the most part, obvious glaring exception being Michael Penix Jr., I think maybe we need to start realizing as we grade drafts and as we do these mock draft exercises, the league has more self-control than we give the league credit for having. Most of these teams tonight were very calculated, and most teams simply let the draft board come to them. We spent months speculating about trades and reaches and dumb picks and who would leverage what. And really, for the most part, we saw a best player available where people just let the board fall where it may, and they let a talented draft allow talent to get to the right teams. I thought it was a controlled draft overall.
Philly let their corner get to him. Mm-hmm. The Vikings pretty much let their quarterback get to him, right? I mean, I think the Rams were thinking about moving up, but in that 3-guy stack that they like, Turner, Verse, and Murphy, one of them got to him. They didn't have to move for it. You're right. I mean, there was definitely more restraint than maybe we thought there would be.